This boy defeated and tamed the most powerful dragon in the dungeons and even managed to rescue the princess. When he left, all the masters sensed his presence and went to the location, thinking the dragon had escaped from the dungeon, something that, if it happened, would mean the end of humanity. When they arrived, the boy got off the dragon and greeted them. The Lord asks if he really tamed the black dragon. The young man says yes, but the Lord still doubts it. So the boy asks the dragon to show its presence and the beast begins to roar. The Lord falls to his knees in disbelief because that is completely impossible, since that dragon is of the Radiant Moon class and the boy is very young. This makes them question just how strong this boy is. If you want to see how he managed to tame this dragon, follow me in this video. On the eve of the year 2076, a game suddenly became reality. Countless dangerous dungeons appeared, along with hordes of monsters that invaded the human world. Powerful creatures mercilessly massacring people and driving humanity to the brink of extinction. However, along with the destruction came the so-called divine talents, mysterious blessings granted to humans, allowing some to awaken as powerful hunters. Thanks to them, the world was saved from the clutches of the monsters, and from then on, a new order was established. The strong came to be revered, and the law of survival of the fittest became absolute. To maintain their positions, hunters needed to constantly grow stronger, seeking power and wealth. Formidable hunters invaded dungeons, defeated bosses, conquered treasures, and climbed the rankings, marking the beginning of the era of global hunters. Amid the bustling hunter's square, a young man walked disheartened. He sighed, regretting that he could have awakened a rare class but ended up with the most common of all, warrior. On his personal panel it read, Name, Su Yang, Profession, Warrior, Strength, 12, Speed, 10, Spirit, 10. He thought that in the early stages, warriors suffered greatly in close combat and died easily. Even with effort, their power could never compare to other classes, and in that world, being a warrior was practically synonymous with mediocrity. Suddenly, a group approached, and one of them began to mock him, saying he had heard that Yang awakened as the most useless warrior of all, something that suited him perfectly. Yang remained silent, recognizing the face of the provocateur. The purple-haired young man came closer, wrapping an arm around him mockingly and saying that a newly awakened warrior was just an ordinary human with a bit more strength. Since Yang was an orphan with no money or guidance, he wouldn't even be able to join a guild. It would be better for him to accept working as a laborer. Suddenly, the protagonist cracked his knuckles, startling everyone with the sharp sound. He asked where that fly had come from and with a smirk stared at the bully, recognizing him as Wang Fei, his classmate. He remarked that he'd heard Wang had awakened a rare class, Ice Mage, and congratulated him, but also reminded him that mages were extremely weak physically, especially right after awakening. In a provocative tone, he suggested testing that rumor to see if it was true. Enraged, Wang called his friends, shouting that the school's most useless warrior still had the nerve to act arrogant. Just as they were about to fight, someone shouted for them to look. Everyone turned in surprise. The attack team from the Spirit Hunt Guild was arriving. People whispered excitedly, saying how lucky they were to see them in person. Yang watched closely, recognizing one of the most powerful A-rank guilds in East Spirit City. A fourth-ranking hunter, a storm archer of level 95, advanced, asking everyone to clear the way as he was in a hurry. Yang was amazed. It was Zhao Ming, the vice president of the Spirit Hunt Guild, someone he'd only ever seen in commercials. Wang eagerly stepped forward, bumping into Yang before approaching Ming. He asked if they were recruiting, saying he admired the guild for a long time and wondered if he could join them. Before he could continue, a woman interrupted, saying that the person responsible for recruitment was downstairs and that they were just the attack team. However, Zhao Ming showed interest and asked what class he belonged to. Wang proudly replied that he was an Ice Mage, a rare class specializing in crowd control. The vice president smiled, praised his choice, and ordered someone to give him a guild card. Flattered, Wang thanked him, and the woman told him to go downstairs to make contact. Watching everything, Yang thought about how easily someone with a rare class could get attention, and wondered if he would ever have the same luck. Yet, while he pondered, other awakened individuals approached, asking if they could join too, saying they were archers and thieves. The guild woman, now annoyed, snapped that archers should look for the branch responsible and that they didn't have time to deal with thieves. She didn't want to waste another second on useless questions. Curious, Yang asked what she thought of warriors. She looked at him briefly, turned her face away, and simply ignored him. The protagonist felt the contempt and questioned whether this truly was the reality of his world, a place where only the strong were respected and where nothing but power mattered. The awakened classes determined each person's potential, and by awakening as a mere warrior, his fate seemed already sealed. Even the weakest guilds hesitated to accept warriors. So what could be expected from the elites like the mighty Spirit Hunt Guild? The two other young men who had also been rejected commented that they had always dreamed of joining a guild and becoming renowned hunters. But one of them, resigned, said it was better to forget about it. After all, they were just storm archers. The other, wearing a blue shirt, tried to stay optimistic and mentioned hearing rumors that the Spirit Hunt Guild would be raiding the Black Dragon's lair that very day. They were probably there to use the teleportation portal leading directly to the dungeon's entrance. Upon hearing that, Yang froze in shock. The Black Dragon's lair was the largest S-rank dungeon in City C, filled with lesser monsters but also elites and absurdly powerful creatures. Though death didn't mean immediate extinction in that world, it caused hunters to lose levels and experience, possibly dropping all the way to level 0, something devastating amid the fierce competition between guilds. Worse yet, losing rare equipment could be an even greater blow. The ruler of that place was the legendary level 99 Black Dragon, Athos, the Wings of Black Flames, a being so feared that even S-rank guilds had been annihilated before him. Still, the Spirit Hunt Guild was famous for having several hunters in their 4th evolution or higher and had never failed a single expedition, so perhaps they truly stood a chance. Yang felt small and out of place imagining those figures facing a legendary dragon while he was barely acknowledged as a warrior. It only reinforced the sense that this world belonged solely to the strong, and he wondered if he was destined to remain a failure forever, trampled underfoot by the powerful. Suddenly, something strange happened, and a glowing screen appeared before his eyes. A mechanical voice announced, "Perfect host detected. Part-time boss system will soon be bound." A dense energy began to gather in his chest, and Yang, confused, wondered what was happening, thinking this might be some kind of cheat. The voice continued, "Part-time boss system loading. The system requires the host to act as a dungeon boss, resisting players who challenge the instance. Upon eliminating a player, the host will share their experience and equipment drops. Would you like to activate the function?" Shocked, Young tried to understand the system wanted him to fight against players as a dungeon boss. Normally, a boss faced teams of 4, 8, or even 24 people, and in some cases, raids of 100 players. If he could defeat them, he would gain enormous amounts of experience and valuable items, rising from level 1 to transcendent levels in a short time. That meant even the weakest warrior could become incredibly powerful. But one thought worried him. What would happen if he lost? While he was still trying to process everything, the system changed again, displaying a new message. Host did not respond. Unlinking will begin shortly. Countdown initiated. Yang panicked, unable to believe what was happening, wondering if it could truly be real. He prepared to decide, realizing that even taking advantage of an opportunity carried risks. The counter began ticking down rapidly, his heart pounding. Rather than live as a failure, he would risk everything. He didn't want to spend his life being crushed under others' feet. When the counter reached 1 second, he made his decision, taking a deep breath and declaring mentally that this was the only path to become stronger. And if it meant working part-time as a dungeon boss, so be it. The moment he confirmed, the system's energy surged violently, and the mechanical voice announced, "Host has chosen part-time mode, system activated, teleportation in progress." Light enveloped him, and within seconds the ground vanished beneath his feet as he was completely swallowed by the portal. Yang muttered for the system to at least give him a powerful boss if this was for real. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself somewhere entirely different. The air was heavy, the ground cracked and covered in scales and molten rock. Looking around, trying to understand where he was, he whispered that the part-time job had really worked. In front of him, dozens of creatures stared, dragons ranging from level 80 to 95, all kneeling before him. He frowned, thinking they seemed far too small for what he knew about dragons. Then, a deep voice echoed, calling him Noble King and asking if he had awakened from his long slumber. Yang's eyes widened in confusion, his body trembling. King, Dragon King, that could only mean one thing. The system confirmed it with a glowing message congratulating the host for synchronization and stating that the current boss was the level 99 Black Dragon, Athos, the Wings of Black Flames. He froze, wondering if he had really become the Wings of Black Flames himself. Then a data panel appeared before him. Boss status, Black Dragon Athos, Young Stage, level 99, Race Dragon, HP 5 million, Attribute Shadow Strength 3210, Speed 1102, Spirit 1321, Talents, Draconic Lineage, immune to 80% of physical damage and 80% of magical damage, Black Flames of Destruction, innate mastery of fire at an incredibly powerful level, capable of unleashing destructive black flames that deal massive magic damage. Skills, Dragon Explosion, unleashes an extremely powerful detonation, dealing physical damage equal to 300% of strength. Dragon's Roar emits a deafening roar, stunning for 5 seconds all creatures within a 300-meter radius whose spirit is lower than the user's. Dragon's Eye allows viewing of any space within the instance, ignoring line-of-sight restrictions. Yang was stunned. If these were truly the stats of the Wings of Black Flames, then he was an absolute monster. A level 99 player in their 4th evolution could barely reach one of those attributes, yet Athos exceeded all of them, boasting over 3,000 points in strength. The most absurd thing was the talents. dual 80% immunity to both physical and magical damage, combined with an aura that reduced enemy attributes by 20%. That made him nearly invincible, not to mention the exclusive skills that made him an unstoppable force. An infinite power coursed through his body, every cell vibrating. The sensation was intoxicating. Driven by impulse, he let out a colossal roar, but immediately regretted it. The sound thundered across the lair, shaking the ground as all the dragons before him knelt instantly, suffocated by the overwhelming pressure. One trembling servant begged the king to calm his wrath. Yang looked around and realized that with a single roar, he had brought all his subordinates to their knees. He figured he must have accidentally activated Dragon's Roar, sighed in amazement at his own power, and ordered everyone to rise. Yang thinks that this must be what a real boss's tone sounds like. His humanoid servant starts trembling, saying there's no doubt that His Majesty is truly the king, and that even in his youth he already possesses such immense power that once he reaches maturity, crushing the human world will only be a matter of time. The protagonist is startled when he hears the word youth, and recalls that the information did mention this, but he wonders if dungeon bosses aren't supposed to remain fixed at their levels. However, the wings of black flames might be an exception, and could have truly leveled up. Suddenly, he hears a faint, strained breath beside him and sees an elf waking up. She asks what that cursed dragon is plotting and says that if he has any sense at all, he should release her immediately. Otherwise, the elven race will make sure he pays for it. Yang wonders if the elven race could be composed of NPCs from the instance. He starts toying with the cage and the elf screams, asking what he's doing. The protagonist thinks that, since the game became reality, several fantasy races have appeared, but this is the first time he's actually seen elves. Suddenly, both of them feel a powerful aura. Yang wonders if it's a spatial fluctuation and what could be happening. The elf sighs, smiles, and says that a player has finally come to rescue her, calling the dragon her doom. Yang steps closer and keeps staring at her. Startled, the elf asks why he's looking at her like that and thinks it's strange, since that dragon usually ignores insults, yet today he's reacting differently. Yang concludes that it must be the Spirit Hunt Guild, though he didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. He knows their strategies never fail, which makes him wonder if he's truly going to be defeated. Even as a powerful dragon, he knows they must have prepared carefully before showing up to challenge him. To be sure, he activates the dragon's eye, thinking he should use a skill to investigate first. Then he begins hearing voices telling everyone to stay sharp because their strategy cannot fail today. Finally, he locates them all. Li Dan, level 98, 4th evolution. Master of the Holy Light Shield. Qian Yuan, level 96, 4th evolution. Healing Paladin. Zhao Ming, level 95, 4th evolution. Storm Archer. Lei Shan, level 99, 4th evolution. Master of the Storm of Destruction. Yang realizes this is the Spirit Hunt Guild's main assault team. The group leader says that today they must invade the Black Dragon's lair and defeat him, and that reaching the 5th evolution will only be a matter of time. The team cheers, and Yang thinks they're truly confident. One of the members shouts a warning, telling the leader they've detected minor monsters ahead. 8 mid-level flying magic wolves with poison attributes. They're young wyverns, dragon race, levels 80, 89, and 81. The protagonist keeps watching, deciding to test the power of these small creatures first. Lei Shan steps forward, saying they can't waste time with low-level trash, ordering the tanks to hold the line while the others use fire attribute attacks and maximize their damage as quickly as possible. In seconds, they eliminate the first wave of monsters. The leader orders them to maintain formation and keep moving. Meanwhile, Yang observes and concludes that this truly is the Spirit Hunt Guild. In both firepower and discipline, they're top tier, and those monsters didn't even get to show their full strength. He looks at his subordinates and realizes what he must do. Since they're a professional team, it's time to raise the difficulty a little. Yang keeps watching as the guild members ask the leader how much progress they've made in the dungeon. He replies about 10% with supplies stable and no casualties, which he considers excellent. Suddenly, Yuan panics and shouts, asking what that thing falling from the sky is, shocked by the creature's attributes. Shan also looks confused, asking if it's an elite monster. The elite dragon warrior appears before them, announcing that intruders have been detected. Its data appears: HP 100,000, Earth attribute dragon race, Strength 1,211, Speed 823, Spirit 702, Talents, Dragon's Glory, which increases the power of all abilities by 10%, and Dragon's Prestige, which grants immunity to mental effects. The team leader yells for everyone to defend immediately, but the dragon warrior teleports right into the middle of the group. It charges forward with a roar, shouting for them to accept their end, but Dan steps up and raises his shield, declaring that he'll handle it. He activates the Divine Light Shield Barrier, becoming immune to any damage for 10 seconds, with a cooldown of 300 seconds. Ming starts coordinating the team, telling everyone to stay calm and ordering the ranged attackers to fall back while the melee fighters move forward. He commands them to align their buffs and combos and focus their fire. Then he fires a storm arrow, dealing massive wind attribute damage and hitting the dragon squarely. Yang watches closely and concludes that the dragon warrior is indeed powerful, but alone poses no real threat to the Spirit Hunt Guild. The elf, still trapped, says that for a moment she thought the dragon was plotting something, but now sees that he just sent underlings to die, calling him pathetic. The protagonist smirks and summons more minions, thinking that if one isn't enough, he just needs to increase the number. Several monsters begin falling in front of the guild, leaving everyone shocked and asking what's going on. Yang thinks that now he'll see how they handle 6 elites at once. The guild panics, saying they're all elite monsters and that 6 is too many. Ming, nervous, tells the leader they've never faced anything like this and asks what to do. Sean comments that the day is definitely strange, but quickly shouts that elite monsters aren't something to fear because the Spirit Hunt Guild doesn't mess around. He declares himself an expert in elites and says they can bring them all on. The battle resumes. The leader issues commands, yelling for everyone to reform their positions and prioritize healing the wounded. The tanks must maintain aggro and avoid facing the group directly. He orders them to protect the healers and for the healers to keep the tanks alive. Yang watches and admits that the group is truly resilient. At first, he thought elite monsters and surprise attacks would make them retreat, but they chose to fight to the end. The elf, impressed, remarks that those players are incredible and mocks the dragon, saying his strategies won't work and he should just accept his fate. The protagonist, however, keeps watching the guild, thinking that even with all that strength, it still isn't enough to defeat him like a true boss. After eliminating the 6 elite monsters, the guild continues moving forward, and Yang wonders if they still have another trick up their sleeve. Suddenly, he notices the group isn't heading toward him but in another direction, as if something important were hidden there. He looks in the same direction they're moving and sees the tomb of the Dragon Slayer, where a skeleton lies inside. Curious, he asks what that is, and the system displays an item called the Dragon Slayer's Heart, along with a mission stating that the item allows its bearer to ignore a dragon's innate talents. Yang begins to grow irritated, his dark aura leaking from his body, frightening his minions, who ask what's happening. The protagonist then understands. It's just like in online game strategies, where an almost invincible boss can be weakened through special mechanics or rare items. If the players manage to use that heart, they'll be able to ignore his talents, meaning there really is a chance they could defeat him. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind starts shaking the elf's cage, and she, surprised, comments that the players haven't even triggered the event yet, so there's no reason for the dragon to leave his lair early. The panicked servants shout that Lord Athos himself will take action, chanting a war cry and declaring that the king will triumph. Yang charges forward, determined, thinking that those players already knew about the item and that under no circumstances can he allow the Spirit Hunt Guild to get their hands on it. Meanwhile, the assault group advances cautiously. The leader comments that he didn't expect so many surprises so early in the dungeon, but that everything is still under control for now. Ming warns the guild master that the consumption of supplies and equipment durability are far higher than expected, and wonders if they might have been deceived by the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean firmly denies it, saying that the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion is a renowned and trustworthy strategy group, and that he personally exchanged this tactic using the Ring of the Universe with them, so it can't be fake. Yuen announces that they're nearing the Black Dragon's lair and asks if there's any chance a new event could trigger the boss. Sean assures them that it's impossible. The Black Dragon has only basic intelligence and won't leave the lair unless attacked. The guild leader declares that the Black Dragon is merely a stepping stone on his path and that after causing so much destruction, he'll finally reclaim everything. Yuen agrees, saying the dragon can belong to the leader, but he's had his eye on the elf for a while. If they complete the secret event of the Elven Maiden, they'll not only earn a pass to the Elven Kingdom, but also gain the Maiden's total obedience. He asks the leader if he knows what he's talking about. Sean replies that once they obtain the Dragon Slayer's heart, victory will be guaranteed, and Yuen will be free to do whatever he wants. Suddenly, they notice a shadow approaching and inform the leader that several scattered monsters are heading their way, winged creatures, seemingly small flying dragons. Sean frowns, saying that flying dragons are guardian monsters and shouldn't be outside the lair. Ming looks closer and shouts that something's wrong. That size isn't that of an ordinary flying dragon. Yuen is also stunned by the creature's massive form until the protagonist lands before them, towering and terrifying, making everyone scream in despair. It's the boss, the Wings of Black Flame. Sean freezes in disbelief, saying that it's impossible, wondering why the boss appeared so early. Ming becomes furious, shouting that the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion really tricked them. Yuen panics, asking what they should do now and whether they'll really have to fight, since without the Dragon Slayer's heart, there's no way to win. He insists they should retreat immediately, but the guild leader stays silent. Yang watches them with disdain, thinking how terrified they look at the idea of fighting without the Dragon Slayer's heart. So this is the so-called Mighty Spirit Hunt Guild? Maybe that's better. All he needs to do is wipe them out to level up. Yang prepares to attack, and the group comments that he's about to unleash his skills, but suddenly a lightning bolt strikes his head. dealing 2,999 damage, which barely dents his health bar. Sean starts releasing his own power, declaring that no one is allowed to retreat and that everyone must return to their positions. He asks if there's really anything the guild can't face, reminding them that they're not weak and that a mere beast is no reason to fear. Determined, he faces the dragon head-on and orders an all-out assault, promising generous rewards in gold, gear, and women to those who fight with everything they've got. His words ignite the group's spirits. They shout with excitement, saying they'll slay the dragon, grab the loot, and take the elves afterward, moving into position and preparing to strike. The protagonist closes his eyes, thinking those words only made them more confident, and that means he'll just have to kill them one by one. Sean gathers his energy and shouts for everyone to unleash maximum damage, attacking with full force. He orders Dan to activate the strongest defense barrier and hold aggro, while the healers focus on regenerating mana to sustain protection. Yuan must keep the Holy Light active, and the support classes must cast all single-target buffs on him and on Ming to maximize damage. According to the plan, they're close to the Dragon Slayer's tomb, and if they stick to the strategy, victory is certain. But before they can continue, the protagonist's tail sweeps through them, exploding between the group and sending everyone flying. The healer shouts for the team to regroup as quickly as possible, but the force of the blast keeps them apart. The protagonist warns that he won't give them a chance to prepare, and amid the smoke, a bright light begins to emerge, revealing Yang launching his abilities. The system announces that the triple sacred barrier has been activated, creating a powerful defense that will protect the shield bearer and his allies for about 3 minutes. The leader shouts that he didn't notice the dragon's attack and orders all survivors to take cover inside the barrier. The saint, with a faint smile, explains that the black dragon can use its tail strike only once and that the remaining attacks are area-based, instructing the group to stay close together to reduce damage and endure the assault. The system then reports a divine blessing that increases the power of Holy Light abilities by 30% for him and his allies. While defending, the leader thinks he hadn't expected to dodge so many attacks and commands the survivors to counterattack. The archer then asks everyone to channel their buffs into her and the guild leader. Yang thinks that was just a simple strike, something exclusive to his current form, and decides to keep his defense active just in case. Furious, Sean orders the second wave. Everyone attacks at once, and the resulting explosion is so powerful it can be seen from miles away. The leader yells for everyone to prepare for the next phase, saying they need to take at least 5% of the boss's health. But as the dust settles, he's horrified to see that all their combined attacks only dealt 10,000 damage. Yang watches with satisfaction, realizing they're poorly equipped and incapable of breaking through his defense. Ming tries to warn the leader, saying the dragon's damage reduction talent is insane, and they'll never inflict real injuries. Even so, Sean insists they stay focused, saying that as long as the dragon's health doesn't drop below 75%, it won't use any devastating skills. So everyone keeps attacking with hope, while Yang finds the whole thing irritating, like being bitten by a swarm of mosquitoes. Despite their failed strategy, the group keeps fighting desperately, and he decides it's time to end this once and for all. The protagonist takes flight, unleashes a deafening roar that paralyzes everyone, then exhales a colossal wave of fire that engulfs the battlefield. He mutters that it's over. Not even an A-rank guild can face him. Sean tries to stand, confused that the dragon already used its skills, and shouts for everyone to get up, saying the boss is always paralyzed after an attack and they can still win. But when he looks back, he sees all his comrades already lying on the ground, completely annihilated. As he turns toward the dungeon boss, Sean realizes the dragon is still moving and screams in terror, demanding to know why that damned beast isn't paralyzed after using its ability. The protagonist exhales a blast of black flame, striking the leader head-on, who screams that it's not over yet. However, the system appears, announcing that all intruders have been completely eliminated and congratulating the player, informing that experience conversion is now in progress. Yang feels a strange energy flowing through his body and wonders if this is the experience being absorbed. The system begins recording. You have eliminated Thunderbreaker Sean, level 99, gaining 198,763 experience points. You have eliminated Storm Archer Ming, level 95, gaining 186,123 experience points. You have eliminated Healing Paladin Yuan, level 94, gaining 171,633 experience points. You have eliminated Holy Light Defender Dan, level 93, gaining 162,321 experience points. Yang watches in disbelief as the experience bar keeps rising non-stop, almost overflowing from the massive accumulation. After a few moments, the system reports that the total accumulated experience is 990,000 points, advancing from level 1 to level 20 and reaching the limit before the first class transformation. Due to excess, 40% of the experience has been lost, and 430,000 points have been stored in the reservoir. Please complete the task as soon as possible, the system adds. On his personal panel, his stats update. Name, Su Yang, class, Warrior, untransformed. Level 20, Ascending Experience, 430,000. Strength, 12. Speed, 10. Spirit, 10. Unallocated attribute points, 200. Yang is stunned to see he still has Ascending Experience, meaning he can continue leveling rapidly once he changes class. If all goes well, he could reach level 40 and achieve the second transformation that same day. An absurd growth rate. He then looks ahead, wondering if he obtained any equipment, since a high-level guild like Spirit Hunt should have dropped incredible items, maybe even a rare gold tier one. Upon checking his inventory, the protagonist is shocked. Diamond tier weapon, Storm's Call longbow, diamond tier accessory, Spirit of the Wind's Call necklace, diamond tier armor, Cloudflow boots, platinum tier weapon, Ritual Remnant staff, and platinum tier weapon, Flame Sword. He can hardly believe he got 3 diamond tier items and several platinum ones. Recognizing the bow as the vice leader Ming's main weapon, he laughs, imagining the Spirit Hunt Guild seething with rage at that very moment. Even though he can't use the bow since he's a warrior, selling it at the auction house would earn billions. A massive profit. Checking the rest of the loot, he finds basic agility potions, intermediate strength potions, and skill scrolls like Baptism of Flames and Rock Barrier, feeling even more pleased. Smiling, he remarks that this is almost too good to be true, but the surprises continue. He finds a broken Limitless Gem, a special item that, when applied to equipment, completely removes level restrictions. Shocked, he shouts that it's insane. Using this gem, even a level 1 novice could equip a platinum tier weapon that normally requires level 61. The system displays the description, Flame Sword, platinum tier, a weapon of the flame giant. Its blade has claimed countless lives. The surrounding flames are as hot as lava, ready to devour any enemy before it. Restriction, level 79. Attributes, strength 320, spirit 150. Yang grips the sword tightly, saying that among all the platinum tier equipment, this one suits his warrior class best. With the Limitless Gem applied, even at level 20, he'll be able to wield it, and with that, nothing will be able to stop him. The system displays additional details. Flame Enchantment consumes mana to envelop the sword in fire, adding 40% of the strength attribute as flame damage to attacks. Flame Giant's Remnant consumes all mana to summon a flame giant for 10 minutes, with a cooldown of 24 hours. Soon after, another message appears, warning that the dual mission's timer is about to end, with a 5-minute countdown before distance reset. He can also choose to return immediately. Without hesitation, he decides to leave, eager to return and change his class. When he confirms his choice, the teleportation begins, and suddenly he reappears at home, surprised to find himself back in his own room since he expected to appear in the class change plaza. However, he quickly realizes how realistic the system is. He truly reached level 20, and none of it was a dream. He opens the system menu, saying it's time to allocate his points, deciding to put 100 into strength and 50 into spirit. Normally, warriors don't invest in spirit, but since he's bound to the system, he can't follow the standard path. Some of the scrolls he obtained require a minimum spirit stat to use, which could become a huge advantage later. After distributing the points, he suddenly feels something strange and wonders if this caused an aura burst, since he assigned them all at once, drastically increasing his power. When the surge settles, he notices he nearly destroyed his entire room and thinks that maybe next time he should hold back a little. Looking at the clock, he sees it's already late and decides to leave the class change for tomorrow, choosing to rest for the night. The next day at the Spirit Hunt Guild headquarters, people ask the leader why they returned so soon and whether they completed the dungeon. The woman from before freezes when she sees that her master's level has dropped, which can only mean the team was wiped out. She asks how it happened and whether they followed the strategy purchased from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean, who had been level 99 but dropped to 90, replies irritably that he doesn't want to hear that cursed name again, saying they were deceived. He curses the so-called strategy, shouting that he traded his Ring of the Universe for that worthless garbage and made a fool of himself. The woman, still in shock, notices the vice leader lying on a stretcher, now level 86, and screams in disbelief, asking what happened. Sean explains that his main weapon, a diamond tier item, exploded, leaving him badly injured and unconscious. Yuen, in tears, says he lost his diamond tier boots and didn't even manage to get the palace. The leader grows angrier by the second, seeing everyone devastated, and says that even an S-rank guild like the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion dared to sell a fake strategy. Enraged, he vows to confront them immediately, swearing he won't rest until he gets an explanation. Meanwhile, at Nanshan Orphanage, a child calls for the old man to come see something amazing. The elder walks over to a delivery man and asks if he's sure the delivery is correct. The worker confirms, saying the address is Nanshan Orphanage and the recipient's name is Su Yang. Surprised, the old man wonders how little Yang could possibly afford something like this. A cheerful girl runs around excitedly, and the old man tells her to be careful, but Xiao Tao keeps smiling and running everywhere, too excited to stop. One of the delivery men stumbles, and some boxes start falling, leaving the girl frozen in fear, but the protagonist appears just in time, catching them all with one hand and saving her. He smiles and says, "It's been a long time." Shocked, she screams that her big brother is back, and soon all the children at the orphanage run toward him, thrilled to see him after so long. Yang comments that seeing everyone so happy puts his heart at ease. The old man walks over smiling and says, "It seems he's become very strong," asking if he's already chosen a profession. The protagonist laughs and replies that he has. He changed classes yesterday and luckily made quite a bit of money. He recalls selling several items from the Spirit Hunt Guild with money flowing in non-stop. His bank balance now sits at 60 million. Still worried, the old man asks if he joined a dungeon raid group and tells him to be careful, reminding him that monsters are dangerous. Yang thinks to himself that in truth, he's the most dangerous monster inside those dungeons. The old man insists, saying that beginners who change professions can lose levels or even die if they're not cautious, so it might be better to wait. But Yang cuts him off, saying there's no need to worry since those monsters are very obedient and can't hurt him. He then mentions that he's heading to the temple to change professions again and needs to go. The old man looks confused, not understanding how monsters could be obedient, or how Yang could change professions again when he just awakened. At the class change hall, rumors have already spread. People whisper that the Spirit Hunt Guild was completely annihilated yesterday during their battle with the Black Dragon boss, and that even the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion's branch is now in trouble. They say something went wrong at the dungeon's conclusion, and that the Spirit Hunters went to the pavilion demanding answers. Another awakened player comments that he never imagined such a reliable raid group like the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion would make such a mistake. Yang walks in silence, thinking about how quickly news of the Spirit Hunt Guild's downfall spread and how the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion is being blamed, since they only faced the Black Dragon because of the purchased strategy. The pavilion, known for having many 5th-class experts, will certainly come to investigate what happened, and they might become his next enemies. He smiles, imagining that group must possess many valuable items, but first he has to make sure he can defeat them easily. Suddenly, Wang appears, shouting at him, demanding to know why he's there and why he keeps coming to the temple to change professions. Yang replies that he should be the one asking that question, but Wang and his group start laughing, saying they already know why. Apparently, no guild wanted to accept him, so he comes here every day trying his luck. Wang activates his ice abilities, saying that yesterday he didn't have time to teach him a lesson, but now he'll see where Yang can run. Yang looks at him calmly, thinking he's just like a noisy fly, and clearly needs to be swatted to learn some manners. Wang keeps bragging, saying that yesterday he let Yang go only because of guild business, but now he's joined a guild, distributed his attributes, learned new skills, and guarantees that this time he'll definitely win. However, before he can even finish his sentence, he's interrupted by a devastating punch to the face. The blow is so powerful that it sends him flying. The protagonist calmly remarks that he didn't mean to hit him. He just tried to save him from a fly that landed on his face. Wang crashes to the ground with only 5% of his health remaining, and his group rushes over in panic, trying to wake him and asking what happened. Still composed, Yang says he killed the fly on Wang's face, but apparently there are still a few more sitting on the faces of everyone there. Terrified, his companions immediately back away, insisting there's no need for him to worry, that they can handle it themselves before fleeing in pure panic. Suddenly, a woman begins clapping. She's a temple guide responsible for profession transitions and approaches him with a smile, praising him and saying he's truly impressive, asking if she can help him with anything. Yang says he wishes to perform a class transition. The woman nods and asks him to follow her. As they walk, she notes that he looks like a newly promoted novice, yet the strength and speed he displayed clearly put him at the level of a professional around level 20. She wonders if he's a descendant of a powerful family, but finds it odd that she's never heard of such a young talent. After a while, they arrive at the location and the guide points to a grand statue of the God of Transition, explaining that it will automatically detect his class and level, then assign him a transition mission which, once completed, will allow him to advance. Yang studies the statue's immense size, thinking it's truly impressive. The woman continues, saying that transition missions are divided into 4 levels, and based on his current state, she recommends accepting a 3-star one. Curious, he asks why not 4? The woman explains that 4-star missions are far more difficult, and though she doesn't mean to sound rude, his class, warrior, is relatively weaker, and these missions must be completed alone. She emphasizes that class transition is a once-in-a-lifetime challenge. If he fails a 4-star mission, he will never be able to advance again. Yang understands but still raises his hand toward the altar. The statue begins to glow and a voice announces, "Transition requirements detected. Profession, warrior. Level, 20. Requirements met. Initiating transition mission." Then the options appear before him. 1-star mission. Defeat 10 common level 20 boars. Reward, choose between assault warrior or defensive warrior. 2-star mission. Defeat 20 common level 20 furious monkeys. Reward, choose between assault warrior or defensive warrior and receive a first-class common grade warrior skill book. 3-star mission. Defeat 30 common level 20 Vanguard Goblins. Reward: choose between Assault Warrior or Defensive Warrior and receive a first-class high-grade warrior skill book. 4-star mission: defeat 50 common level 20 Wild Hounds and 20 elite level 20 Bloodthirsty Hounds. Reward: choose between Assault Warrior, Defensive Warrior, or Bloodthirsty Warlord and receive a first-class high-grade warrior skill book. But then something unexpected happens. A new option appears before him. A 5-star transition mission. Confused, the protagonist asks if it's real, if a 5-star mission actually exists. A description appears before his eyes. Location: Cold Moon Forest. 5-star transition mission. Objective: defeat 100 common level 20 Grey Wolves, 10 elite level 20 Wild Wolves, and 1 level 20 Grey Wolf boss. Rewards: unlock the special transition path. Magic Warrior, gain 100 additional spirit points and obtain an epic grade first-class Magic Warrior skill. Note: transition missions cannot be completed in teams or using gifted or traded equipment. Completing a 5-star mission grants the player certain temple privileges. Still confused, Young asks the guide why she said the missions only went up to 4 stars and why there's a 5th one, also wanting to know what those privileges are. The woman looks surprised but then smiles, saying that 5-star missions do exist, but their difficulty is so extreme that no one in the entire Hua Kingdom has accepted one in years. As for the privileges, only the temple's high priest knows what they are. She apologizes, explaining that the lack of information about this type of mission was a mistake. Then she adds that since the beginning of the era of transitions, the power cap of each nation has been determined by its transistors, and to prevent promising talents from being stuck at level 20 due to poor choices, both the temple and the government decided to make higher-level paths more accessible. Yang nods, saying he understands, though he thinks the 5-star mission is truly insane. Besides the number of monsters, he'll also have to defeat a boss alone, without any help or external equipment. He knows that if he fails, he'll be stuck forever in his first class. Even so, that bonus of 100 spirit points and the chance to become a magic warrior are far too tempting, not to mention the mysterious temple privilege. The woman, noticing his hesitation, tries to advise him, saying that while the 4-star mission may seem tempting, the 3-star one suits his profession much better and is much safer. Young smiles and thanks her for the advice, saying it was very helpful. She seems pleased, remarking that he's polite and that it's their duty to guide candidates properly. But suddenly she feels something strange. The system announces that the protagonist has accepted the 5-star transition mission. 5-star transition mission accepted. Duration: 72 hours. Location: Cold Moon Forest. A massive surge of energy bursts from Yang, illuminating the entire temple. Shocked, the woman asks why he accepted it, and he replies with a grin that, after a quick analysis, he found this mission the most suitable for him. She tries to argue, warning him about the danger, but he walks past her, cutting her off and saying, "There's no need to worry, he'll be back soon after completing the mission. And besides, he's curious to find out what those temple privileges really are." The guide trembles, speechless, whispering that someone actually dared to accept a 5-star mission, and that they need to notify the high priest immediately. Meanwhile, in East Spirit City, a message appears on the teleportation portal. Due to an energy fluctuation, portal activation will be slightly delayed. Please wait patiently. Yang reads the notice, a bit surprised, then smiles, saying there's no rush. After all, this extra time will be perfect for calmly planning his journey through the Cold Moon Forest. Suddenly, a refined woman walks by, complaining that small cities are always a hassle. Even teleportation matrices experience delays. She tells Xiao Qian to stay close and not wander off. The woman is Zhu Yan, a member of the B-rank guild Phantom Cloud, and the girl beside her is Gu Xiaoqian, Yang's classmate. Qian says she's fine, but when she glances to the side, her eyes widen, and she asks if the young man standing in line is Su Yang. Xu Yan immediately pulls her closer and asks if she knows him. Qian explains that he's her classmate and, like her, only changed professions yesterday. Xu Yan frowns, finding it strange, and comments that this portal leads directly to the Cold Moon Forest, an area full of monsters above level 20. What would a novice be doing going there? Just then, a voice announces that the teleportation portal has resumed normal operation and asks everyone to proceed in order. Worried, Qian wonders if Yang entered by mistake and, fearing something might happen, tries to warn him. But Xu Yan stops her, saying it's too late. He's already gone. Qian panics, calling out to him, but the portal closes before her eyes. Moments later, in the Cold Moon Forest, a region with a recommended level between 20 and 30, Su Yang materializes among the trees, surveying his surroundings and confirming that he's indeed in the right place. He notices there's no one nearby. It seems all the hunters have already scattered to start their hunt. Just as he's about to do the same, he's ambushed by a wolf from the side, but dodges easily. Looking at his attacker, he recognizes it as a common level 19 gray wolf, exactly the kind of creature mentioned in his mission. Yang thinks he didn't expect to find them so soon, but gets ready for battle. He knows that relying solely on himself without using items or traded equipment would make the fight tough. However, the sword in his hands is a platinum tier flame sword, and with a single strike, he cuts the monster down. Glancing at the blade, he comments that this drop had been expensive. Normally, at his level, he wouldn't even be able to use it, but thanks to a special gem obtained from the spirit hunters, he can equip high-tier weapons. During the refinement process, he broke several valuable gems, sold useless items, and made about 1 billion. Now, only 60 million remain. He laughs to himself, saying that if he sells that bow, the cost won't matter. Maybe Ming will buy it, which would make him a first-class fool. While reflecting, more wolves appear and charge at him. Even though they can't break through his shield, they keep attacking relentlessly. Yang sighs, amused by how stupid low-level monsters can be, not giving up even after taking such a beating. He then uses a silver-tier disposable scroll, Energized Barrier, whose effect creates a shield around the user capable of absorbing up to 50,000 points of damage. With the protection active, he advances and destroys all nearby enemies with ease, his sword slicing through the air wreathed in flames. When it's over, he gathers a few stones and observes the remains of the monsters, remarking that so far he's defeated every wolf that's come at him, but the annoying part is having to deal with them one by one. Checking his mission progress, he sees the update. Grey Wolf level 20, common, 15 100ths. He tosses the stones into the air, saying it's better if all the monsters come to him. The stones, dropped by a low-level boss, have the effect of attracting both common and elite monsters within a wide area. 5 minutes later, countless wolves surround him, and he comments with satisfaction that they've all finally arrived, praising the item's effect. Preparing for battle, he says that now all he needs to do is finish them off at once. He then takes out a special level disposable skill scroll called Baptism of Flame, a level 70 technique that deals area of effect fire damage to all nearby enemies. He also drinks an intermediate mental potion, which increases spirit by 150 points for 2 hours. Activating the scroll and drinking the potion, he unleashes Baptism of Flame, incinerating countless monsters, though many still remain around him. Watching the scene, Young mutters that there must be over 100 enemies now, and wonders if he really attracted every monster in the forest, declaring that if that's the case, he'll answer with the same intensity. In another part of the forest, a group of people was walking when one of them commented that something felt strange because that area was usually full of monsters, yet they had already walked 2 kilometers without finding any. Another young man said that not long ago he had encountered a monster, but it didn't even attack him, sigh. It just ran off in the opposite direction, and he couldn't understand why. The redhead agreed, saying that the monsters in that place were usually aggressive, and asked since when they started running away upon seeing someone. After hearing all these stories, the man leading the group said he already knew what was happening. Someone must have used a monster attraction stone, drawing all the creatures toward themselves. Annoyed, he complained that some shameless guy was taking all the loot alone, and said that was a huge jerk move. He stormed off, saying he was going to teach that kid a lesson, because eating all the monsters alone wasn't fair since he wasn't the only one with a quest in the area. His companions agreed, saying they needed to demand an explanation because using a monster attraction stone in an open area was total disrespect. As they followed the direction where the creatures had fled, a massive explosion erupted. The 3 of them were shocked, and the blonde commented that a magical fluctuation of that level could only be caused by a level 30 mage. The redhead asked what kind of lunatic would farm materials in a low-level area and still managed to clear the entire Cold Moon jungle alone. The leader, sweating nervously, said he had just remembered an important appointment at home and needed to leave. The blonde agreed, claiming he also had something urgent to do, and the redhead suggested maybe they should come back later to finish the quest. Meanwhile, the protagonist remarked that the hard part was already done and only the boss was left. He had already eliminated 100 level 20 Grey Wolves and 20 elite level 20 Furious Wolves, leaving only the Alpha Wolf King. Walking calmly, he thought that this 5-star class change quest was actually quite easy, even if he had cheated a little. After a few more minutes, he arrived at the boss's lair, the Cold Moon Cave. The Alpha Wolf King was a creature recommended for groups of 3 or more level 20 players. Nearby, a trio was observing the cave entrance. Zhang, a level 22 mage, Li San, a level 21 tank warrior, and Zhao Wu, a level 21 forest archer. Zhang commented that they had finally arrived and asked if his teammates were ready. The warrior told him to relax, saying he had bought a basic strength potion and could hold the front line firmly. The archer noted that he had just changed class and hadn't even tested his new abilities yet, so he didn't know how strong he was. Zhang explained that the Alpha Wolf King should drop the Alpha Crystal Core, an item needed to forge his silver staff which would serve him until level 40. He ordered Li San to hold the aggro while he and Zhao Wu attacked from behind, entering as soon as the tank gave the signal. The archer asked them to wait because someone was approaching. The warrior asked if that guy had come to steal their loot, but the mage replied that he just looked like a lost student. The warrior suggested warning the kid about the danger, but Zhang slapped him on the head and asked if he was an idiot, explaining that the kid was walking straight into being their bait. Once he took the boss's first blast, they would swoop in and claim the reward effortlessly. The warrior praised him, saying his older brother was a true genius. Suddenly, the ground began to shake and they wondered if it was an earthquake. Meanwhile, the protagonist kept walking forward calmly, unfazed. The boss then appeared before him, but the aura surrounding it was completely different, something colossal and terrifying. Because of the large number of wolves killed in the Cold Moon Jungle, the Alpha Wolf King had gone into a frenzy. The system announced that the Alpha Wolf King boss had entered a rage state and that all its attributes had increased by 30%. Lee San complained, saying it didn't make sense for the boss to get angry out of nowhere, and asked if they were really going to fight that thing since he was starting to feel scared. Zhang, however, stood up and began walking toward the boss, saying he didn't care because if they ran away now, all their waiting time would be wasted. He said that if they missed this chance, they might never defeat that boss again. So, as soon as that kid died, Lee San should immediately take the front line. In the middle of his speech, a deafening sound echoed, cutting him off. The protagonist had struck a single blow and instantly defeated the boss. The system announced that the Alpha Wolf King had been defeated and that he gained 30,000 experience points. Quest complete, Hill level 20, Boss Alpha Wolf King, 1 of 1. All tasks for the 5-star class change quest were completed, and he now needed to return to the transfer sanctuary to finalize the advancement. Yang looked around and commented that it was way too easy. When the items began appearing, he remarked that everything there was worthless junk and that he would just sell it straight to the shop. Then he received a notification saying that the Grey Wolf King's crystal core contained beast magic energy and could be used to enhance silver-grade weapons. Laughing, he commented that the quest had been way too easy and decided to head back. At that moment, Zhang approached, called him boss, and asked if, in case Yang didn't want the Wolf King's crystal core, he could keep it. The protagonist calmly turned around, planted his sword in the ground in front of the mage, and asked who had said they were going to use him as bait. Zhang panicked and shouted that it wasn't him, insisting he would never think of such a thing. Yang then crushed the magic crystal in his hand and replied that if he wanted the item so badly, he could go pick it up himself. As Yang walked away, Zhang collapsed to the ground in relief, laughing nervously and saying that had scared him to death. Thank goodness he hadn't done anything yet. The archer, still in shock, asked if that was real and if such power could actually exist, while the pale-faced warrior said it was absurd. The protagonist had defeated the boss with a single strike. They were left wondering who that guy really was. Sometime later at the temple, a receptionist commented that he was back too soon and asked if there was any question. Yang replied that he had completed the quest and was ready for his advancement. Surprised, she asked him to wait a moment while she called the person in charge. When the same woman from before arrived and saw him, she was completely astonished and asked if he had really completed a 5-star advancement quest. Yang simply confirmed, and she, confused, began checking the system, murmuring that he had accepted the quest that morning and that only a few hours had passed. It seemed impossible. After verifying everything, she still hesitated, saying that completing a 5-star advancement quest in a single day was unbelievable, even suspecting cheating for a moment. But the system found nothing, which meant he had done it all alone without taking a single scratch. Noticing her silence, Yang asked if he could begin the advancement. The woman snapped out of her thoughts, apologized for her rudeness, and invited him to follow her. As they walked, she thought she'd done the right thing by informing the high priest, since a talent like his couldn't be wasted. She also looked him over more carefully and thought he was quite handsome, wondering if she could get his contact later. When they reached the statue chamber, she asked him to step forward, explaining that the statue would automatically verify the quest. As soon as he approached, several lights and streams of energy began flowing toward him. The system announced that it was verifying the class advancement quest. After a few seconds, it confirmed that all stages had been successfully completed and the quest approved. All the surrounding energy gathered and was absorbed into the protagonist's body, entering directly through his chest. Surprised, he remarked that this energy was far too powerful to be something ordinary. Soon, an intense aura flared around him. The Class Advancement Aura, a special reward for those who completed advancement quests. Its color and bonus varied by difficulty. A white aura granted 2% to all attributes, green 4%, blue 6%, purple 10%. And finally, the legendary orange aura, exclusive to 5-star quests, gave an astonishing 25% bonus to all attributes. The system announced, player Su Yang has advanced to the Class Magic Warrior. 5-star advancement quest completed. Orange aura activated. Attribute bonus plus 25%. The Magic Warrior class combined close quarters combat with extremely powerful spells, and because of his accumulated excess points, Su Yang began leveling up rapidly. The system kept notifying. First advancement completed. Level cap increased to 40. Experience detected. 44,600 points. Level increased to 34. 210 attribute points available. Without hesitation, he distributed the points. 90 to strength, 90 to spirit, and 30 to speed, feeling his power surge with each moment. He thought to himself that jumping straight to level 34 with the orange aura and the flaming sword's bonus had made him absurdly above average. When he checked his panel, the numbers were impressive. Su Yang, level 34, first advancement class. Magic Warrior. Strength, 569. Base 230 plus equipment, 339. Speed, 123, base 105 plus equipment, 18. Spirit, 339. Base 165 plus equipment, 174. The system also granted a special reward, an epic skill book for magic warriors. New skill acquired, Magic Blade, condenses magical energy into a weapon, increasing total damage proportionally to strength and spirit attributes. Young decided to test it right there, and the moment he activated the spell, magical pressure filled the entire room. He looked at the glowing blade with excitement and commented that the skill was incredible. Completely controllable by thought, capable of changing shape and adaptable to any type of combat. Moreover, it evolved along with him, like a legendary weapon that would never become obsolete. Simply perfect. Satisfied, he thought that the 5-star advancement quest had been worth every second, as the rewards were far superior to any other, and he promised himself he would keep taking quests of that level. The woman beside him congratulated him, saying his name would be engraved on the temple monument and that from now on, he was a VIP guest of the class advancement temple. Curious, Yang asked what benefits a VIP would get. She told him to wait a moment while she checked, but before she could, a soft voice echoed through the hall saying there was no need. A beautiful woman with an imposing presence entered and greeted them both. She introduced herself as Bai Ling, senior priestess of the class advancement temple of East Spirit City. The receptionist bowed nervously and asked why the senior priestess had come in person. Bai Ling smiled and replied that such an important guest deserved to be received by her personally, politely asking the attendant to leave. Su Yang watched the scene, recalling that a senior priestess was practically the temple's highest authority, which left him wondering why someone of her level would come just to receive him. Meanwhile, the first woman kept a calm expression, but inside she was devastated, regretting not getting the handsome man's contact before being dismissed. The senior priestess stepped closer and said that wasn't the best place to talk, asking the protagonist to relax because she would take him to the VIP room, where they could speak more comfortably. As soon as they joined hands and the chant was recited, transportation occurred, and in an instant they appeared inside a spacious VIP hall. Yang was astonished, wondering if that was real spatial teleportation. For a third-class priestess to master such an advanced technique, the temple's power must be unimaginable. Ling, however, explained that it wasn't quite like that since she could only use a portion of the temple statue's power. On the other hand, she said what truly surprised her was the protagonist himself, because according to the records, there had never been a 5-star class advancement in East Spirit City, and even in Heavenly Spirit City, it's so a much more advanced city. The last case had occurred over 10 years ago. Yang was shocked to realize that Heavenly Spirit City was a higher level, far more developed city, and if even there a 5-star advancement was that rare, the value of what he had just achieved was far greater than he imagined. The priestess then explained that according to temple rules, whoever completes a 5-star class advancement for the first time receives great benefits. First, a monthly salary of 10 million in the national currency. Second, a black gold identity certification from the X-Union, granting 80% discounts on purchases and transactions. Hearing that, Yang was stunned. Being a temple VIP was unbelievably good. He didn't even care much about the salary. The black gold certification alone was worth a fortune. If he spent 100 million, he'd save 80 million, so the 10 million per month didn't even compare to that. He wondered if the temple really granted all that at once. Such generosity seemed unreal. Ling went on to explain that both the salary and certification had already been automatically linked to the protagonist's ID by the temple statue, so he didn't need to do anything. Furthermore, he could choose to join any rank A guild in the city. Yang asked if joining a guild was mandatory, and the priestess replied, not exactly, but reminded him that individual abilities have limits, while joining a guild provided experience bonuses, various advantages, and, most importantly, protection, which was usually the wiser choice. She then asked what he thought. The protagonist reflected that it made sense since solo players were always easy targets, especially someone like him who leveled up so fast. His strength was already enough to crush any player of the same level, but encountering someone much stronger could be dangerous. Having a guild support wasn't a bad idea. In truth, his goal went far beyond that city. Joining a guild would just be the first step, as what he truly wanted was to use it as a springboard to build his own power and one day become a king who ruled the entire region. After thinking for a moment, he asked which guilds were available. Ling replied that there were currently 2 rank A guilds in East Spirit City, and considering several factors, she believed the best choice for him would be the Spirit Hunters Guild. Hearing that, Yang realized it was the very same guild he had just destroyed and asked if there wasn't another option. The priestess then mentioned the Phantom Cloud Guild, rivals of the Spirit Hunters, which also had considerable strength, though it was much more discreet. Without hesitation, he said he would choose the Phantom Cloud Guild. The priestess was momentarily confused but quickly understood and said she would immediately arrange his admission into the Phantom Cloud Guild. However, before that, there was something he needed to know. The Phantom Cloud Guild was composed entirely of women. Meanwhile, in East Spirit City, inside the headquarters of the Phantom Cloud Guild, a girl was lying down reading a book, complaining about how boring everything was, and that there was nothing interesting to do. That was Lin Yu, level 85, former leader of the B-rank Phantom Cloud Guild. Another woman sitting at a nearby table commented that Yu wasn't even part of the guild anymore and yet showed up every day to slack off, and still had the nerve to complain. That was Lin Yu, level 99, current leader of the now A-rank Phantom Cloud Guild. Yu replied that guild matters were too much of a hassle and she didn't have the patience to deal with them. At that moment, Shu Yan suddenly burst into the room saying that even so, Yu couldn't just disappear without notice, and reminding her she should at least greet the new members. Shortly after, Qian entered and greeted them both, introducing herself as Gu Shui Qian, an ice elementalist. Yu studied her carefully and remarked that she was quite cute, saying she was approved. Suddenly, a notification appeared for Yu. When she opened it, she looked utterly horrified. Yu asked what had happened, and Yu replied that a man had just joined the guild out of nowhere. She explained that the place was in chaos, with everyone talking about the unexpected entry, and even after she asked around, no one could explain what had happened. Yu scoffed, saying the guild had a rule to accept only women, and asked if there had been some mistake. Yu shook her head and said the new member had been assigned directly by the temple. He had completed a 5-star advancement quest and earned VIP status, granting him the right to choose any rank A guild, so she couldn't refuse. Qian was amazed, saying it was unbelievable for someone to achieve something so difficult. Yu became excited too, saying that person must be truly incredible. Shu Yan still looked doubtful, asking why that guy hadn't chosen the spirit hunters instead. Yu replied that she didn't understand either, but decided to put it aside for now, saying she would schedule a meeting with him soon, and if he caused trouble, they would find a way to kick him out. Qian was surprised upon hearing the name Su Yang, and Yu asked if they knew each other, since the newcomer was also from Dongling City. Qian confirmed that she had a friend with that name, but said he had just awakened yesterday and should still be level 1 like her. Yu concluded it must just be a coincidence of names. At that moment, another woman rushed into the room, informing the guildmaster that she had just received confirmed news. The Spirit Hunters Guild had been completely wiped out in the Black Dragon dungeon. She said she didn't know what they had been plotting, but the fact was that they were annihilated. That was Murong Shui, level 95, a member of the Phantom Cloud Guild. Yu was shocked and said that if the Spirit Hunters had been destroyed, they needed to revise their entire strategy for the Giant Forest raid. Murong added that she had heard Ming's weapon exploded and that she saw an item called Call of the Storm being auctioned at the trading house, with only one bid active in East Spirit City, probably from one of the Spirit Hunters. She told the guildmaster to guess what she did. Yu laughed and asked if she had raised the price. Murong confirmed proudly, saying she joined the auction and drove the price sky high, surpassing 10 billion and causing the Spirit Hunters massive losses. Yu burst into laughter too, praising her and saying she did great. Meanwhile, Ming sneezed and, with tears in his eyes, swore that the Black Dragon and the Ice Witch had become his mortal enemies. Shan lamented that the seller wasn't responding to private messages, and that 14 billion had been a devastating blow to the guild's finances. Yuan concluded that the news about Ming's weapon exploding had probably already spread and that the malicious auction was clearly a premeditated trap. The guild leader kicked Ming, ordering him to get up and asking how long he planned to keep hiding, since they had already retrieved the gear and it was time to get back to work. They then headed together toward the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. As soon as the meeting began, the pavilion leader, Zhou Tai, asked if they were seriously claiming the strategy was wrong, calling it a joke. He stated that they had cleared the Black Dragon's lair at least 5 times and had built the strategy in detail based on that experience, leaving no room for mistakes. Zhou Tai asked if they were sure they had followed everything exactly as instructed. Zhou Tai was a bloodthirsty warrior, level 110, 5th transformation, and the head of the strategy group of the Exploration Guild Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean replied firmly that he was absolutely certain they had followed the pavilion strategy, but the Black Dragon boss's behavior had been completely different from expected. He emphasized that he wasn't questioning Zhou Tai's experience, but guaranteed everything he said was true, asking if Zhou Tai really thought he'd sacrifice his entire guild's main force just to deceive them, which would be absurd. A man playing with a knife interrupted, mocking them, saying the Spirit Hunters were a bunch of useless weaklings who'd been handed the strategy on a silver platter, yet still got wiped out by a level 99 boss. He laughed, asking what use was a pile of trash like them and who gave them the courage to cling to his group. That man was Lu Ci, a shadow assassin, level 103, 5th transformation. Sean tried to remain respectful and asked him to mind his words, but Liu Ci kept provoking, saying that if they were weak, they should just train harder, and if they couldn't handle losing, they shouldn't be playing. Zhou Tai then scolded him harshly, ordering him to shut up, reminding everyone that the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion Guild had always valued integrity and never sold false information. He declared that he would personally organize a new expedition into the Black Dragon's lair, and if the strategy truly had flaws, the pavilion would fully compensate the Spirit Hunter's losses. However, if the strategy proved correct, it would mean Sean made a mistake, and then the problem would be entirely his. Zhou Tai asked if those terms were acceptable. Sean thanked him and agreed. Zhou Tai concluded by saying that the next day, the four of them would take Sean to investigate the dungeon and asked if anyone had objections. Zhang Kexin, a holy healer of the 5th transformation, level 108, said there was no problem. Zhuang Zhen, a barrier master of the 5th transformation, level 104, also agreed. Liu Ci merely muttered that it was fine. Suddenly, a murderous aura filled the room and a black mist spread out. The Spirit Hunters members stood up, ready to fight, and their leader demanded to know who that man was. Zhou Tai, however, remained calm and told them not to panic, saying that it was Lord Chen Lun. The Spirit Hunters' leader was stunned and asked if he was one of the big names from headquarters. Chen Lun, a necromancer of the 5th transformation, level 115, from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion, looked at Zhou Tai and asked if he had forgotten to inform him whenever planning an expedition into the Black Dragon's lair. Zhou Tai immediately bowed and apologized, explaining that it was only a reconnaissance mission and they hadn't meant to bother him. Chen Lun said it was fine, told him not to explain, and announced that he would join them the next day. Then he began acting strangely, his eyes empty and his smile twisted, muttering that souls were delicious, that with every harvest his treasure grew stronger, and that even killing thousands of times would never be enough. He then raised his hand, chuckling softly, and said for his dear black dragon to wait for him, so that once again it could be reaped. Zhou Tai thought to himself that he really couldn't stand that creepy old man, while Shan felt a bit of relief. With 5 5th transformation professionals and even a specialist from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion headquarters, a team of that caliber could crush a 4th-ranked dungeon with ease. They were practically guaranteed to succeed. In fact, if they managed to slay the Black Dragon, that would be great. But if they were wiped out by it, that would be even better. Whether the strategy was legitimate or not, that arrogant team of tacticians needed to pay a heavy price. What he truly wanted was for them to die together with the Black Dragon. Later that night, lying in his room, the protagonist browsed through the guild chat and couldn't help but laugh. It really lived up to being an all-female guild, as the channel never stopped updating, and most of the messages were about him. Thankfully, he had muted it quickly, otherwise he would have died of boredom already. Suddenly, he received a notification informing him that a new bid had been placed on the diamond-grade weapon, Call of the Storm, which he had listed at the auction house. Curious to see who was bidding, he opened the history and was surprised to find 2 players had been competing for more than 10 pages. The latest bid was from Noble Elf, at 14 billion and 30 million. The system warned that the value exceeded the maximum average price by 40% and asked if he wished to confirm the sale. Without hesitation, he clicked yes and silently thanked the unknown ice witch for helping drive the price up. Moments later, he received confirmation that the transaction had been completed successfully. Because he was a distinguished member of the X-Union Black Gold, all transaction fees were waived, and he even received a 5% bonus on the final amount. His balance was updated to 15,515 million, and he was astonished to realize that the tax exemption plus the bonus meant an extra 10% profit. He had just earned over $1 billion more. The feeling was exhilarating, exactly the kind of privilege a distinguished member deserved. Closing his eyes, he muttered that he'd take a short rest, already looking forward to his next part-time shift the next day. That feeling of crushing the weak was addictive, and after tasting that pleasure, who would ever want to go back to grinding monsters the old way? At 7 in the morning, the alarm went off, and with it came a new notification saying that the cooldown for his part-time job had ended. A group was now challenging the dungeon, 5 members from an exploration team and 1 from a ranked guild, the Lingen. The system asked if he wanted to establish connection. As he stood up, he saw it was the famous exploration team known as the Dungeon Slayers, who had already conquered several dungeons and created strategies for each one. The guild included many 5th transformation professionals above level 100, so this sudden visit was likely related to the Spirit Hunters massacre. Yang smiled confidently, thinking that if they brought only 6 people, they must be overly confident in their abilities, which meant he wouldn't go easy on them. He confirmed the connection, and the system announced that it was successful. Transforming into the Black Dragon, he thought it was time to start his second part-time shift. As soon as the transformation was complete, he reflected that the subordinate monsters that had died earlier had also respawned, but nothing particularly strange occurred. After all, this was the Black Dragon's lair, merely a diamond-grade secret realm that could be reset like a game. only star-grade or higher secret realms couldn't be explored more than once. He looked toward the imprisoned elf, who asked what he was plotting this time. From the Black Dragon's perspective, he thought she looked more like a cute little pet than a prisoner. Still, he grew curious about how that elf girl had been captured, since when he wasn't connected, the Black Dragon was supposed to act strictly according to the preset rules. Even so, he decided to check the composition of the invading party. Seeing the full team, he commented that it was as expected, 5 fifth transformation professionals, including Shan from the Spirit Hunters, which meant they had come to clean up last time's mess. The exploration team's coordination was impressive. He concluded their formation was far superior to the previous one, but as long as they didn't touch the Dragon Slayer's heart, they wouldn't be a real problem. Still, to be safe, he wanted to test the team's strengths and weaknesses. You could never underestimate 5th transformation professionals. He turned to his subordinates and ordered them to take the lesser soldiers outside and deal with the invaders, leaving only one behind. The enemy group began discussing among themselves, saying they had reached this far without encountering any irregularities, and that the strategy data had been verified, wondering if the Spirit Hunters had actually lied. The Shadow Assassin said it was more likely they had made mistakes and were now looking for excuses. Kexen urged them not to let their guard down and to maintain the barrier while calmly preparing for the boss fight. Liu Ci suddenly felt uneasy and asked what was happening, as a thick cloud of dust began rising and a powerful killing intent was detected. Shocked, they realized a horde of monsters had appeared. The creatures shouted that no intruder would be left alive and that they must attack immediately. Shan snapped his fingers and said that it was exactly like last time, but this time, there were even more monsters. Zhou Tai commented that while unexpected, that level of threat wasn't enough to endanger the exploration team. Liu Ci rushed forward, saying they needed to activate the battle formation. He would draw the elite monsters' attention while the others wiped out the smaller ones, and once that was done, they could focus entirely on the bosses. He unleashed his skill Shadow Rend, Jen activated Mountain Barrier, Zhou Tai struck with Violent Slash, and the healer cast Blessing of Holy Light. With that, they wiped out the horde effortlessly. The leader stated they'd lost a few minutes and needed to keep moving. Watching everything, the protagonist admitted that they truly lived up to being 5th transformation specialists. Their power looked like that of immortals strolling through the mortal world. And that mysterious mage hadn't even moved yet, meaning he was definitely no ordinary opponent. It seemed he'd have to step in personally. As he began to take flight, his army cheered, shouting that Lord Athos was about to act again. But he frowned, wondering why they'd said again. Another soldier commented that he'd never seen Lord Athos take the initiative before, yet the scene felt strangely familiar. The elf, watching, asked what was going on since he was acting ahead of this prediction. She questioned what was wrong with the Black Dragon. When she was captured, he hadn't behaved like this. While the group advanced, Shan remarked that the elite team under the Celestial Pavilion's command was truly impressive, and that, for the first time, he could witness the might of a real exploration squad, but admitted the situation wasn't in the recorded strategy. Zhou Tai agreed, saying everything looked different and promising to investigate once they finished the dungeon. The necromancer mocked them, saying they couldn't even handle trash mobs, yet still called themselves a guild that never loses. What a joke. While collecting the corpses, he muttered with satisfaction that he'd just added another batch of fresh dragon bodies to his collection. Shan defended himself, telling Master Chen that even if his guild's strength seemed insignificant to the necromancer, there were still flaws in the strategy. As the Celestial Pavilion's leader, he should be more objective. Suddenly, Chen burst out laughing like a madman, saying the Spirit Hunter's leader was just a brat and yet dared to question him, and that if he kept talking, he might end up as another piece in his collection. Shan froze in terror, but Zhou Tai quickly intervened, asking the master not to joke like that, since he was scaring the clients and suggesting they calm down. Shan exhaled in relief, thinking it was over, while Zhou Tai silently cursed that perverted old man for acting recklessly. If he actually killed that guy, they'd lose future contracts. Even so, Shan, still fuming, thought those arrogant bastards had better enjoy their pride while it lasted. He wanted to see if they'd still be laughing after meeting the Black Dragon. Suddenly, darkness swallowed the entire area. He looked up horrified and fell to the ground, stammering that it was really him. Zhou Tai shouted in disbelief, asking why the boss had appeared earlier than expected and how it was even possible. Jen questioned if there had been some mistake. Now it was clear the Spirit Hunters hadn't lied. The leader barked for everyone to form the battle formation immediately. Jen was to maintain the barrier, Liu Ci needed to be ready to transform at any moment, and the healers were to prioritize the Shadow Assassin, keeping his HP at 30%. After the orders, he activated Frenzied Bloodsong, and the system announced that the Berserker talent increased all attributes when HP dropped below 30%, also reducing incoming damage. The team began their assault, but the protagonist merely watched, curious to see what they could do. Blows rained down, each dealing between 12 and 16,000 damage. The team muttered that the numbers seemed off, but Yang thought that was expected. Even 5th transformation professionals couldn't inflict much damage thanks to the Black Dragon's innate damage reduction traits. Joe Tai explained that the boss also had multiple resistance buffs and told everyone to keep attacking. The protagonist countered, but the Shadow Assassin managed to predict the strike. Yang watched him intently, wondering if he could also anticipate the next move. Suddenly, the two in the back shouted that the boss had switched targets and was charging toward them. He used Dragon Rush, but the leader quickly intercepted and shielded them. Yang thought it was a waste. He'd had the perfect chance to eliminate the weakest ones. Taking advantage of the moment, Liu Ci dashed behind the boss, declaring that all his weaknesses were exposed and that he'd now taste his blade. Entering shadow form, his speed and critical rate skyrocketed, empowering all his skills with the shadow attribute. The assassin launched his strongest technique, Shadow Thrust, shouting for the boss to die. Yet the damage only ranged between 11 and 13,000. Enraged, he screamed that this execution-type skill could bring down lesser star-rank dungeon bosses with millions of HP. So how could it deal so little to a diamond-rank dungeon boss? Was the dragon's damage reduction really that ridiculous? Yang lunged forward, saying it was his turn to expose their weaknesses and send them straight to hell, slashing the assassin down to a mere 1% of his health. The protagonist thought he was insanely lucky to have survived by a thread, but wondered how many times that guy thought he'd get that lucky again. The team gathered around the fallen assassin, and Jen muttered that it was close. He had survived with almost no HP left and still managed to protect him. He yelled for Kexen to heal him immediately, but before she could act, his eyes widened in disbelief as the boss began using that skill. He couldn't believe it. They were about to be hit by Annihilation Breath. Joe Tai frowned, confused, asking if that wasn't the boss's ultimate transition ability, one that should only trigger when its HP dropped below 70%. So why was it activating at the very start of the battle? Flames engulfed the battlefield, and Yang realized they were still alive. But that attack should have been the Barrier Master's last defensive resort. The next strike, powered by Annihilation Breath, would be enough to wipe them out completely. The team argued among themselves while the Necromancer questioned why the boss wasn't following its normal pattern. Joe Tai replied that it seemed the boss had developed intelligence, understanding tactics and exploiting weaknesses. The others snapped at him to stop joking around, insisting that a diamond-ranked dungeon boss's behavior pattern should be fixed. So how had it suddenly become that smart? The Barrier Master's ultimate skill reduced damage taken by allies inside the sanctuary by 90% and automatically regenerated their HP for 10 seconds, with a cooldown of 360 seconds. The Necromancer took to the air, furious, saying his team was full of useless weaklings. As usual, he'd have to handle everything himself. He unleashed his power, chanting, "From the endless depths of the underworld, awaken, ancient soul, heed my will, obey my command, use your majesty and power to bring destruction upon this world. Arise, Bone Dragon Malthus." A massive surge of energy erupted as a colossal skeletal dragon materialized. The protagonist watched the creature in awe, wondering if that man was truly a necromancer. Necromancers were among the rarest of classes, and it was said that high-level ones could summon undead as strong as dungeon bosses themselves, which made him wonder if that bone dragon was really on his level. Chen commanded his monster to attack and finish the boss, and the two dragons clashed in a fierce, world-shaking battle. Yang was impressed by the absurd power. That fragile-looking dragon radiated incredible strength. Still, he fought back, roaring for it to move aside as he slammed the undead creature backward. The bone dragon let out a furious roar and released Inferno of the Shadowed Dead, an immense beam of destruction. Yang didn't retreat. Instead, he countered with Annihilation Breath, scoffing and asking if the bone dragon really thought its ultimate attack could scare him. The two forces collided, causing a colossal explosion that split the skies. Hiding behind a rock, Sean muttered that he had never seen anyone face a boss's ultimate head-on like that. Joe Tai, also crouched behind cover, thought that Chen might be a disgusting lunatic, but even he had to admit the man's power was terrifying. The protagonist, however, realized that his opponent's breath was indeed powerful, yet he still hadn't gone all out. He unleashed Annihilation Breath once more, this time with even greater force. The skeletal dragon vanished from sight, and Yang asked mockingly if that was all, but then felt something gripping one of his claws. Looking down, he was shocked to see the bone dragon had grabbed him again, regenerating as it clung to him. From behind, the necromancer laughed darkly, saying that as long as there were fresh corpses, his bone dragon would always rise and fight for him. Yang thought to himself that this was truly the mark of a real necromancer. The bone dragon lunged forward, unleashing a devastating combo that cut the protagonist's HP down to 81%. Concerned, he admitted that the damage was far greater than that of any normal hunter, and that if things continued like this, he could actually lose. Even so, he countered with perfect timing, landing a powerful strike that smashed the bone dragon into the ground. Then he took flight, thinking he needed to recover his stamina quickly. The bone dragon tried to flap its wings but failed to lift off. Chen, frustrated, ordered his summon to attack from a distance. and it began firing multiple strikes. But Yang easily dodged them, laughing that such attacks would never reach him. He smirked, realizing that now, with him in the air, the summoner was completely exposed. The necromancer noticed the danger and screamed for the dragon to return and protect him, exactly what Yang had been waiting for. He accelerated at full speed, declaring it was time to end this, and used Dragon Rush, throwing Variant, slamming both the Bone Dragon and the Necromancer at once with overwhelming force. With a single blow, both enemies' HP dropped to 20%, their bodies crashing to the ground amid a massive explosion. The protagonist was surprised to see they still had that much life left. He'd assumed that fragile mage would have been reduced to ashes instantly. Jen quickly raised a barrier and ordered Kexen to heal them as fast as possible, saying they needed to retreat to a safe zone. She explained that they'd survived only thanks to her Pain Share skill, which split half of the damage among allies, reducing the impact by 50%. Chen glanced at the leader, thinking that if he hadn't acted at the perfect moment again, they'd have been wiped out long ago. He asked if Liu Ci hadn't returned yet. The leader, calm and composed, said that by his calculations, the assassin should be arriving any second now. The protagonist frowned, realizing he hadn't even noticed the shadow assassin's disappearance, and wondering if the man had gone to steal the dragon heart. Suddenly, the healer shouted that Liu Ci was back, and everyone cheered, convinced victory was theirs. But Yang thought they were celebrating too soon. A smaller monster that had stayed behind came running, calling for its lord and announcing its return. Holding up the item, it said it had obtained the dragon heart and completed its mission. Yang praised it, saying it had done very well. Zhou Tai froze, asking how that was possible. Yang, reaching out toward the dragon heart and sneering that those worthless fools thought they could trick him. But he was already prepared. Clutching the heart, he declared their victory assured. Yet as soon as he touched it, his expression changed. Something was wrong. An immense surge of energy burst forth and the system announced, "Uncontrollable factors detected. Diamond-grade secret realm. Black Dragon's lair. Imminent level alteration. Secret realm ascending. Star level." The ascension shook everything, and the Black Dragon's roar echoed beyond the realm itself. Outside, people panicked, asking what was happening and whether an earthquake had struck the area. A disciple rushed to her master, the priestess, reporting an abnormal rise in spiritual energy and asking what it meant. Ling replied that she sensed an overwhelmingly powerful aura emerging from within a secret realm and admitted she never imagined something like that could affect the real world. They both ran outside, witnessing a pillar of light piercing the sky. Ling murmured that something enormous was about to unfold. Meanwhile, inside the Black Dragon's lair, the exploration team was in complete panic. Sean screamed that it was impossible, asking how the dungeon level could rise to star grade. Was this really happening to them? Jen trembled in fear, saying he'd never heard of a dungeon evolving like that before. Athos, the black flame-winged dragon, star level. The protagonist, still trying to comprehend, wondered if he had truly become a creature of that tier. The system responded, informing him that he had reached level 100, all attributes had increased, and star-level skills had been unlocked. Opening his status window, he was stunned by the absurd growth of his stats and the appearance of a new star tier ability. The display read, Boss Athos Black Flame Wings, Early Growth Stage, Level 100, HP 6 million, Attribute Shadow, Race Dragon, Strength 4,221, Speed 17,022, Spirit 1,821, New Skill Spiritual Tongue, Purifying Infernal Prison. Description: summons an immensely powerful prison of black flames that annihilates anyone who resists, dealing magic damage equal to 1,000% of the strength attribute. Young thought that not only was the skill unbelievably powerful, but it also had a resurrection blocking effect. In an era where no one truly died unless their level reset, that was practically a cheat. The system added a note: enemies killed by this ability would have their souls completely destroyed, making resurrection impossible, and the user could choose whether to enable that effect. Confused, he asked what was happening, and the system explained that obtaining the key item, Dragon Slayer's Heart, had triggered an evolution. Everything made sense now. The Black Dragon was originally meant to be star level, but because of the Dragon Slayer's Heart, its racial traits had been suppressed, reducing the dungeon's difficulty to Diamond. Now, with the Heart's effect gone, its true difficulty had returned. Looking at the exploration team, Young thought he still didn't fully understand what early growth stage meant, but one thing was certain: the entire situation had changed completely. Suddenly, Liu Ci came running, catching the protagonist's attention. Liu shouted that he had searched the entire tomb but couldn't find any Dragon Slayer's heart and asked if he had done something wrong. But when he saw the black dragon before him, he froze, asking if that was really the boss and what the hell had happened to it. Then, noticing what was in the dragon's claws, he screamed in terror, realizing the heart was with the dragon itself. Zhou Tai yelled for the shadow assassin not to act alone and ordered him to fall back immediately, wondering if that idiot hadn't seen the system notification. Liu Si darted from side to side, laughing and saying the boss should relax because there was no way such a brute could catch someone as fast as him. But with a single motion, the protagonist's claw appeared before him, striking him down and slamming him into the ground. The system displayed, "Party member Liu Si eliminated." Sean asked what they should do now, and Joe Tai thought grimly that normally, star-level dungeon bosses required a raid of 10 to 20 5th transformation players to defeat. There was no way to win with such a small team. The only option left was to run. He turned and bolted, shouting that the fight was impossible and they needed to escape. The chromatic mage questioned if he was really running away at such a critical moment, but he insisted that fighting under these conditions was suicide. Yang watched and commented that it was a wise decision, but added coldly that he wouldn't let a single one of them escape. In a flash, he shot toward them like lightning. The group ran frantically, the leader shouting that he could see the portal ahead and urging everyone to hurry, but then Sean froze. The black dragon appeared before them, blocking the exit completely. Everyone screamed, unable to understand how he'd moved so fast. Joe Tai ordered everyone to activate all defensive buffs and push forward with everything they had. If they managed to escape, it would count as victory. But the black dragon spread its wings and unleashed annihilation breath, engulfing everything in a sea of black fire. Screams echoed as the flames devoured the surroundings. Half the team was obliterated in a single blast. Zhen, barely standing, gasped that the damage from a star-level boss was absurd. Even his strongest barrier had been shattered in one hit. The leader said his mana was almost gone, and that if the boss used one more skill, they'd all die. He ordered everyone to store their most valuable items in their infinite rings. At least that way, they wouldn't lose everything once they fell, since all hope was gone. But the necromancer refused to accept defeat. Rage twisting his face, he released all his powers, screaming that it was impossible. He wouldn't give up, not after killing that dragon more than 1,000 times and memorizing every single one of its moves. Even if it had ascended to star level, he believed he could still defeat it. With a crazed look, he began chanting, "Souls of the dead, asleep in the realm of time, use my power as the bridge to shatter the boundary between life and death and return to this world. Legion of the Clouds." An army of spirits began rising, and the system displayed the spell's description. Summons all dead creatures on the battlefield to fight alongside the caster. Infinite duration. Continuously drains the caster's mana and life. Chen ordered his undead legion to attack and destroy the boss, but the protagonist crushed them effortlessly, swatting them away like insects. The bone dragon attempted to unleash its breath again, but the protagonist tanked it head-on, thinking that such a pathetic flame couldn't even scratch his scales. He grabbed the bone dragon's head and smashed it into the ground, glaring directly at the necromancer. Even with his face mangled, Chen laughed hysterically, shouting that his hunters were immortal, that even if he failed now, he would return to torment the dragon again and again until he devoured its soul completely. He kept laughing, saying it was a pity star-level dungeons couldn't be repeated, because he would have loved to haunt him forever. Yang watched silently, thinking that after everything they had done, they still believed they could leave alive. Floating upward, he decided it was the perfect time to test his new skill. He invoked Spiritual Tongue, purifying infernal prison. A massive sphere of black flames formed, engulfing the entire battlefield as screams of agony filled the air. The chromatic mage shrieked that the burns were unbearable, but promised that next time she would make the boss suffer 100 times worse, laughing madly. The protagonist approached and replied calmly that there wouldn't be a next time. In that instant, her HP bar dropped to 0 and she panicked, realizing her soul was disintegrating and the transfer hadn't begun. Yang told her she would have no more chances to revive. Her time had come to vanish for good. In the next moment, every member of the exploration team was completely annihilated. The system displayed a cascade of notifications. You killed Joe Tai, level 110, experience plus 21, 987,637. You killed Zhang Hexen, level 108, experience plus 1, 986,123. You killed Zhuang Zhen, level 104, experience plus 1, 577,633. You killed Liu Si, level 103, experience plus 1, 662,321. You have completely eliminated Chen Lun, Necromancer, level 115, experience plus 25, 461,981. The total accumulated experience reached 9.91 million, raising the protagonist level from 34 to 40, the cap before the next transformation. The system then issued a warning, urging him to complete the transformation as soon as possible, since due to experience overflow, 40% had been lost, leaving 5.99 million safely stored. Sometime later, at the Celestial Pavilion Guild, the leader and the rest of the team were sitting at the table, when Kexen suddenly burst through that door shouting that he was back. Joe Tai asked if he had any news about Master Chen. The healer replied that, in fact, there was no news at all, and worse, All the information about Master Chen had disappeared from the Celestial Pavilion. That could only mean one thing. Either someone deliberately erased it, or he was dead. The Shadow Assassin commented that the dragon had ignored the high-level protection mechanism and completely exterminated Master Chen. Based on that, he asked what kind of boss the Black Flame Wing really was. Zhou Tai trembled in shock, thinking this was far beyond what they could handle, and that they first needed to compensate the spiritual hunters for their losses and let headquarters make the decision. Still, he wondered, if all of it was true and Master Chen had truly been wiped out, maybe some special mechanism, or even the boss itself, had allowed them to enter on purpose. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Yang was drinking a soda and relaxing on the couch, saying he was exhausted. The skill level of that exploration group was way above the spiritual hunters, and he had to push himself hard. But when he looked at the equipment and items he had gained, he said it was worth it. After all, coming from an S-rank guild, the drops were insanely good. He held the dagger in his hand and noted that two things had really caught his attention. The first was the S-rank star-tier dagger, Dark Bloodthirst, described as the pinnacle of the assassin's art, forged in the abyss of shadows, having claimed countless lives, its bloodlust never ceasing, and the cries of the lost still echoing. Equipment restrictions, none by class. Level requirement, 101. Attributes, plus 80 agility, plus 400 strength. Traits, Shadow Body, consumes mana to become invisible for a short time, and increases speed by 50%. Mark of Compassion, consumes mana to mark the target, enabling a stealth attack with 300% increased damage. The other item was a legendary skill scroll with 5 charges, Thunder's Tempest Blades, described as allowing unconditional activation of the Storm of 4,000 Blades skill up to 5 times. The protagonist jumped excitedly from the couch, saying his luck was unbelievable. Last time he got a diamond rank weapon, and now he had managed to get a star rank one. Unlike Call of the Storm, he could actually equip this dagger, not to mention that skill scroll. It was absurdly strong, powerful enough to instantly kill a 4th transformation player with no usage restrictions. He put on his coat. Now he was in his first transformation, Magic Warrior, level 40, ready for the 2nd transformation. He said his level had reached 40, and it was a shame to waste the extra experience. But what really made him think was whether that necromancer named Chen had really died and could no longer resurrect. The system answered yes and informed him that the necromancer Chen Lun had been completely eradicated. The host's decision had been correct, as data analysis showed a high probability that the necromancer Chen Lun would have killed the host if he had obtained the dragon heart, and if the host were defeated by another player while acting as a boss, his death would be permanent, so caution was necessary. Yang was startled and concluded that eliminating that guy had truly been the best decision, because if he had hesitated even for a moment, he might have died himself. He took a deep breath and thought that after this, that exploration team probably wouldn't dare mess with him again anytime soon. He kept thinking and said he'd heard before that star rank bosses are called true spirit creatures and have their own consciousness, which made him wonder what the Black Dragon's situation had been while he was in control. The system explained that system-bound bosses have their consciousness completely erased regardless of rank, and that when the host is not connected, the boss acts according to preset behavior patterns and rules. Furthermore, the system added that if the host kills a boss while in control, it will automatically be replaced by an even stronger one. Yang got excited and said now that was an advantage, and apparently it was time to hunt a dragon. When he opened his hand, he noticed an unexpected item there and realized everything fit perfectly. The system identified the item as being of unknown rank, naming it Layered Dragon Heart. Description: forged in the blood of a dragon, slain by a warrior, blessed by the goddess, the dragon's heart was transformed into a relic of battle, but the nameless hero who carried it was forgotten, leaving behind only this testimony of the past. The Dragon Slayer's sword has vanished. Unlockable attributes: Spirit plus 50%, Strength plus 100%. Traits: Dragon Slayer's Radiance, ignores dragon's racial talents and increases damage against draconic creatures by 500%. Special effect: Blood Soul of the Ancestral Hero. When combined with an amulet soaked in dragon's blood, it can summon the spirit of an ancestral hero to aid in battle. Unlock condition: slay a dragon alone. Restrictions for using the ancestral hero's soul. Charges accumulate for each dragon slain, currently 0. He began to imagine that this blood soul of the ancestral hero probably referred to the legendary Dragon Slayer, and that whoever earned that title must have been an absurdly powerful warrior, far beyond a 5th transformation professional. And with an ally like that, no one would dare face him. Gripping the amulet tightly, he declared that killing the Black Dragon and changing classes to unlock the summon would be his next goals. He then left his apartment, saying it was time to accept his 2nd transformation quest. Meanwhile, at the temple entrance, the priestess was waiting outside for someone. People watched, commenting that she was incredible, not only a temple priestess, but also stunningly beautiful. Some wondered who could have enough status to make her wait outside, while others admitted they were jealous of whoever she was expecting. Ling stood there with her eyes closed and silent until she sensed something and called upon the statue's blessing. Opening her eyes, she bowed slightly and asked the noble lord how she might assist him. Yang, who had just arrived, was surprised and wanted to know why she called him noble lord and how she knew he was coming. The priestess explained that just seconds earlier, the transformation statue had emitted a beam of light, signaling that a VIP of the temple was about to arrive. And in the entire East Spirit City, there was only one VIP, him. As for the title of noble lord, it was simply a temple requirement, so he needn't worry. The protagonist, a bit embarrassed, said he understood but found it all a little over the top. A short while later, he approached the statue again, and the system notified him that a 5-star transformation quest had been accepted. Second transformation, 5-star quest, complete 2 silver-ranked dungeons alone and defeat the boss within 3 minutes of engagement. He thought that normally those dungeons required a party, but this mission basically forced him to go solo. Though for him, that was almost the same as having no restriction at all. Ling approached and remarked that this was expected. After all, he had accepted another 5-star quest, worthy of a true warrior. Yang replied that it was nothing special, and asked if she happened to have a map of the silver-ranked dungeons near East Spirit City. The priestess confirmed and asked him to wait a few minutes. Soon after, she returned and handed him a scroll containing the requested dungeon map, as well as additional information on the respawn times and locations of bronze and gold-ranked dungeons. The protagonist thanked her and started to leave, but the priestess stopped him, explaining that a terrible accident had recently occurred in a dungeon. The difficulty had suddenly spiked, and one professional had disappeared. Moreover, the low-level hunting areas were overcrowded, and many were clashing violently over dungeon access, so he should be careful. Yang thanked her for the warning and said he'd stay alert, but soon began thinking that with so many low-level dungeons near East Spirit City, he should easily find 2 silver ones to clear. However, things didn't go as planned. He went through every nearby dungeon and all were packed, to the point where he questioned whether it was even worth fighting over a silver-ranked one. After quite some time, he stopped, exhausted, commenting that after checking 7 or 8 dungeons in a row, all were occupied. Terrible luck. And joked that maybe he'd triggered the so-called law of luck conservation after getting too many good drops. He walked to the edge of a cliff and checked the map, saying that the entrance to the dungeon called Cavern of Suffering should be right ahead. But when he looked, he grew irritated to see people there. Looking closer, he noticed Wang was present, and Qian, Wang's friend, was with him. He found her presence odd, noticed she looked worried, and heard her telling Wang not to try to steal the dungeon since they had clearly arrived first. Yang's irritation grew at Wang's attitude. Wang apologized, saying that the Phantom Rain Guild's name wasn't engraved on the dungeon, and if they wanted to go in, the stronger side should take it. That made Yang wonder if Phantom Rain might be a sister guild to Phantom Cloud. It seemed too coincidental. Still, he thought that since everyone there already knew each other, it might be easier to negotiate once the fight began. Then he jumped down from the cliff, apologizing but making it clear that this time he wouldn't give up the dungeon. Wang's companions acted like idiots. One said that the boss had his eye on that dungeon and they should leave, while another approached Qian with bad intentions, suggesting that if she wanted to stay, they could have some fun with her. He Lan cut the nonsense short by pointing her sword at him, warning that if they kept talking like that, she wouldn't mind shortening the man's neck. He Lan was level 61, 3rd transformation, a patrol swordswoman from the Phantom Rain Guild. Wang was startled to see someone of the 3rd transformation there, and hid behind one of his thugs, reminding everyone that they also had a high-level ally. Then Li Zhen, a brute of a man, stepped forward and told the women of his guild that this wasn't the time to act high and mighty, declaring that whoever had the bigger fist was the one who was right. Li Zhen was level 60, also in his 3rd transformation, a martial artist from the Green Mountain Pavilion, and warned that if a fight broke out, their companions wouldn't hesitate and the low-level newcomers behind them wouldn't stand a chance. He Lan looked at her companions and realized they were all low-level rookies. If they fought, they'd be crushed, but if they retreated, the enemies might take advantage and cause problems later. Unsure of what to do, she considered striking first, and while the two glared at each other, the protagonist approached, thinking that if might really ruled here, then maybe it was time for him to step in. Li Zhen asked who he was, and as soon as Qian saw her friend, she grew worried, remembering the last time she had seen him was at the teleportation center, but then felt relieved to see he was all right, even though she didn't understand why he was now getting into trouble. Wang grew irritated seeing him again, but Yang replied that the line was his, asking why that filthy trash was everywhere, since he was nothing more than an annoying little girl. Wang asked if he really dared to challenge him, saying he should take a closer look at his opponents, because the man next to him was a 3rd transformation monster who could erase him from the map with a snap of his fingers. Li Zhen pointed at Yang and warned that if he had any sense, he would kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe then he'd let him keep his corpse in one piece. The protagonist simply ignored them both and walked over to his friend, saying it had been a long time. She laughed and agreed, which made Wang even angrier. Watching the scene, Helan asked if they really knew each other, and Qian, a bit embarrassed, smiled and confirmed that they were classmates. Helan replied that if they were classmates, that meant they had awakened together, and demanded to know how he dared show up there, challenging them. Stepping closer, she explained that this was a silver-ranked dungeon and asked if he was lost. Young calmly answered that his second transformation quest required clearing a silver-ranked dungeon. Hearing that, Helan was surprised and asked how that could be possible. If he had awakened together with Qian, how could he already be level 40 in just a few days? That was simply impossible. Wang cut in, saying that Yang always acted high and mighty but was nothing more than a worthless warrior, and that if he didn't change his attitude, he'd end up dead. He added that if Yang was really that good, he should show his status for everyone to see his level. Since he didn't have the courage, he should stop pretending and accept that he was there only to kneel and worship the boss. Wang was level 10, an ice mage from the Green Mountain Pavilion Guild. Yang smirked at his opponent's low level and commented that if he were below level 2, he wouldn't even bother. But since he was already level 10, they could play a little. He gathered energy in his hand and activated the skill death penalty. For players below level 10, lose 2 levels. If below level 2, resurrection becomes impossible. With just 2 fingers, he unleashed a devastating strike, sending Wang flying. The protagonist told him to go back to the city and relax a bit in the hot springs. Wang's HP dropped to 0 instantly, and the system announced that the protagonist had defeated the level 10 ice mage, earning 100 experience points. Wang's companions were stunned, but Li Zhen charged forward in rage. Yang dodged easily, remarking that sneak attacks were disgustingly cheap. The mountain of muscles started cursing at him, asking if he thought he could walk away alive after killing the boy. Yang released his power and drew his sword, stating that whether or not he left alive depended solely on Li Zhen's ability. He looked at Helan and said that if she wanted to join the fight, she was welcome to. It would save him the trouble of repeating the process. Helan grew furious, saying he was an insolent brat and asking who had given him the courage to challenge 2/3 transformation professionals at once, calling him unbearably arrogant and insisting that even if he was Qian's friend, she wouldn't let this slide. Yang walked up to Li Zhen and said it would be better to set their fight aside for now. There was a certain brat who needed a proper lesson first. Li Zhen agreed, saying he'd deal with him afterward, and the two advanced together. Li Zhen attacked with full force, but the protagonist dodged every blow with astonishing agility. Disbelieving what he saw, Li Zhen poured in even more strength, shouting that he refused to believe it. Using Thunder Tiger Fist, he unleashed a massive strike that created an overwhelming shockwave, but Yang easily blocked it with his sword and with a single motion hurled him backward, smashing him into the mountain behind. Helan seized the opening and tried to attack from behind but was startled when a shield suddenly activated. Yang remarked that yet another sneak attack had failed, and that the reputation of third transformation warriors was getting worse by the minute. He had used a golden single-use scroll, Crystal Barrier, which created a shield capable of absorbing up to 80,000 damage points. Helan began trembling when she realized her attack had barely scratched half the barrier. She thought to herself that it must be an advanced defensive scroll, and his weapon didn't even look silver. It might be gold or even platinum. Remembering how he'd wiped out the Ice Mage in the blink of an eye, she grew even more wary, though she didn't want to believe that this boy could fight like that. Confused and frightened, she wondered who the hell Su Yang really was. Suddenly, a blast echoed from the top of the mountain. Li Zhen stood up in fury, shouting that this time Yang wouldn't escape and swearing not to rest until he was dead. Already impatient, Yang gathered flames and replied that he was in a hurry, so Li Zhen needed to disappear. With one precise attack, he ended the fight and the system announced, "You have defeated Li Zhen, martial artist level 60. Experience gained 3,125 points." Surrounded by his flames, Yang looked back and asked if anyone else still intended to fight. Terrified by the power she had just witnessed, Helan sheathed her sword, realizing there was no way they could face someone like that. Yang did the same and said that was better. After all, they belonged to sister guilds, and he didn't want things to get ugly. Surprised, Helan asked if he really was who she thought, but Yang interrupted, telling her to send his regards to the guildmaster since he first needed to challenge a dungeon. Stepping through the portal, the system identified him. Su Yang, level 40, magic warrior, guild, Phantom Cloud. You have entered the dungeon, Cavern of Suffering. Transformation quest initiated. Complete it as quickly as possible. Recommended level, 2040. Party limit, 1-8 players. On the other side, inside the dungeon, he started walking, commenting that aside from the Black Dragon's lair, this was his first official dungeon. The air was crisp, and the place felt like a goblin den. Soon, he noticed a lone enemy near the entrance. A vile goblin archer, level 35. The monster fired arrows, but Yang blocked them with ease, mocking that for a first dungeon monster, it was pretty pathetic. As he thought that, another goblin attacked from behind, but Yang sensed it coming, grabbed the creature by the throat, and hurled it into the archer. Then, with a single strike, he killed them both at once. Continuing forward, Yang grumbled that even trash like that tried to sneak attack him, concluding that this dungeon was tricky. If he weren't fast enough, he might have been caught off guard. He reflected that so far he'd beaten every enemy relying purely on his attributes, but knew that when facing someone truly powerful, victory would depend on skill. With that, he activated his demonic blade technique, saying this was a good opportunity to train. As he advanced deeper into the cave, he sensed two hidden monsters. When they lunged from behind, he transformed the demonic blade into a shield, creating a barrier that launched them upward. He then reshaped his energy into a hammer and crushed both with overwhelming force, causing an explosion that shook the ground. Several goblin archers appeared, trying to strike him, but he dodged with blinding speed, morphing his energy into a crossbow and firing 3 consecutive shots that eliminated every distant foe. Landing firmly, he pushed forward, saying that fighting defensively was annoying, and now it was his turn to attack. Gathering countless monsters around him as he ran through the cave, he commented that he was almost at the boss's room and planned to end everything at once. Spinning suddenly, he formed a 40-meter sword and unleashed a colossal slash, wiping out all the enemies in one blow. Watching the result, he remarked with satisfaction that the ability was incredibly versatile, effective both in close combat and at long range, and he felt increasingly eager to unlock the techniques of his second transformation. Suddenly, a new enemy appeared. The Frostfang Giant Tiger, the dungeon boss, level 40. Yang was confused to see that the leader of the goblin den was a tiger, finding the design almost comical, like a pet that had somehow become the master of the house. The tiger spoke in a menacing voice, calling the humans fools for invading its territory, asking if they were tired of living and if they thought they could keep up with its speed. Yang commented that the dialogue sounded pre-programmed, confirming that bosses below star rank had no real consciousness, which for him was perfect, since he could test a newly created technique. The tiger charged at the high speed, roaring that the human was finished. But in the blink of an eye, Yang activated the demonic blade transformation and struck a devastating blow, defeating it instantly. The system announced, Silver Dungeon Boss, Frostfang Giant Tiger, defeated. Experience gained 6,321 points. Another message followed. Silver Ranked Dungeon completed solo. Condition fulfilled. Boss defeated in under 3 minutes. Yang smiled, saying it was an instant kill and he hadn't even needed the time limit. He remarked that it was time to move on to the next dungeon. When he left, he noticed He Lan and Qian still hiding nearby and asked why they were so far away, assuring them he didn't intend to hurt anyone. He Lan replied that he didn't need to worry and could just be on his way. Yang agreed, bid farewell and left. Once he was gone, He Lan said in disbelief that he had cleared the entire dungeon in just 5 minutes, wondering what kind of monster that guy was. Qian, equally astonished, admitted that not long ago they had studied together, but now he seemed to belong to an entirely different world. Sometime later, in another dungeon, the protagonist once again defeated the boss. The system announced that he had eliminated the silver-ranked dungeon boss, the bloodthirsty orc, earning 6,187 experience points. Yang remarked that with that he had finished what he needed to do. The system then informed him, silver-ranked dungeon completed twice solo, condition met. Boss defeated in under 3 minutes. Second transformation quest completed. Mission cleared perfectly. New mission or account unlocked. Hidden transformation quest series activated. The system asked if he wanted to confirm his return, but Yang was surprised to see the new hidden quest. Determined, he accepted, and the system detailed. Phase 1. Find the lost rusted key. Description. In the area marked on the map, a terrifying beast lies hidden, seemingly guarding something. Bonus rewards, plus 5% to all attributes and 1 legendary skill book for the special class Magic Warrior. Notes. 1. Hidden transformation quests can only be unlocked after a 5-star transformation and are linked to class development. 2. These quests open new phases with each transformation. 3. They can be abandoned without affecting normal missions. Time limit, 48 hours. The system asked again if he wanted to accept, and Yang smiled, saying that a 5% boost to all attributes was already tempting enough, not to mention the legendary book. Apparently, there was even a second phase ahead, which explained why a 5-star transformation mission was so valuable. Without hesitation, he confirmed. He then read the scroll and discovered that the quest would take him to the advanced wilderness area near Spirit Celestial City, where monsters average level 40 and the so-called terrifying beast shouldn't exceed 50. He thought that if it weren't for exploiting the system, no one could possibly complete such a mission. Gripping his dagger, he said it was time to unlock his star-ranked weapon. But to use a diamond or higher rank weapon, having fully charged limitless gems wasn't enough. A master blacksmith was also required to embed them, and as far as he knew, there was no such craftsman in East Spirit City. Then he recalled that the Celestial Pavilion was located in Spirit Celestial City, a place not only selling dungeon strategies but also gathering information, and decided it was time to pay some old acquaintances a visit. He held his black gold VIP member card from the X-Union and smiled, saying he had heard that the Celestial Pavilion was one of its members and wanted to see how they would react when they saw him. Shortly after, already in Spirit Celestial City, the protagonist was amazed by the bustling crowd, saying it was incredible to see so many people buying strategy guides. It really showed how good that group was. He admitted to feeling a bit nervous about meeting them, holding his fully charged Limitless Gem, which could be inserted into any equipment to remove level restrictions. He thought that with his current balance of 2.8 billion, after selling his items, he had officially entered the ranks of the new rich, and it made him feel slightly embarrassed. As soon as he entered the place, several people began shouting, asking if it wasn't finally their turn, complaining that they waited so long their flowers had wilted. The attendants urged everyone to remain calm and wait for their number to be called, while the protagonist was stunned by the sheer size of the crowd. Looking to the side, Yang spotted Zhou Tai and Liu Xi and thought he had found them faster than expected. The Shadow Assassin asked the leader if they could get reimbursed for the weapon since it was star-ranked. Zhou Tai sighed and said that after Chen's death, the sect had been kind enough not to go after them, asking what more he wanted. Liu Xi grew irritated, kicked one of the benches, and complained about having to farm everything again for months. The bench flew straight toward Yang's face, but he caught it with one hand and, annoyed, asked who the rude idiot was throwing things around. Liu Xi began releasing his shadows and asked if Yang had a problem. Yang said yes, and asked if he really thought being high-level gave him a free pass to do whatever he wanted. The Shadow Assassin grabbed him by the collar and yelled, asking how a mere level 40 newbie dared to challenge him, saying that he did whatever he wanted here and could send Yang straight to the respawn point if he felt like it. Yang started laughing. Liu Xi demanded to know what he was laughing at and if he looked like a fool, but Yang just thought calmly that if he really tried it, the next time he entered the Black Dragon's lair, he'd be completely annihilated. Zhou Tai stepped in, telling the Shadow Assassin to stop acting like an idiot and telling Yang it was just a joke. No need to take it seriously. Yang asked what kind of service that was, questioning if that was how the illustrious Celestial Pavilion treated its customers, calling it a disappointment. Zhou Tai didn't understand what he meant, apologized, and emphasized that they were a high-level strategy group. They didn't sell strategies to players at his level. Liu Xi, still hot-headed, asked the leader why they were wasting time with that trash, saying he'd just kick him out right away. Yang took out his card and told the Shadow Assassin to open his eyes and take a good look. But Liu Xi, being a bit of an idiot, slapped the card away and asked what was so special about that piece of junk. Yang was stunned, wondering if the bumpkin was really that dumb not to recognize the card. Suddenly, another person arrived. The card landed at his feet and he asked if it was what he thought it was. Zhou Tai wanted to know why the Great Butler was there. Liu Xi was also shocked and yelled, calling the man brother-in-law, saying he had been looking forward to his arrival. The man was Jia Yue, level 120, the Great Butler of the First City, Yongfeng City. The butler walked over to the Shadow Assassin and slapped him across the face, sending him to the floor. Liu Xi, confused, asked what that was about since they were brothers-in-law. Jia Yue ignored him, walked up to Yang, addressed him as an esteemed VIP, and introduced himself as Jia Yue, the Great Butler of Yongfeng City. He apologized for any trouble his subordinates may have caused. Yang replied that it was nothing, and everything was fine, though he thought to himself that this man was indeed powerful. The butler noted that Yang was quite young to already possess the black gold VIP card from the X-Union and asked if he had completed the 5-star transformation quest and earned the temple's VIP privileges. Yang confirmed he had. Jia Yue then looked at his subordinates and ordered them to treat the distinguished guest as he deserved, asking if they understood. Zhou Tai lowered his head and said yes. The butler began to leave, dragging Liu Xi along, saying they needed to talk about the next dungeon. The Shadow Assassin, angry, shouted at his brother-in-law to let him go, saying he could walk on his own, and still pointed a finger at Yang, warning him not to get cocky because his time would come. Hearing that, Yang began to wonder if the Celestial Pavilion was scheming something again. Zhou Tai approached Yang and asked how he could help. Yang said he wanted to know where to find the master blacksmith of Spirit Celestial City and whether they sold limitless gems there since he needed to buy a few. Zhou Tai replied that the information would be easy to get and that they did have limitless gems, though they were very expensive. Yang interrupted, saying if money was the issue, then there was no issue at all. He snapped his fingers and threw a mountain of gold coins in front of the expedition leader, who began stuttering and unsure what to say, finally blurted out that he understood and would personally fetch the items, asking Yang to wait a moment. Yang thought the change in attitude was impressively fast. He reflected that Yongfeng City was the capital of that region, and even the Great Butler had treated him with respect. Now he was even more curious about the Class Advancement Temple. A short while later, Yang began to leave, commenting that the old wolf's forge had been located and that the master blacksmith was hiding in a place as discreet as that, realizing that trusting the celestial pavilion had been a good choice. Then, he overheard two people talking nearby. One of them said his companion had mentioned that the exploration team was getting ready to return to the Black Dragon's lair. The bald man asked if that was serious, reminding his friend that people had died in there, and yet they still wanted to go back. The hooded man replied that he'd only heard rumors, but now everyone was afraid and almost no one wanted to return. The bald one said that was understandable. He wouldn't go back in there even for 100 billion. Yang thought that was to be expected. The necromancer's death had shaken the exploration team's morale, and they probably wouldn't return anytime soon. Even so, he concluded that the sooner he managed to tame the Black Dragon, the better, because the more time passed, the more problems could arise. Sometime later, he arrived at Old Wolf's forge and opened the door, calling out that he was looking for Master Guiyang. But when he looked inside, he was surprised to see two women there. The blacksmith commented that another customer had arrived. Mu Rong from the Phantom Cloud Guild and her companion Anyu, level 92, also from the same guild, both looked at him. Yang smiled, realizing they were guildmates, and greeted them warmly, asking if they were doing well and if they were there to reforge their equipment. And Yu rushed over with an affectionate, curious look, asking if he was the new little brother who'd just joined, how old he was, whether he already had a girlfriend, and if by any chance he liked older sisters. Mu Rong put a hand on Anyu's face and pushed her back, telling the protagonist that this was a master-level forge and that, with his current level, he didn't need to come there. He could just use a regular blacksmith shop on this commercial street. And Yu told Mu Rong to stop being like that, and Yang sighed, saying it was the second time he'd heard that kind of comment and sometimes didn't even feel like explaining. So he simply showed them his dagger and the limitless gem, asking if his weapon was qualified to be there. Mu Rong was stunned, saying it couldn't be real, and asked if that was actually a star-ranked weapon. And Yu was also shocked upon seeing the fully charged limitless gem, knowing that each one was worth hundreds of millions. As soon as he revealed the equipment, the blacksmith stood up, visibly impressed, saying he hadn't seen such an extraordinary weapon in ages. Without hesitation, Yang handed the dagger to him, saying he was entrusting the weapon to his hands. When Guiyang held it, he felt a powerful energy surge through his body and shouted for Yang to leave everything to him. He would pour all his life's experience into this enhancement and wouldn't disappoint him. Then, the blacksmith began his work. With each hammer strike on the dagger, waves of energy pulsed outward, causing small explosions. Mu Rong watched in awe, asking if this was really the special effect of enhancing a star-ranked weapon. It was the first time she had ever seen such a thing. And Yu was also mesmerized, saying the lights were amazing. Mu Rong glanced at Yang and noticed he was calmly sitting on the couch, expressionless, and thought he must be used to scenes like this. And Yu caught her looking and started laughing, teasingly asking what was going on and why she couldn't stop staring at him. Was she perhaps interested? Mu Rong blushed and yelled at her to stop saying nonsense, insisting she had just spaced out. And Yu kept teasing her, saying it was rare to see her acting like that, while Mu Rong, face red, told her to shut up immediately. The protagonist watched the whole scene and wondered if he had joined the wrong guild. A few hours later, the blacksmith lifted the dagger and announced that it was finished. Yang was impressed, saying this was the work of a true master. He'd achieved a perfect result on the first try, unlike last time when Yang had lost a huge amount of materials. The aura emanating from the weapon was overwhelmingly dense. Yang reached out to take it and asked the master blacksmith how much he owed for the service. Guiyang said that the weapon had been a lot of work and that normally he'd charge 1 billion, but since he was in a good mood, he'd make an exception and do it for free. And Yu gasped, saying that a Grandmaster level enhancement for free was unbelievably lucky. However, Yang said he would never take advantage of a veteran. Money, he said, was easy to come by, but finding a blacksmith like Master Guiyang was nearly impossible, something that didn't happen every day. Therefore, he insisted the blacksmith accept the 1 billion payment, saying he planned to come back many more times. Guiyang was moved and praised Yang's character, gladly accepting the payment and saying he looked forward to seeing him again soon. Watching the scene, Anyu was completely smitten, remarking that he'd refused a free service, paid 1 billion, and still left smiling. She wondered if that was the calm of a true magnate and what she should do now since it seemed she was starting to fall for him. Mu Rong was also impressed by his attitude and wondered if the protagonist might actually be some young master from an S-ranked guild. Wasting no time, Yang set out toward the outskirts of Spirit Celestial City, to the Wild Spirit Mountain, an area recommended for level 40 and above. Perched high atop a tree, Yang remarked that this looked like the right place for the mission, and that the map was clearly designed for someone who had already completed the second transformation. He examined his new weapon, thinking about the Dark Thirst ability, which required 300 points in speed and spirit, concluding he just needed to use a few attribute potions and allocate the remaining points. His panel displayed Su Yang, level 40, Magic Warrior, Strength 980, Base 241 plus equipment 739. Speed 1129. Base 311 plus equipment 818. Spirit 488. Base 314 plus equipment 174. He thought that with his current power he could already take on a fourth transformation opponent. Then he drank a meditation elixir X1, which permanently increased spirit by 50 points and could be used up to 5 times. An agility elixir X2, which permanently increased speed by 50 points, also with a limit of 5 uses. And a heavenly speed elixir, which permanently boosted speed by 100 points and could be used twice. After finishing, he leapt into the forest saying it was time to move. During the fall, a spectral bat level 42 and a resentful soldier level 44 appeared to attack him. He activated shadow form, consuming mana to become invisible for a short period and boosting his speed by 60%. In an instant, he struck both with a double slash, killing them instantly. He thought that this was the most basic warrior attack, yet with a star-ranked weapon, the damage became absurd. Noticing that he was completely surrounded by monsters, he muttered that he had no intention of clearing the map the proper way, so he would go with the old method and blow through everything at once. Using several more potions and scrolls, he triggered a power burst, unleashing a massive explosion through the jungle. The blast instantly wiped out every monster nearby. After walking a bit further, he saw a cave ahead and said it had to be the cavern of the terrifying beast. Judging from the mission's design, he bet its level was not below 50 and wondered how many hits the boss could withstand. Advancing through the cave, he found it strange not to encounter any monsters along the way, but soon he spotted a bright light ahead and realized he had reached the destination. Crossing the light, he was stunned to find the creature's lair. A mutant beast that devoured an unknown piece of flesh. Level 55, undead. All stats, skills, and traits were completely hidden. Young wondered what was going on since the system only showed its level and name. He concluded he would need to buy a high-level skill book to reveal more details, but pressed on, knowing better than to underestimate a boss with concealed data. He activated Shadow Form and unleashed a powerful strike, dealing 52,281 damage. The system reminded him that the mark consumed mana to tag a target, and if the attack landed undetected, damage increased by 300%. The beast roared in rage, and Yang said that was expected since there was no way it would go down in a single blow. The monster counterattacked, but Yang easily dodged and retaliated, determined not to let it recover. With another critical strike, he finished the battle. The system announced, "You have defeated the mutant beast that devoured an unknown piece of flesh." Experience gained 4,321. Items obtained rusted key and unknown rotten flesh. The descriptions read, rusted key worn by time used to open an unknown door. Unknown rotten flesh once held great power but has long lost its strength, a symbol of decay and of mysterious origin. Perplexed, Young commented that the key was probably part of the quest, but the flesh was intriguing because if it could mutate a beast even after losing its power, the original owner must have been incredibly strong. He stored the items and decided to set the mystery aside for now, since it was time to complete his class transformation quest. Suddenly, multiple notifications appeared. Inspection complete. Mission approved. 5-star class transformation finalized. Base attributes increased by 25%. Next, he received a new exclusive passive ability, Dual Spirit Enhancement, which increased spirit by 10% of strength and strength by 10% of spirit non-stackable. The system then detected a hidden class transformation mission, confirmed its completion, and awarded additional rewards. All attributes plus 5% special class magic warrior unlocked, 1 legendary skill book received, and level cap removed. After calculating the accumulated experience, his level rose from 40 to 58, granting him 360 attribute points. He ordered the system to distribute the points equally between strength and spirit, and after a few seconds the system confirmed the update. His strength rose from 241 to 301, then 359, reaching a total of 539. His speed increased from 311 to 388, totaling 407. His spirit went from 314 to 392, then to 411, reaching 591. Young thought that with those attributes he was already far above third transformation professionals, and with his current equipment, he could even face spiritual hunters and defeat a fourth transformation opponent while still in the second transformation. Just imagining that made him excited. With the mixed damage between strength and spirit combined with the spectral mark, he bet that not even a platinum-ranked dungeon boss could survive a single strike from him, since that ability was truly overwhelming. The system notified him again. Magic Warrior class, legendary skill, Dual Destruction Blade. Number 1, fuses the magic blade with the equipped weapon, consuming half the mana to deliver a devastating attack. Number 2, damage equals 200% of strength plus 200% of spirit. The priestess congratulated him for completing the 5-star second transformation and informed him that his VIP benefits had been officially updated. His previous monthly payment of 10 million in national currency was now 50 million, and the discount rate for the Black Gold Identity certification from the X-Union had increased from 20 to 30%. Yang confirmed he understood and thought that with his current level these benefits already seemed normal. He also mentioned that there had been a small mistake earlier. When he said 80% discount, the correct value was 20. Ling asked what his plans were now, and Yang replied that he was a bit tired and planned to rest for 2 days, since work and rest should go together. She agreed, saying rest was important, but he only smiled, thinking that resting did not mean standing still. In truth, he needed to go to the Celestial Pavilion to buy some things and prepare for the dragon hunt. Meanwhile, a meeting was taking place at the Celestial Pavilion Guild. Jia Yue told Zhou Tai that he would be responsible for the next dungeon expedition and asked if 30 members in the group would be enough to complete it. Zhou Tai replied that yes, 30 people should be sufficient, but reminded him there was a special mechanic that prevented resurrection. Jia Yue reassured him, saying the headquarters had already prepared a countermeasure. Each member would receive a jade ring of life to ensure survival. Zhou Tai was surprised and thanked him for such a valuable item. The butler said he would leave everything in their care and that if he were not so busy, he would have loved to personally witness the dragon hunt to stretch his muscles a bit. At that moment, the door swung open abruptly, and a firm voice ordered them to wait, saying it was not their turn to deal with the black dragon. The three were shocked, and the butler, alarmed, asked what the young lady was doing there. He then announced loudly that the young lady was present and that everyone should greet her immediately. It was Luo Linger, a beast tamer at level 130, daughter of the master of the Celestial Pavilion. Jia Yue kneeled before her, saying he had not known about her visit and begging forgiveness for not welcoming her properly. Linger replied that there was no need for formalities, since she had not informed anyone of her arrival, but warned that her presence must be kept secret. She tried to sit down but noticed there was no chair. A subordinate quickly brought one upon noticing the situation. Once seated, Linger ordered that from that moment on, no one was to enter the Black Dragon's lair without her permission, because she herself intended to tame it. The butler, astonished, asked if that was a direct order from the pavilion master. Linger then released part of her power and in a threatening tone asked if he really dared to question her and what would be wrong even if the order did not come from her father, leaving the entire hall in complete silence. Jia Yue felt cornered and asked how he could refuse such a command, assuring her he would issue the order immediately. Linger stood up satisfied, saying that was good, and instructed the butler to prepare all available information about the Great Black Dragon and to arrange a room for her since she needed to rest. Jia Yue took a deep breath and commented that he had not expected the sudden appearance of the young lady, admitting that it had been a major miscalculation. Still astonished, Liu Xi asked if she was really the pavilion master's daughter, the young prodigy from the Global Beast Tamer Association, and the butler confirmed it. He explained that the Global Beast Tamer Association was a super organization on the same level as the X-Union, specializing in hunting and capturing rare and exotic beasts from all over the world, whether dungeon bosses or elite wild creatures. He also emphasized that the young lady was incredibly gifted, having joined the association at a very young age, and that there were very few people in all of Longxia who could compare to her. This time, her secret arrival clearly meant she intended to tame the Black Dragon before any other tamer. And if she succeeded, she would undoubtedly become the most powerful beast tamer on the continent, raising the Celestial Pavilion's prestige to an unimaginable level. Jia Yue stressed that because of this, no one was allowed to make any mistakes inside the dungeon while accompanying the young lady. Everyone was to follow her orders strictly, especially when the Black Dragon's health dropped low, since they had to let her tame the creature without interference. No one was to try stealing the achievement. He asked if everyone understood. Zhou Tai confirmed and volunteered to retrieve the basic dragon guide for the young lady immediately. The Shadow Assassin agreed, saying they would never dare to disobey the Pavilion Master's daughter. But as soon as Jia Yue accessed the system to locate the basic dragon guide, he was shocked to see that it had already been purchased yesterday by a player named Su Yang. Liu Ci groaned, complaining about why it always had to be that guy and wondering if he was doing it on purpose. The butler considered that it might just be a coincidence since the protagonist could not have known about the young lady's visit. But what truly intrigued him was why someone of Su Yang's level would be interested in dragons. Jia Yue asked what they should do in this situation, and one of the members suggested forcing the protagonist to return the book. He rejected the idea immediately, saying that no matter how concerning the matter seemed, they must never offend a temple VIP without reason. He assured them there must be other versions of the dragon material and said he would personally handle finding an alternative. Meanwhile, at his house, the protagonist was reading the basic guide on dragons. That book had cost 5.1 million gold coins. The Celestial Pavilion really knew how to do business. Finally, he managed to find the Black Dragon. The statistics were: name, Black Dragon; race, Dragon; traits, ferocious and bloodthirsty; strength at different stages: juvenile stage, diamond level; early growth stage, stellar level; late growth stage, radiant moon level; adult stage, blazing sun level; known racial abilities: strength enhancement, black flame control, and draconic intimidation. Yang found it very strange and wondered why there was no mention of the Black Dragon's trait that reduced 2 types of damage by 80%. With the Celestial Pavilion's level of professionalism, they should not have missed something like that. He imagined that maybe the exploration team had not been able to see the Black Dragon's detailed information, just like when he found that monster that had devoured the unknown rotten flesh on Wild Spirit Mountain. Back then, everything had appeared as question marks: exploration records, dungeons in Longxia that possess Black Dragons, Northeast Region, Blizzard City, inside Anbei City, Black Dragon Roar Cave, Juvenile, Diamond Level Difficulty Dungeon completed, Central Region, Dusk City, inside Lingjiang City, Desolate Mountain of the Black Dragon Vein, Early Growth Stage, Radiant Moon Level Difficulty Dungeon completed, Southeast Region, Eternal Wind City, inside Tianling City, Black Dragon Lair, Early Growth Black Dragon, Stellar Level Difficulty Dungeon not completed. Yang realized that only 3 Black Dragons had been discovered in all of Longxia. 2 had already been defeated. Only the Black Dragon boss remained, and that was also the one he was aiming for. As he thought about it, the protagonist noticed that the information about that defeated Black Dragon did not match. The early growth stage should correspond to the stellar level, so why was it listed as Radiant Moon level? He decided to check the detailed ranking information. When he looked, he saw the description: Isolated Mountain of the Dragon Vein, Battle Record. Due to the dungeon's difficulty being Radiant Moon level, the Black Dragon inside was initially identified as a late-growth boss. However, after it was killed, the Dragon Heart obtained determined that it was in the early growth stage. Based on the items dropped after its death and later research, it was concluded that this Black Dragon had accidentally ingested an unknown rotten flesh. This resulted in an increase in power. Special note: unknown rotten flesh. The Celestial Pavilion is willing to buy any items of this type at a high price. Yang was surprised to see that the flesh really had such an effect. This time, he had made a huge discovery. If the Celestial Pavilion was making such a direct announcement to buy it at a high price, it meant the value was great enough for them to ignore attempts at outrageous pricing. And most importantly, if he made the Black Dragon swallow it, the dragon would rise directly to the Radiant Moon level. Even if dozens of professionals at the 5th transformation appeared, they would not be able to do anything. After reaping all the benefits, his level would probably soar all the way to the 4th transformation. His ascension was limitless. He threw himself onto the bed, saying he could not keep doing this. The Celestial Pavilion was not stupid, and after suffering so many losses, they would not send any more reinforcements. It was time to eliminate the Black Dragon and move on to the next boss. Even so, after gaining so many benefits, he was reluctant to eliminate the boss. Suddenly, the system appeared and said that when a boss tamed by the host was eliminated by the host himself, it would automatically become a 100% loyal subordinate. Yang stood up in surprise, asking if he had heard that correctly. He could have a pet Black Dragon. The system confirmed it and said that this was normal functionality. It also asked him to try not to get too excited. The protagonist imagined himself riding on top of the Black Dragon and asked how he could not be excited. It was a dragon, a species of majesty, power, and domination. Even the SSS rank Super Guild, the Global Beast Tamer Association, had very few members who had tamed a dragon as a pet. If he could summon a pet dragon in the middle of a guild war, the scene would simply be epic. Even with his current stats and a dragon-slaying weapon, he would not be able to defeat the Black Dragon. It would take forever to reduce its health. If someone challenged him in the middle of the process, he would be finished. Because of that, his current leveling strategy still depended on the secondary boss's missions. If no one challenged him within a certain period of time, his progress speed would drop considerably. Besides, because his level was low, every time he faced a secondary boss, he lost a lot of experience. If a strong exploration team appeared, especially if there were too many players, it would be a huge loss. He needed to level up even faster. The big question was whether he should farm in that high-level wilderness area or inside a dungeon. While reflecting on it, he noticed that the guild had sent a message in the group. The leader asked everyone to gather in the giant forest at 15 o'clock for a dungeon raid. She asked everyone to confirm that they had received the message. The protagonist thought that, if he remembered correctly, the giant forest was also a diamond-level dungeon. That was perfect for what he needed. It was a good opportunity. He joined the raid and confirmed in the group, saying he had received it. As soon as Murong and Yuyun read the message, they shouted, asking why. Anyu was impressed that her handsome little brother had finally replied. She asked him to stay close to her so she could protect him. Shu Yun told her to control herself and pointed out that she always talked about Murong in the group, but somehow still managed to be even more suspicious. Anyu told Zhu Yan not to slander her, saying that her feelings for the protagonist were purely sisterly. Jamuzi said her mask had slipped. Anyu insisted she was innocent. The protagonist was a little scared and asked if that nonsense was really starting again. Yu Yun asked if he was sure he wanted to join the guild in a diamond-level dungeon, because the monsters there could be very... Yang interrupted her, saying he was absolutely sure. He pointed out that he would go ahead first and that they could come at their own pace. At the class advancement temple, people asked the boss why he looked so serious. Sean explained that it had been a struggle to reach level 99 again. He had just taken the level 5 class transformation mission. The materials were in the giant forest. The members of the group were startled. The difficulty of the giant forest was equivalent to the Black Dragon lair. At their current levels, they would not be able to do much. Besides, they had heard that the Phantom Cloud team was preparing to attack the giant forest. Then they would have to give up their ticket to that year's trial dungeon. That would only widen the gap between the guilds. The leader said it was not exactly like that. There was still a way to stop Phantom Cloud from getting the ticket. Ming asked what he was talking about. The boss began to laugh and said there was no other way. They had nothing to lose. He declared that he would eliminate them and make the Phantom Cloud team feel the same despair they had felt. Already at the giant forest in the diamond-level dungeon, several groups were at level 90 or above. The description said that ancient, towering trees blocked the sunlight inside the canyon. Deep within the forest, the frequent roars of giant beasts warned intruders that they were not welcome. The remaining time until opening was 35 minutes. Several people were waiting for it to open. Yang walked among them, thinking that there were a lot of people there. The giant forest was a high-level dungeon equivalent to the Black Dragon lair. The difficulty should be similar. Phantom Cloud had probably chosen this moment to challenge it for that reason. This dungeon was a special mission organized by the Class Advancement Temple in Yongfeng City. It opened once a year. Only rank A or higher guilds with 5th transformation professionals could enter. Each city had the right to only one ticket. The 3 guilds that performed the best would receive incredible rewards. Among them were 1 stellar level weapon, 3 diamond level weapons, and an extra guild buff. This was a gigantic temptation for any guild. As one of the only 2 rank A guilds in Tianling City, Phantom Cloud and the Spirit Hunters competed fiercely to stand out. That was why they wanted to reach the 5th transformation as soon as possible and secure a spot in the challenge dungeon. Originally, the Spirit Hunters were stronger, but they had suffered a crushing defeat in the Black Dragon lair, losing levels and equipment. That put them at a disadvantage. Now it was Phantom Cloud's turn. Most of the people present belonged to rank B guilds and did not represent a threat. However, Sean appeared with his guild shouting at all the low-level professionals. He declared that the dungeon belonged to the Spirit Hunters. If they did not want to die, they needed to leave immediately. All the lower-ranked hunters were startled to see the Spirit Hunters there. The protagonist thought that, from the looks of it, they would not give up so easily. The other guilds began to run, saying that rank A guilds really were arrogant. Yang began to stand up. He thought that, with the Spirit Hunters' current strength, exploring a diamond-level dungeon should be very difficult. They barely had anyone at level 90. And judging by the way they were behaving, they did not seem to be there to enter the dungeon. They were waiting for someone. They wanted to block Phantom Cloud and prevent them from entering. That was why they were just taking up space and doing nothing. A level 72 rogue walked up to the protagonist and started shouting, asking if he was deaf, because he had not heard what the leader said. Yang smiled. He said he was just exploring the area and did not care about their business, so they could do whatever they wanted. The rogue kept shouting. He asked if the protagonist was disrespecting him and pushed him, telling him to get out of the way. In the blink of an eye, Yang grabbed the rogue's hand and forced him to his knees, making him scream in pain. Then he threw him so hard that he destroyed a giant tree and landed several meters away. He told the young man not to mess with someone who was minding his own business. Sean asked the protagonist who he was and why he had attacked one of his members. Yang answered that it was nothing serious. Their member had been about to attack him, so he had simply defended himself. Ming got angry and started shouting, asking what kind of excuse that was. He said the protagonist had nearly killed the rogue, leaving him with only a sliver of life, and still thought it was right to call that self-defense, while also acting arrogant. Sean asked Ming to calm down. He explained that the rogue had started it, so it was his own fault. And since he had already been taught a lesson, they could leave it at that. The protagonist said that was fine with him. Ming remained bothered and asked the leader if they were really going to let that guy get away with it. Sean pointed out that the protagonist had defeated a 3rd transformation rogue with a single strike, which meant he was at least a 4th transformation professional, and they were there to confront Phantom Cloud. They did not need to make more enemies. Ming agreed, but questioned whether that boy had been hired by Phantom Cloud. It made no sense for him to be there alone. The leader said probably not. Those women usually did not travel with men. Yang continued sitting there, trying to see if his guild had arrived yet. Suddenly, Phantom Cloud appeared. The leader asked Sean what that meant. He said it was nothing serious. They had simply arrived first and taken the giant forest. Then he told them to look for another dungeon. Yuyun asked if that was a joke. She pointed out that the Spirit Hunters Guild had just been massacred. How could they have the strength to explore a diamond-level dungeon? However, she began to laugh. She said she understood. They were there to pick a fight. They had been crushed, and now they were blocking the way for nothing. She asked what they gained from that and whether they thought it would save their reputation. Or maybe they wanted to start a guild war. Sean laughed. He said the benefit would be dragging the Phantom Guild down with them and preventing them from entering the challenge dungeon. And he made it clear that on that day, no one would enter the giant forest. Murong rushed to attack, but Sean blocked her and scolded her, saying her leader had not even decided to fight yet, and even so, she had taken the initiative. She replied that if they wanted to fight, they should just fight. There was no need to waste time with words. The Spirit Hunters gathered and said they would settle everything with strength, to the death. They would see who was better. Before the guilds could start fighting, the protagonist interrupted them. He asked the leader of the Spirit Hunters if he had really said no one would enter the giant forest. He questioned who he thought he was. Murong shouted at the protagonist, but An Yu was enchanted. She said he had challenged leader Sean without fear, and that was incredible. Yan asked if the protagonist mentioned in the guild chat had finally appeared. She was the beloved of the wind, level 94. Shu Yan was impressed and said that if Qian were there, the scene would be perfect. Jimuzi, level 92 in a bard class, said that Phantom Cloud's first male member had finally appeared, and that the moment needed to be recorded. The guild leader finally saw the protagonist in person. Yang apologized for not introducing himself earlier, but he had thought it would be easier for them that way. The leader agreed. Even so, she observed him carefully, remembering that he had a 5-star VIP profession from the temple, owned a stellar-level weapon, and was suspected of being the heir of a rank S guild. Yang had so many secrets that even with him standing right in front of her, she did not know how to ask. Maybe she should not ask at all. Li Dan began trembling with rage. He shouted that he had tried to win over An Yu countless times, but she had never paid him any attention. Now she was flirting with that brat, so he deserved to die. Ming was shocked and told the leader that the brat was part of Phantom Cloud, and he seemed to be an official member, not a visitor. Sean grew irritated and asked the protagonist if they had been deceived. Yang simply smiled and asked what would happen if he really had deceived them. Suddenly, several lightning arrows flew toward him. The protagonist caught them with his hand with extreme ease. He thought it was the archer. Yang threw the arrow back and struck the archer directly. Sean was furious. He shouted that the protagonist was asking for trouble. Yang walked toward them. He said he now understood everything. They were only there to create chaos, blocking a perfectly playable dungeon just to stop others. He asked if they thought everyone had time to waste like they did. Time was money. If he lost the chance to slaughter a few fat sheep, they would have to take responsibility. Sean remained furious. He asked if fat sheep was what he was calling them. He said Yang was already about to die and still had the nerve to talk nonsense. Then he told him to go to hell. Yang took a deep breath. From the looks of it, he had no choice but to teach them a lesson. Sean noticed that the protagonist had skill scrolls and shouted for the defenders to raise a defensive barrier and activate all damage reduction skills. The vice leader told the protagonist that if he had dared to act alone, it meant he was strong. But no matter how strong he was, he would not break through the barrier. Yang asked if that was so. He told them to withstand that attack. A giant vortex appeared in the middle of the forest. An Yu could barely remain standing. She said it was annoying. Murong asked what kind of mantle that was because the elemental wave felt like a prehistoric catastrophe. Sean observed the power and said it was impossible. It might even be a legendary skill. The protagonist attacked and told everyone to disappear using the Thousand-Blade Thunderstorm. The attack concentrated where the leader was. An enormous lightning bolt exploded. When the dust settled, the protagonist was the only one standing. He said everything was ready. The obstacles were gone. He asked the leader if they could start the raid now. The leader and the entire guild were terrified by the display of power. Yu Yun asked how that was possible. The Spirit Hunters had been wiped out in the blink of an eye. Murong, desperate, said that even if the scroll had been a legendary skill, it should not have been capable of annihilating a rank A guild instantly. Jimuzi said she had drawn the whole scene. Besides the scroll, the protagonist had used other skills. She asked them to look. The girls were impressed by the drawing. They saw that in the middle of the legendary skill, there was a blade formed from condensed magic. The guild leader understood. First, the protagonist used the legendary skill to break the magical defense. Then, he caused chaos with epic skills. Finally, he finished off the weakened enemies with the magic blade, an infallible strategy. Murong said that level 58 skills normally would not do anything against someone like Sean. But considering the protagonist's luxury equipment, they all began to imagine that he was the young master of a super guild. Tired of waiting, Yang walked up to them and interrupted the conversation. He asked if they could enter now. The leader was surprised and said yes. When they entered, the protagonist was impressed by the enormous trees. That place truly gave off the feeling of a giant's territory. Yu-yun, frightened, said the terrain was complicated. She asked everyone to stay together and remain alert to their surroundings. Anyu asked if Yang thought they would complete that dungeon without any problems. He answered that it should not be difficult. She pointed out that if something unexpected happened, like in the Black Dragon dungeon, then he needed to protect his older sister. The protagonist became a little embarrassed and said he would do his best. Suddenly, something moved in the bush and scared the girls. When they looked, they realized it was only a small rabbit. But soon after, a two-headed raptor appeared, level 89, scaring them again. The guild leader began attacking and asked everyone not to panic. She told them to stay calm because it was only an ordinary monster. While she dealt with the raptor, a giant rock bear, level 95 and elite, appeared. The girls continued to be afraid. Yang quickly attacked the monster, eliminated it, and asked why they did not have someone to tank. Anyu answered that finding a high-level female tanker was very rare. Yang said he would hold that side and asked the healers to keep an eye on his health. The leader understood and ordered the support members to focus everything on Yang. As soon as the support skills began to take effect, the protagonist's body changed completely. He was impressed because those were all 4th transformation support skills. His strength instantly doubled. With his speed and strength increased, he disappeared from in front of the bear and attacked it from above, dealing a critical hit of more than 100,000 damage. After a few strikes, both monsters were defeated. The guild leader praised Yang and said that, now with him on the team, their chances of completing that dungeon had increased greatly. Yang smiled and said she was too kind. He stated that this was his first time in a dungeon with a team. Because of that, he would need guidance to improve his coordination. Yu-yun said there was no problem, but she began to think. If this was his first time participating in a team dungeon, it meant he had completed all of the others completely alone. That was even more impressive. The more she observed him, the more mysterious Yang seemed to be. The Phantom Guild continued advancing through the dungeon, eliminating everything that appeared. Not long after, they finally reached the final boss, a degraded hybrid giant, level 98 with 4.5 million health. Yang asked if Yu-yun was nervous, because he had heard that she had bought the strategy from the Celestial Pavilion. If they followed the plan, everything would go well. Yu-yun said that last time, the spirit hunters had run into trouble in the Black Dragon dungeon. Because of that, she was still a little worried. The protagonist smiled and asked her to relax. He said his instinct was telling him that this dungeon would be a guaranteed success. Yu-yun kept looking at him, unable to fully understand what was going on. He had absurd confidence, but when he spoke to her, he seemed far too convincing. Even so, she refocused and said she would trust his instinct. Everyone began to attack. Meanwhile, at the Spirit Hunters' headquarters, one of the members handed a report to the manager. He said there had been a confrontation between the Spirit Hunters and Phantom Cloud outside the giant forest. The manager asked about the result. The report said that the Spirit Hunters had been completely annihilated. Jia Yue took a deep breath and said that had already been expected. The more desperate people became, the more irrational their actions turned. Before, he had even had a good impression of the group, but it seemed that year, Tianling City's challenge dungeon slot belonged to Phantom Cloud. The man continued the report and said there was one more piece of information about the Black Dragon dungeon. That caught the manager's attention. Back in the dungeon, Phantom Cloud's leader delivered the final blow and defeated the boss. They celebrated. A notification appeared saying that Phantom Cloud had completed the challenge and the rewards had been delivered. The leader began distributing everything. Yu-yun told Yang that he could have delivered the final blow, but had let her finish it instead. The protagonist smiled and said she did not need to worry because she probably needed the final hit bonus more than he did. The leader thanked him and said she would owe him a favor. The girls approached, commenting that Yang was incredible. They said that without him, they would never have cleared the dungeon so easily. And that, seeing him up close, he was even more handsome. They asked if he could add them as friends so they could stay in touch. Murong, irritated, said they were going too far and had no self-awareness at all. Yan told them to leave the idiots aside and go check the items they had obtained. When she opened one of the chests, she saw 2 platinum-level items and 1 diamond-level item. Yu-yun asked if there was any equipment Yang wanted. She could help with their distribution. He thanked her and said he did not need anything. He thought that his storage was already packed with diamond-level equipment. Murong shouted excitedly when she saw that they had obtained the materials for the 5th transformation mission. With that, they secured the ticket to the challenge dungeon. Anyu called the leader, saying they needed to celebrate. She smiled, agreed, and asked the protagonist if he wanted to go with them. But suddenly, the system notified him that a challenger had been detected. It asked if he wanted to connect. Yang was surprised. Someone had decided to challenge him so soon. He activated the teleportation, apologized, and said that something urgent had come up. Because of that, he would not be able to participate in the celebration. As soon as the connection was made, the lesser dragons were already dead. Yang commented that he would like to see who was trying to invade the dungeon. When he looked, he saw only one individual. He was surprised to notice that a single person was dealing with all the lesser dragons, and besides that, his appearance was different. Yang began to wonder if that being could really be an elf. It was Alcaray Loren's level 140 court mage class elf race. He continued advancing and called the dragons filthy and irritating creatures. Yang observed him and thought that the guy's power was no joke. Even so, he decided to follow protocol and let the elite monsters test that being first. Suddenly, the elf heard someone calling him a coward and threatening to crush his skull. The dragon priest, level 98, ordered the elf to offer his blood to Lord Atos. A kobold chief wolf, level 96, advanced. The blood warrior, level 95, also attacked, saying they needed to eliminate the invaders. Alcaray laughed and asked if that stupid black dragon's name was Atos. He said that a simple young black dragon, with a few forbidden spells, was already enough to defeat that pitiful creature. He eliminated the three warriors instantly and stated that they were not even worthy of being called trash. Their bodies exploded, and blood splattered onto the elf's hair. He became irritated, saying that the blood of inferior creatures was repulsive. He also said that if it were not for the princess, he would never set foot in such a filthy place. He snapped his fingers and ordered the mountain giant to appear. He said he needed a shield and a spear to eliminate everything in his path without letting anything touch him. Yang was surprised to see that the elf had eliminated elite monsters above level 95 without any effort. He realized that the guy was even stronger than the exploration team. Perhaps he was at the 6th transformation. If a 6th transformation professional was really that strong, then Yang had no chance against him. This was a serious problem. While thinking of a strategy, he remembered that the elf had mentioned the princess. Maybe he was talking about the imprisoned elf. If so, Yang could obtain information. He shook the cage, telling her to wake up. He asked how she could sleep in a situation like that. The elf woke up drowsily and asked who was calling. When she looked ahead, she only saw the dragon's enormous eye. Yang said he was the one who would be asking questions. He wanted to know if she was the princess of the Elven Kingdom. The princess was completely frightened and asked if the dragon was really talking. She had never imagined he could speak. He answered that she had never asked, but he said she was focusing on the wrong subject. The elf became irritated, called the protagonist an idiot, and said he always seemed lost. She said he only knew how to sleep and wander around, then suddenly became smart out of nowhere. How was she supposed to accept something like that? Then she covered herself, thinking that the dragon had seen her naked the entire time. She asked if it was possible that he had done something indecent while she was asleep. She ran to the corner of the cage, called the dragon a pervert, and cried for help. Yang was confused and asked why the conversation had taken such a strange turn. He held the cage and said he was out of patience. He told her to answer the question immediately or she would be devoured. The elf began to sweat in fear. She said her name was Lilith Savaraya, 6th daughter of the Honorable Queen Savaraya. Upon hearing the name, Yang began to think. He remembered what he had read in the basic guide on dragons. The Elven Kingdom, the Dragon Kingdom, and the Giant Kingdom belonged to the subspace nations. They were legendary SSS-level nations with absurd power. Among them, only the Elven Kingdom maintained good relations with humans, and the supreme ruler of the Elven Kingdom was Queen Savaraya. The protagonist was surprised because he had not imagined that this elf had such an impressive background. He asked her to take a look, saying her people had come to rescue her, and opened the mirror. The princess asked if he was serious because that was great news. However, when she saw who it was, she became frightened and complained, asking why it had to be that guy of all people. Yang asked if she knew him. However, she did not seem happy at all. The princess continued angrily, saying that was exactly it. Alcaray Lorenz and his entire family were a bunch of trash, and she would never forget what they had done to her. Because of that, she would rather rot there for the rest of her life than be rescued by that guy. Yang asked what he had done. Lilith explained that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing and that, in the beginning, she had almost been deceived by his appearance. He had tried to drug her to do some things, but she noticed in time and managed to escape that monster's claws. The protagonist was confused, asking how that guy dared to do something like that to a princess. The elf answered that the Lawrence family was the most powerful force in the Elven Kingdom, and not even her mother could punish them easily. Imagine her, who was only the least favored daughter. Yang realized there was something more behind the story. However, for now, he could use that rivalry to his advantage. He commented that he was thinking of handing her over to the elf. The princess became desperate and said she did not agree with that. She stressed that he could not do something so cruel because she would rather die than fall into Alcaray's hands. Yang told her not to misunderstand because he was not asking for her opinion, and he reminded her that Alcaray was at the 6th transformation. The princess knew very well that if he did not hand her over, his life could be in danger. Unless she asked for help by telling him what the elf's weakness was, perhaps then he could do something. The princess completely changed. Her expression became gentle, almost like an angel begging for his help. She promised to tell him all of Alcaray's weaknesses, but asked him not to hand her over. Yang thought that he only wanted to give her a reality check, but maybe he had gone too far. He accepted, though he did not look very happy. Then he asked her to explain the elf's weakness. Lilith said that the Lawrence family had an absurd natural talent for spiritual power and magic, but they possessed a fatal flaw. Their bodies were extremely fragile. Even after reaching the sixth transformation physically, they remained at the first. They were true glass cannons. Because of that, they were always protected by a powerful magical barrier. The princess stated that with the protagonist's current strength, it might be difficult to break that barrier. She fell into despair once again. She thought that in the end, nothing had changed. She would be handed over to the elf and become a slave. Yang observed her, thinking that she could have a little more faith in him. He admitted that her words made sense. With the current situation, the only way to advance to the Radiant Moon stage would be by using that piece of rotten flesh. The problem was that this would greatly increase the dungeon's difficulty. The Celestial Pavilion would be alerted, and that would interfere with his next plan. So he wondered if there was any way to achieve both things. Yang looked at his own body and commented that something had changed since he reached the stellar stage. However, that armor was only decorative, if only it granted real attributes. Speaking of equipment, he remembered the Dragon Slayer's heart. That item had turned into equipment when it fell into the Black Dragon's hands. So perhaps his human equipment could do the same. Lilith asked if he could let her go because she would prefer anything over falling into Alcaray's hands. However, Yang had already disappeared. She was confused, asking where he had gone. The protagonist was using his shadow form and testing to see if it had really worked. The princess looked around, thinking that the dragon had run away, and that could not be happening. Yang observed the sword at the tip of his claw. He had equipped Shadow Bloodthirst on the Black Dragon and tried to activate its special ability. The weapon entered shadow form instantly, but that was not all. All attributes, talents, and effects were shared with the Black Dragon, including the spiritual amplification effect. He checked the statistics and realized that his strength and spirit had increased by hundreds of points. That made up for the difference in basic attributes. It was time to face the guest. Meanwhile, Alcaray advanced, demanding that the dragon hand over the princess. Perhaps then, he would leave its body intact. No one answered. The elf asked if the dragon was so frightened that it could not speak, calling it cowardly and weak. He threatened to cast a forbidden spell to destroy the entire palace. The princess would die, but the memory manipulation spell worked very well on corpses. That way, he could resurrect her pure and intact. Just imagining that made the elf shiver with excitement. Determined, he activated the forbidden spell. However, the protagonist attacked, saying that elves were more disgusting than he had imagined. With a single strike, Alcaray's health dropped to 6%. The elf asked when the dragon had appeared, why he had not sensed its presence, and how his barrier had been destroyed with a single attack. That was impossible and unacceptable. Yang apologized, saying that common sense did not apply when it came to someone as exceptional as him. The protagonist used the spirit of words, purifying inferno, and burned the elf completely. The system announced that Alcaray Lawrence, the level 140 court mage, had been exterminated. The experience received was 12.1 million. Yang commented that there was no reason to leave trash like that alive. Now it was time to see what treasures he had gained. When he looked, he realized that everything was incredible. He had received legendary items and even banishment magic. First order banishment magic, Thunder of the Infinite World. Summons endless thunder that causes cataclysmic damage to all enemies in the area, altering the heavens and the earth. Legendary item, Soul Summoning Stone, Spirit of the Lunar Wolves. Legendary item, Scroll of the Guardian of Nature, capable of withstanding 7 attacks from 6th transformation skills without breaking apart. The protagonist commented that banishment magic was the pinnacle of magic. They said it was strong enough to destroy a city. Since most mages did not have enough mana to cast it, it was usually stored as scrolls. He observed that the elf had died, but had left excellent gifts behind. His staff, robe, and accessories were at least stellar level, but none of them had dropped. In the end, eliminating the elf seemed like a good deal, but even so, he still came out at a loss. Where else would he find a fool like that to farm? Meanwhile, inside the cage, the princess was irritated. The dragon had disappeared, and she thought he had gone to face the elf alone. However, she did not want him to lose. Suddenly, she realized she was worried about the dragon, but refused to admit it. She said she only did not want to be touched by the elf. The protagonist returned. Lilith asked where he had been and what had happened to Alcaray. Yang said he had used invisibility to launch a sneak attack, and that the elf had already turned to ashes. She could relax. The princess stared at him, asking if he had really defeated Alcaray. That seemed impossible. However, she remembered that only rainbow dragons could use invisibility, so how had a black dragon managed it? That only increased the mysteries. She noticed that the protagonist was staring and asked why. Yang said he had heard that the elven royal family was supposed to have powerful magic. So why was she so weak? Lilith explained that she carried the curse imposed on the elves by the giant king of ancient times. That curse sealed magical talent and drastically reduced life expectancy. In every generation, someone had to be the sacrifice. This time, it was her. That was why she had never been valued. Yang reflected. He found it strange to feel something about it, but realized that she had also had a miserable life. If he had not obtained the cheat, he probably would have remained useless forever, and the black dragon would have been killed sooner or later. In the end, she would have ended up as Alcare's toy or some other professionals. Thinking about it, he had truly changed her fate. Young placed his hand on the cage. The princess panicked, asking what he was planning. She had helped defeat the elf, so he could not go back on his word. The cage began to be destroyed, and she screamed. However, the cage simply opened. The protagonist said she was free, at least inside that dungeon. Lilith was confused, asking why. Young answered that a good dragon had to be good until the end. He asked her to live peacefully there because it would not be long before he obtained true freedom. He shouted for all the servants to hear and ordered that no one touch or harm Princess Lilith. The subordinates bowed, saying they would obey their lord's orders exactly. The princess was confused and asked why the protagonist had suddenly decided to be so kind. She wanted to know what he truly wanted and what that true freedom he had mentioned meant. Out of nowhere, the dragon went back to sleep. Lilith shouted, asking him to wait and wondering why he had fainted so suddenly, but the connection had already ended. When he returned home, he was happy. He said the expedition had been worth it and that now he would be able to face the exploration team more efficiently next time. Suddenly, a message appeared. He looked and asked if it was from the guild leader, but countless other messages began to appear. The system warned that he had more than 99 unread messages. They kept arriving, making him think he had caught some kind of virus. When he checked, he saw that the girls were asking where he was and why he was not answering. They said they had been worried and that next time, he should at least tell them before leaving. Out of nowhere, they asked if he would have time the next day, and if he wanted to accompany them to the commercial street, as well as asking permission to make a drawing. He thought those women were far too energetic and decided to send a message to the guild leader apologizing. He said he had left in a hurry and had not wanted to cause problems. He thought that, by informing the leader, she could reassure the others. Yuyun read the message and became happy. She said everything was fine. She stated that she already knew he was busy and that they would schedule a time whenever possible. She thanked him for his help and sent a photo of them celebrating. When he saw the image, he smiled. He said that it was a lively atmosphere, and that was how a guild should be. Yuyun was a good person and got along well with everyone, much better than the selfish spirit hunters from the exploration team. The next day at the temple, Qian met the protagonist and said it was a coincidence. She asked if he was there to do his class transformation. Yang said yes and asked if she was there to do her first transformation. His friend smiled and confirmed it. She said that with the help of the veterans, she had finally reached level 20. She commented that she had heard he had gone to a diamond-level dungeon with Phantom Cloud the previous day and asked if that was true. Yang confirmed it. He said the story was true and that he had reached level 60 just yesterday. That was why he had come to receive the third transformation mission. Qian congratulated him but felt a little discouraged. She thought that the two of them no longer belonged to the same world and that she would be left behind. Yang said she was excellent too. He stated that in terms of class and growth potential, she was enormous. Maybe one day she would even surpass him. That filled her heart with hope. She asked if he was serious. He laughed and confirmed it. He said it was not a lie and asked her to keep working hard because he was looking forward to fighting by her side. Qian blushed and said she would do her best. She thought that even though he was so strong, he still encouraged her with kindness. To her, the protagonist was still the same as always. Yang took the mission. It appeared as a third transformation mission. 5 stars, Magic Warrior Challenge. Dual Trial of Magic and Strength. Number 1 Magic. The Devouring Phantom of the Ruined Mansion. Restriction. Defeat the level 60 boss of the Ruined Mansion dungeon alone without using physical damage skills. Number 2. Strength. The Earth Dragon of the Rock Abyss in the Wild Mountains. Restriction. Defeat the level 60 boss alone without using magical attacks or skills. Rewards. Demon Spirit. Secret Weapon. Plus 300 Strength, plus 300 Spirit, and the legendary passive skill Demon Spirit Secret Weapon. He realized that the mission was getting intense. Now there were 2 challenges at the same time, with heavy restrictions. Ling asked him to be careful because there might be a blood moon phenomenon soon. The protagonist asked what that was. She explained that it was a special phenomenon. Wild and dungeon monsters became more ferocious and bloodthirsty. In places inhabited by spirits such as the ruined mansion, the effect was even worse. The blood moon had no fixed pattern, but it gave subtle signs at the beginning of the day it appeared. When that happened, the Adventurers Association sent out a warning. Because of that, he needed to stay alert. The protagonist left, saying he understood. He smiled, thinking that no matter how dangerous it was, with his true strength being at the 4th transformation, it would be a walk in the park. Too bad he could not tell anyone, leaving Ling worried for nothing. Sometime later at the ruined mansion, a platinum-level dungeon recommended for level 60 or above, he arrived. That place had once been the home of a high-ranking official. A cursed noble went mad and murdered everyone there in a single night. Afterward, he turned into a devouring phantom and began haunting the depths of the mansion. Anyone who entered became his next target. A guard lying in a chair woke up and realized he had dozed off. When he looked outside, he saw that he had been unlucky. The blood moon could have appeared one day, earlier or later, but it had decided to show up exactly when he had drunk too much. However, no one normally visited the ruined mansion, so he thought there would be no problem. He decided to just leave a warning, but when he tried to send the alert, the system said he was in combat. He asked who the madman was who had entered there during the blood moon. Not long after, the protagonist eliminated level 56 ghost children. He destroyed everything with ease and thought that the blood moon dungeon was not a big deal. However, an energy began to surround the children. He was startled and asked what was happening. They transformed and rose from level 56 to level 70. Their name changed to Frenzied Ghost Child. He asked if this was the true effect of the blood moon. The children attacked with much greater speed. The blows came one after another. He was startled by the monsters twisting their bodies and turning their necks. He shouted for them to stay away and used Demonic Blade, striking the two monsters and making them explode. Blood fell over him, and the system warned that his sanity had dropped by 10 points. It was now at 90 out of 100. Once it reached 0, he would enter an irreversible state of madness. He needed to be cautious. Yang complained, asking when this had turned into a Lovecraft-worthy scenario. He admitted that he had underestimated the blood moon. The monsters had increased attack and defense, and had even added a sanity system. More children appeared. He wasted no time and used Demonic Blade, Sword Rain, eliminating them all quickly. He thought that he needed to be even more careful. He began destroying everything that appeared. Over time, after eliminating several monsters, his sanity dropped to 60. His mana remained at only 20%. He took a deep breath. He said that using only a magic tank build was bad. Mana recovery was slow, and his low sanity was harming his focus. He asked if the boss was still far away. Suddenly, an enormous hand emerged from beneath him. He asked if it was another enemy and if this would never end. A giant zombie, level 82 elite, appeared. Yang became irritated. He said he wanted to clear that dungeon with his own strength, but everyone there was forcing him to cheat. The giant's arm, which was holding him, began to be covered by a strange aura. He used the legendary summoning stone, Spirit of the Lunar Wolves. In an instant, the wolves defeated the giant. Each of them was level 125. Yang smiled. He said that was expected from a legendary summon. The gap in power inside a platinum-level dungeon was enormous. He extended his hand toward his summons. The wolves approached to receive affection. He said that, unfortunately, Summoned Beast did not have loyalty issues. With 2 high-level fighters at his side, he would not be afraid even of an exploration team. He ordered the wolves to advance. He said that this might break the game balance, so he would wipe out everything. After walking a little farther, he found a huge door and said that, from the looks of it, this was the boss room, and it had taken him far too long to find it. He kicked the door with all his strength, shouting that he was there for a small inspection. Inside, someone was asking his ancestors to forgive him for being a sinner. The monster continued saying that he had committed many murders and that there, today, he would commit one more, then began laughing while stretching his neck and charging at the protagonist. That was the Blood Moon Corruption Devouring Phantom, a level 90 boss undead race. But in a matter of seconds, the two wolves were basically eating that undead creature. The protagonist asked them to move away and not eliminate it yet because he wanted to finish the job with his own hands. Looking at the boss, he said that its level was almost on par with the boss of a diamond-level dungeon. The Blood Moon buff was truly terrifying. If it had not been for the lunar wolves, he would have been annihilated inside that place. He delivered a powerful blow, irritated, saying that he was still not strong enough and wanted to complete the perfect 5-star transformation, so he needed to become even more powerful. The system announced that he had defeated the level 90 boss Blood Moon Corruption Devouring Phantom. The experience obtained was 98,322. Items obtained: Platinum level Phantom Dagger, Platinum level Phantom Fire Ring, Devouring Phantom Soul Core, Devouring Phantom Residue. Yang pointed out that Platinum level equipment was no longer interesting to him, but that item seemed good. An 80-point bonus to Spirit was not much for him, but maybe it could serve as an ingredient for potions. Item description: Devouring Phantom Soul Core contains a large amount of spiritual power and can be used in potion creation or consumed directly to permanently increase the spirit attribute by 80 points. After completing the mission, he left through the portal saying that now it was time to go to the next mission location. Meanwhile, outside, the daughter of the Celestial Pavilion Master was irritated, saying that those people who had entered the ruined mansion by mistake still had not come out. Ming asked if it was possible that there were survivors hiding and fleeing, because the ruined mansion under the effect of the blood moon was not a place just anyone could handle. Only someone like the young lady could leave easily. Linger became irritated, saying she did not want to hear assumptions. She asked which guild those people belonged to, how many had entered, how long they had been inside, and whether they could tell her that. Jotai said he did not know the exact time, but the dungeon raid had already lasted half an hour. He had asked every rank A and rank B guild in Celestial Spirit City, and they all said the people were not theirs, so the situation was still unclear. Linger began to think that the ruined mansion under the blood moon was on the same level as a diamond dungeon, and even she would have to be careful, so why had no one come out yet, and who could be inside? Suddenly a sound occurred and the portal began to open, because someone was coming out. Yang walked out of there without a single scratch on his body, saying that it had been very exhausting, both physically and mentally. When he looked ahead, he saw that people were waiting. He was surprised and asked why the exploration team was there, and if it was possible that they had discovered his true identity and set a trap for him. Linger was surprised to see that there really was only one person, and on top of that, he was very young. The other members realized that it was the protagonist again. Yang asked what everyone was doing there so late at night because that was just a small platinum-level dungeon. There was no reason for so many warriors like them to be there. The guard who was watching the entrance shouted at the protagonist, questioning how he had the nerve to ask why, because that night was the night of the blood moon, and asking if he was not afraid of dying by entering there alone. Yang said that the dungeon really was difficult, but it was not that bad. The guard said it was worrying because if the protagonist had died in there, he did not even want to imagine what kind of punishment he would suffer. Linger told the guard to shut up and ordered him to step back. She asked the protagonist if he had cleared the dungeon alone. The guard stepped away, telling her to go ahead. Yang said he had indeed cleared it and asked if there was a problem. She said that for one person to clear the ruined mansion alone during the blood moon, it showed just how impressive that person's strength was. She extended her hand, asking him to hand over the crystal core that had dropped from the boss he killed, because she would buy it at any price. Yang was a little surprised and asked her to wait, questioning who she was and why he would sell something just because she asked. The others were startled and a bodyguard approached, shouting at him and asking if he really did not know who he was speaking to. Yang asked her to calm down and said he really did not know, then asked why he should know. The woman called him insolent and told him to open his eyes wide and pay attention, because he was standing before the greatest genius of the Global Beast Tamer Association, the precious daughter of the master of the Celestial Pavilion, a stunning beauty with countless talents, Miss Luo Linger. The woman grabbed a staff in anger, asking how the protagonist dared to ignore the young lady's generous request, and saying that, for that, he should be punished for his insolence. Linger scolded her subordinate and told her to stop that madness. The protagonist looked on and thought that she really was the daughter of the master of the Celestial Pavilion, and truly had something to be proud of. However, she did not seem to be trying to attack him. He asked what Miss Luo had to say about it. She began to smile, saying that her intention was only to find high-level food for her spiritual beast and that she had not expected the protagonist to find it first. It had been many years since anyone had dared to speak to her like that, and because of that, she admired the courage the protagonist showed. She summoned a level 90 soul-hunting falcon and said that if he could withstand that beast for 3 minutes, they would pretend nothing had happened. The falcon began to attack, and the protagonist asked if that was not a bit exaggerated. Ming began laughing, saying that the boy had dared to offend the young lady and was now doomed. Jotai, who had already learned his lesson, thought it was not quite like that because if Yang had managed to clear the dungeon alone during the blood moon, his real strength had to be at least at the 4th transformation. The falcon used its skill blade storm and began attacking the protagonist, who easily dodged the attacks. While dodging, he thought that the summoned beast was not only fast, but could also attack from a distance, and that simply defending would not work. He began to take out his weapon, thinking that he did not want to reveal his strength, but he had no other option. He activated Shadow Bloodthirst. Ming stared at that sword, thinking that it might be his. The falcon pierced through the protagonist's body, but he simply dissolved into shadow using Spectral Mark, landing a fatal blow on the falcon and destroying it with a kick. He apologized for not waiting until the 3 minutes had passed. The young lady became completely furious, shouting and asking how he had dared to eliminate her spiritual beast. Yang pointed out that she had asked him to endure for 3 minutes, but she had not said he could not eliminate the beast. Or maybe it was because she was so used to imposing her will that she did not even understand that basic principle. He thought that if he was going to pick a fight, he only had 2 available times, day and night, and even if she used forbidden spells, he would not fear her. She began releasing her aura, and he was surprised to see that she really was strong. However, someone interrupted the fight, telling her that the boy's identity was special and that she could not start a fight. Linger asked what that identity was. Jotai explained that Yang was a VIP at the temple and also a black gold level member of Alliance X. The Great Court had given clear orders to handle the protagonist's affairs very carefully. Linger was surprised and looked at the protagonist, saying that with those 2 identities, she wondered if he had also completed the 5-star transformation mission. The protagonist noticed that she had said also and asked if she was also a VIP at the temple. A little embarrassed, she said she had been until the 4th transformation and thought that back then She had barely managed to pass the first 3 levels with the full support of the Celestial Pavilion, but this guy had completed everything alone and still seemed relaxed, so how was that possible? The protagonist pointed out that if she had also been a VIP, then she should know how special that identity was and said that if there was nothing else for them to settle, he was leaving. Linger became very irritated and mounted her spiritual horse, telling everyone to retreat. Ming was annoyed and asked if it was really over just like that. The young lady asked if he really wanted to rob a temple VIP member and rebel against the temple itself. He became a little uncomfortable, saying no, and that it would be better to retreat. Yang looked at them and thought that it made no difference if that girl was the young lady of the Celestial Pavilion. He was curious whether that was really so amazing, because he wanted to see the look on her face when he managed to tame the Black Dragon. Then they would see who really called the shots there. Suddenly, the system notified him again about the 3rd transformation mission, Magic Warrior, 5-star class advancement mission, Trial of Magic and Strength. Number 1, Magic, Devouring Phantoms of the Ruined Mansion, complete. Number 2, Strength, Earth Dragon of the Wild Mountain Abyss, in progress. He said that now it was better to forget about Linger and focus on his mission, because he needed to eliminate the Earth Dragon. And after that, the secret mission would appear sometime later. At Wild Mountain, at the dungeon entrance, the Abyss Earth Dragon boss was still alive and had 100% of its health remaining. The Celestial Pavilion had just arrived. Linger pointed out that this was great because it seemed no one had come to face that dragon yet. Zhou Tai said he had reserved the slot just as the young lady had requested. Ming said they had already arranged everything. She began walking forward in irritation, saying that although its level was a little low, it was still a rare dragon-type boss, so they could use it to train a little. A guard stepped in front of her and asked her not to cut the line because there were other people ahead of her. Linger became even more irritated as she looked at her team. Ming went up to the guard and asked how he dared, questioning whether he knew who he was talking to, because they had reserved the time in advance and there had been no other group ahead of them. The guard asked him to calm down a little, saying that he was only an ordinary employee and did not have the courage to mess with them. However, a temple VIP had used his privilege to cut the line, and that was what the system showed. There was nothing he could do about it. Linger, already almost at the point of exploding, pointed out that if an employee was causing problems, they could simply replace him. A little behind them, the protagonist began approaching, asking them to make way because he did not want them delaying his entry into the dungeon. The young lady, already craving blood, looked at the protagonist and asked why he was there again. Ming went up to the protagonist, questioning why he was everywhere like an annoying fly. The protagonist pointed out that this was his line, because running into them twice in a row made him suspect that something was being plotted against him. Linger told him not to think so highly of himself, questioning whether he really thought she needed to waste time on him and saying that just because he had temple privileges, he thought he could do whatever he wanted. If he failed his advancement, then it would be the end of him. Yang thanked her for the warning but pointed out that they did not need to worry about him and asked what the young lady of the Celestial Pavilion was doing with such a low-level boss, asking if she was only there to intimidate the weak. Zhou Tai said that she was preparing to tame Black Flame Wings and that this Earth Dragon was only for training, so he could not interfere with her plans. The protagonist apologized, but that Earth Dragon was part of his class advancement mission, so he had no reason to give it up. Linger said he could go ahead. However, after she managed to tame the Black Dragon, not even the temple would be able to protect him. The protagonist looked down on her and told her to stop bragging about things that had not even happened yet, and that she could stay there waiting for the next boss to appear. He said goodbye to her and entered the dungeon. The bodyguard said that boy was an ill-mannered barbarian. Zhou Tai was surprised and asked if that boy was really going in alone. Besides, he had told them to wait for the next one to appear, which meant he really planned to eliminate that boss alone inside the dungeon. The protagonist was clearing all the monsters as if they were nothing, while thinking that the woman really wanted to tame the Black Dragon. And with the strength she currently possessed plus the help of the exploration team, maybe she really could. With her status, she must have some trump card up her sleeve, so he needed to speed up as much as he could. After advancing a little through the dungeon, he found a larger dragon sleeping and wondered if it was the Earth Dragon of the Abyss, because it looked more like a lizard than a dragon and was far inferior to the Black Dragon. That was the Earth Dragon of the Abyss, level 61, Wild Boss. Yang charged forward, saying that even without being able to use the lunar spirits or the demonic blade, he still had a stellar level weapon, and that was enough. He attacked the center of the dragon's skull using Spectral Mark. However, the dragon managed to withstand the attack and counterattacked. The protagonist laughed and said that the dragon's defense was quite high. He asked if all dragons had that kind of movement. He landed on the dragon's tail and began attacking its entire body, and after causing a good amount of damage, he jumped away, saying that, from the looks of it, there were no more minerals protecting that monster. He managed to land a very strong blow on the dragon's eye, taking away half of its health. He thought that he had already taken half the dragon's life, and now he only needed to keep pressuring it. However, the system warned that the Earth Dragon of the Abyss had entered Berserker mode. It curled up like an armadillo and began charging towards the protagonist, who quickly moved out of the way. However, the dragon turned, surprising Yang, who realized that the dragon could track him even in that form. He began retreating, thinking that there was no way to attack it like this, so he needed to come up with a plan. While retreating, he thought that the dragon's charge must be a phase transition skill from when the boss dropped to half health, and there had to be some way to stop it, some mechanism inside that dungeon. Suddenly, he found a granite wall and imagined that this was a very clear hint. He lured the dragon toward that wall, and as soon as the dragon hit it, it immediately stopped spinning, becoming dizzy and disoriented. The system warned that the Earth Dragon of the Abyss had been stunned by the impact and would receive 20% extra damage. Yang thought that now was not the time to hold back. Meanwhile, outside, Ming asked Zhou if they were really going to stay out there just watching. Zhou said that if he had any complaints about it, he could go speak directly to the young lady. The bodyguard went to Linger and said it would be better for them to go back, questioning whether she really believed the protagonist would be able to eliminate that boss alone. The young lady said they did not need to hurry because she wanted to see what Yang was capable of. Suddenly, a large screen appeared before them, saying that the protagonist had single-handedly eliminated the Earth Dragon of the Abyss boss in 20 minutes and 18 seconds, taking first place in the ranking. Second place belonged to the Phantom Cloud Guild with 8 people, who had taken 35 minutes and 56 seconds. In third place was the Blue Peak Pavilion Guild, with 8 people who had taken 37 minutes and 9 seconds. Everyone was surprised when they looked at it. Ming could not believe that Guy had really defeated the boss alone and even broken the time record because that was impossible and he must have cheated. Suddenly, Zhou began to hear a sound, and they realized that the protagonist was coming out. As soon as he appeared, he looked completely strange, asking what they were doing there. That was the Earth Dragon of the Abyss armor, the Earth Dragon of the Abyss soul, and the Earth Dragon of the Abyss boots. Everyone was stunned and began laughing. Yang asked what was so funny. He became embarrassed, thinking that he should have emptied his backpack before because it had filled up without him noticing, and now he was stuck wearing that Earth Dragon set. The problem was that it looked ridiculous. However, he did not back down and said that if they really thought it was so funny, they should try breaking his record alone at their own level. The protagonist began to leave, and Linger said that she truly admitted he was skilled. However, she asked what merit there was in defeating an Earth Dragon, because her target was far more difficult. Yang asked if that was true, because if that was the case, then he would tame the Black Dragon before she could do anything. The young lady became irritated and shouted at him, asking if that was some kind of joke and who he thought he was. The protagonist said his name was Su Yang, and that he was not only a VIP at the temple, but also the one who had tamed the Black Dragon. The system warned that the completion of the 5-star class advancement mission had been detected, confirming the items. Rusty Key confirmed. Earth Dragon of the Abyss blood confirmed. Secret class advancement mission unlocked. Secret class advancement mission series stage 2. Blood Glory. He thought that the secret mission had finally appeared. Mission description. In the Sleeping Mountains, there is an underground prison that no one dares to approach. It was an ancient secret labyrinth of a great mage who explored the power of blood, the glory of blood. He remembered that the Sleeping Mountains were located on the border of Celestial Spirit City, and the monsters there seemed to be of a higher level than those in the Wild Spirit Mountains. But that should not be a problem for him. Besides, the system had already confirmed the mission items, and judging by the mission's name, maybe it was connected to the secret mission. The rusty key might be for the prison. Earth Dragon of the Abyss blood. Blood containing the essence of an Earth Dragon. An extremely high-level ingredient. The protagonist said goodbye to the young lady, saying he needed to finish a mission, so they would see each other later. He thought that first, he needed to deal with the transformation and then head straight to the secret mission. The bodyguard continued trembling, saying that guy was far too arrogant. Zhou asked the young lady what they should do now. Linger, consumed by anger, told the two of them to keep an eye on the protagonist over the next few days, and as soon as he was about to start the next phase of his class advancement, they needed to report to her immediately. A little farther away, already during the night, the protagonist put on the armor, which became invisible on his body. He said that he had finally completed the transformation. The Earth Dragon of the Abyss set, platinum level, gave plus 448 strength, 12% physical damage reduction, plus 24% tenacity, reduced earth element damage received by 24%, and increased the effect of shields, barriers, and protective skills by 12%. He thought that the set was very worthwhile, and even though it was very ugly after the transformation, it should last until the 4th class advancement. And with his current strength, it would be a waste to use unlimited gems on that platinum level equipment. But now, it was time to go to the main objective. He went to the Sleeping Mountains. That area was covered by fog all year round, and it was said that countless beings were buried there. Once, an adventurer entered to explore it, but was never seen again. recommended level between 70 and 90. As he walked, he said that with such dense fog, he could barely see the surroundings, and it was no wonder they called the place the Sleeping Mountains. The atmosphere was cold and silent like a cemetery. He opened the map to take a look and see where the underground prison was, but when he looked at the map, he was shocked because it was far too distant, and from the looks of it, it would take a long time. While lamenting, something began observing him. He noticed and began to smile, saying that he would have to eliminate the monsters along the way. But suddenly, a monster was eliminated instantly. Someone began approaching, asking if he was all right and calling the protagonist handsome. The woman began to approach, asking what he was doing in the Sleeping Mountains at that level, questioning whether he had gotten lost and ended up in the wrong place. That was Zhang Yan, level 75, Thunder Swordmaster class. Yang thanked her for the help and said he was there to do a mission. Zhang Yan asked what kind of mission brought someone to the Sleeping Mountains at level 60. She asked if he had been tricked, and with a smile on her face pointed out that she was also there to collect materials for her 4th advancement and asked what he thought about teaming up, because if he wanted, she could look after him. The protagonist explained that the mission he was doing did not allow teamwork, so he would have to refuse. He began walking and disappeared into the fog, saying that he would see her next time and pointing out that he would be a little more careful. Zhang Yan watched him and wondered what kind of mysterious mission that was. The protagonist apologized, but cheating suited him a little better than playing fair. He summoned the 2 spirit wolves to guide the way. The wolves changed color and shot forward with impressive speed, like lightning. Yang, who was riding on top of his wolf, noticed that their color had changed, and maybe the summoning stone was also being influenced by the blood moon. For now, everything seemed fine, but he would need to check it later with the class advancement artifact in case it was a ticking time bomb. Quickly, he managed to cross the fog and reached a door. He pointed out that he had finally found the entrance, and from the looks of it, it had been very well hidden. Upon entering, he smelled a strong, irritating stench, like rotten flesh. There were several corpses on the walls. He thought that many people had died there, and it seemed they had all died instantly, with their blood drained. This could be the blood glory. He heard the iron gate slam down and said that it was no wonder there had been no monsters along the way because the being inside that place must have killed them all. A magic circle, as if it were some kind of ritual, was on the floor with several skulls around it. Something was glowing inside the monster at the center of the ritual. As soon as the protagonist approached to take it, the monster stood up, screaming. That was the level 75 boss, the dead mage's resentful zombie, a mage who had once gone mad while seeking the glory of blood. For some special reason, he had to die, but even in death, his resentment did not disappear. Any invader who entered this place would have their blood drained and used to nourish that dried-up body. However, the spirit wolves once again eliminated the boss with extreme ease. The protagonist told it to stop screaming because it was irritating. The system said he had eliminated the special boss, the dead mage's resentful zombie, gaining 213,211 experience points. Item obtained, Mad Mage's Experiment Notes. Yang was a little discouraged that he had only gained a book, but he decided to look at what was written inside. As soon as he opened it, he came across some notes. The information box was like the madman's diary. In it, he said that this book might have been a blessing from a demon, and that just looking at it made him feel suffocating fear. Soon he understood how the power and glory that came from blood worked. Sometime later, experiments with animals were completed, and the next step would be human testing. Of all the nearby villages with more than 100 people, only 3 were successful, which was far too few. 326 new test subjects were added, and the success rate was 60%. Then, 869 new test subjects were added, and the success rate was 100%. With that, he decided that now it would be his turn. Yang realized that lunatic had conducted a bunch of tests on humans and still failed in the end. He wondered if this would really help him. Suddenly, the system appeared again, saying that a mission item had been detected. Mad Mage's Experiment Notes. Detection complete. Reward obtained. Blood Blessing Ritual. The protagonist pointed out that he already knew there was another reward, and there it was. Blood Blessing Ritual, a special ritual recorded in a mysterious book, grants the power of blood, bringing back the glory of one's bloodline. Usage. Stand inside the Blood Blessing Ritual circle, consume the blood of a powerful creature, and begin the ritual. Yang thought that this seemed like a permanent enhancement buff. However, that mad mage had ended up killing himself by using it, so maybe it was far too risky. But he quickly changed his mind because the system should activate customer service just to avoid a random accident. After thinking for a while, he finally understood, because the usage required the blood of a powerful creature, and that mad mage had used ordinary human blood, which was why he failed. And by coincidence, Yang had Earth Dragon blood, and the secret mission had also given him that huge hint, so it made sense. However, he thought that when it came to powerful creatures, no one could compare to the Black Dragon. At that moment, because of that, he had just come up with a very bold idea. Yang asks the system if it is possible to connect with the boss when there are no intruders in the dungeon, and the system responds that while the connection countdown is being reset, the connection can be completed, but if intruders appear, he will be alerted automatically. The protagonist thinks this is great and asks his dogs to stay there, protecting the magic formation from anything that might interfere with it, then begins connecting with the boss. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Lilith is sitting alone, bored, and starts wondering what is wrong with the black dragon, since he had promised freedom but spends the entire day sleeping. She feels abandoned since she has been kidnapped for so long, and only that trash Lawrence showed up to try to save her, which makes it clear that the royal family does not care about the cursed princess at all. The connection is completed and the protagonist stands up, startling the princess, who shouts in irritation after being scared and asks if he is annoyed, but he responds that he only ran away out of habit. He says it is time to get straight to the point and attacks himself, leaving Lilith completely confused. Yang notices that his blood is golden and becomes certain that the dragon has noble blood, thinking that if he uses this blood in the ritual, he may obtain incredible results. The princess asks why he is suddenly hurting himself, and Yang says it is nothing, explaining that he only got a little carried away and let some blood spill. Lilith starts teasing him, asking if he was rejected by a little dragon girl in a dream, and the protagonist asks if she is worried about him, while the elf becomes embarrassed and replies that no one cares, saying she was only curious, and that he should not get the wrong idea. Yang starts putting the dragon blood into a vial, thinking that amount should be enough, and the system announces that the black dragon's blood essence has been stored in the storage. He says goodbye to her, saying he's going back to sleep, and Lilith asks why he is going to sleep again already and whether it is because he is still dreaming about the little dragon girl. The protagonist tells her to stop imagining things, saying the next wave of enemies will arrive soon and that because of that she needs to be patient. But when she asks how he is so sure, he has already fallen asleep. The princess gets irritated, shouts, asking why he always says such bizarre things, and also goes to sleep. Yang returns to the real world and notices that no one appeared to interfere, then enters the center of the formation thinking that, according to the mission sequence, he needs to stay there, then swallow the blood essence of a powerful creature, and that what happens next is completely unpredictable. He holds the dragon blood in his hand and starts drinking it, thinking that fortune favors the bold, but soon feels something extremely strong inside his body and falls to the ground, writhing in pain. He screams that everything is too hot, that his throat, body, and head feel like they are melting while the blood around him starts moving and sticking to his body as if it wants to devour and assimilate him. His guard dogs become worried and approach, but Yang tells them to stay away, explaining that this is only part of the ritual and that the weak are not worthy of receiving the blessing of the strong, because only beings who are equally powerful can evolve through pain. Quickly, the blood wraps around his entire body and the transformation is completed. Then everything calms down and the wolves begin approaching to check if their master is okay. Suddenly, the entire solidified layer of blood around the protagonist's body begins to crack, releasing a large amount of energy, and he realizes that his eyes have changed as he declares that the blood blessing ritual has finally ended. The blood shell breaks apart completely, and he feels that his body is much stronger, as if he has gone through a total transformation, one even superior to the bonuses from his previous class advancements. With this new power, he can now face even hunters of the 5th transformation, and by using the black dragon's blood essence to complete the blood blessing ritual, all of his attributes increased by 50%. In addition, he acquired a new ability called Primordial Black Flame, a destructive power controlled by the wings of black flames. Capable of instantly incinerating an ordinary person with the slightest contact, Yang creates a bit of flame in his hand and realizes that it is extremely violent, literally the personification of destruction and power. Before, he thought being a boss was not a big deal, but now he understands how terrifying the black dragon's strength is and how hopeless it must feel for the hunters who try to face him. He goes over to his guard dogs and with a smile on his face says that power commands respect from the weak and that naturally they bow before the strong, because animals understand this rule better than anyone. Eager to test his new power, he snaps his fingers to see what the black flame is capable of, releasing a huge amount of energy that creates a black flame that quickly begins destroying everything around him. The protagonist is startled, shouting that it is incredibly strong, and when he realizes the power is out of control, he calls the wolves to get out of there as fast as possible, causing a small explosion in the area. Yang looks back and sees that everything has been destroyed, thinking that now that the secret of the blood blessing has been completely buried, he will not be able to use it again, which is a shame, then concludes that he will need to learn how to control this power better the next times he uses the black flame. He opens the system screen, saying it is time to go back and complete his class advancement, but he is startled when he hears a cry for help, recognizing that the voice sounds familiar. He thinks it might be the female swordswoman he saw before. Zhang Yan, with her clothes torn and frightened, shouts for them not to come any closer, saying that if they take one more step, she will eliminate them all while a group of men above level 90 intimidates her. Leipu says that place is far too dangerous for a little girl to be alone, and that, because of that, he needs to protect her. Zhang Yan keeps shouting, calling them disgusting, and asking if they are not afraid of the Adventurers Association coming after them, and whether they do not fear the law. Wang Xiaoer asks who she is trying to scare, saying they do not care about that since everyone there has a few murders on their record. Chen Jin explains that they have been on the association's blacklist for a long time and cannot even enter cities, then asks how she can think they care about the law. The leader of the group starts laughing, saying he has been hunting for more than 15 days, and that finally a fat sheep has appeared alone, and on top of that a sweet little girl, which to him is like receiving a gift from the heavens. They begin approaching, saying that as long as she cooperates properly, she might even get a tip. Zhang Yan prepares to take her own life, tears streaming from her eyes, thinking she would rather die than go through that humiliation. Suddenly, something cuts off the leader's arm and he starts screaming in pain when he realizes he has lost his hand. Yang looks at them and says he had heard about a group of bandits attacking hunters who walked alone, but he did not expect to run into all of them gathered there. He asks how they would prefer to die. The leader, completely furious after losing his hand, orders his subordinates to attack and capture the boy alive, saying he will repay the favor by tearing off his limbs one by one. The bandits advance while Zhang Yan shouts for the protagonist to run and not worry about her, saying he is no match for all of them. Yang simply smiles and says that 4 hunters of the 4th transformation are not a big deal, and that before he might have needed to use a legendary item, but now the situation is different. The bandits attack at the same time, but the protagonist toys with them, dodging every blow and making them wonder why that boy is so fast. Yang thinks that he is no longer the same as before and with a simple kick, launches 3 of them into the air as if it were nothing. The leader tries a sneak attack, but in just a few seconds, Yang counterattacks and appears behind his opponent. Leipu is shocked to see his platinum-level sword break with just a touch and questions whether that dagger is stellar level. He shouts to the group that the boy is worth even more than the woman, because he is certainly full of treasures. The bandits start laughing, saying they have become rich, and try to attack again. Yang comments that boundless greed is a huge problem, and asks if they are not afraid they will not get the chance to enjoy what they steal. Releasing the devastating inferno, he says that for people like them, there is no reason at all to show mercy. The system announces that they have all been eliminated and reports that the obtained items are a strawberry-flavored rubber ring, a restraint kit, and a tight black bodysuit. Yang is startled by the items left behind and thinks those guys were nothing but a bunch of perverts who deserved the end they got. When the dust begins to settle, he realizes that everything around him has been completely devastated, which makes him conclude that the flames from the wings of black flames are far too powerful. He asks the young lady if she is okay, but Zhang Yan is in shock, questioning what that power was. The protagonist replies that it is a secret and asks her not to mention it, apologizing. Zhang Yan becomes embarrassed, starts smiling, and says she did not expect him to be so strong, admitting that she had been arrogant before. She thanks him for saving her life, saying that if he had not appeared, she probably would have taken her own life. Yang realizes that this girl is truly determined. She asks for his name and he introduces himself as Su Yang. Zhang Yan is stunned and asks if he really is Yang, saying she has heard An Yu talk a lot about him. The protagonist is confused and asks what she is talking about. Zhang Yan explains that the day before, Mu Rong and the others were at a party, and An Yu, while drunk, kept bragging about the protagonist to everyone, saying that he defeated a boss by himself. She smiles and says that everyone at the party now knows about him. Yang takes a deep breath, realizing that the gossip An Yu has already spread everything. He says goodbye, asking if she has a return scroll, because if she is fine, he will be leaving now. Zhang Yan answers yes, thanks him once again, and as he walks away, she keeps watching him, thinking that he is a very interesting guy. Back at the class advancement temple, the statue recognizes that the 5-star Magic Warrior Advancement mission, the Trial of Magic and Strength, is active. The Magic stage, the Devouring Ghost of the Ruined Mansion, is completed, as is the Strength stage, the Earth Dragon of the Rocky Abyss in the Savage Mountains, and the Secret Transformation mission's 2nd stage, Blood Glory, is also completed. The verification ends, and the transformation ceremony begins. With the transformation underway, his entire body is wrapped in the statue's power. The system notifies him that the statue's blessing has been received, granting an increase in vitality and a 25% bonus to all base attributes. The 3rd transformation is completed. The level limit increases to 80, and he begins gaining 25 base attribute points per level. Accumulated experience is detected, totaling 7.2 million, raising his level to 72 and granting 300 free attribute points. The class advancement is completed, evolving him from Magic Warrior into Arcane Mystic Weapon, granting 300 Strength points, 300 Spirit points, and a legendary passive skill book for the Magic Warrior. Something begins to appear on his arm and he realizes he is evolving into a new class. The Arcane Mystic Weapons skill set is ideal for fighting mages, allowing him to nullify magic, since the legendary skill cancels magical attacks, and if the user's spirit is greater than the caster's, the magic is nullified and deals double damage. He also acquires an epic skill called Arcane Armor, which consumes magical power to summon armor that reduces incoming magic damage by 30% and increases magic damage dealt by 30%. In addition, he receives an exclusive passive skill book for the arcane mystic weapon, Legendary Dual Cultivation, whose legendary stability increases physical damage by 1% for every 10 points of strength and magic damage by 1% for every 10 points of spirit. Currently, his total strength reaches 2,480, his speed reaches 1,761, and his spirit reaches 1,591, leaving Yang stunned when he realizes that, with these attributes, his physical damage has increased by 248%, and his magic damage increases by 159%. And with his new strength, even without using any skill, he can crush the Earth Dragon of the Abyss. Ling congratulates him, saying that his strength has now reached a new level, but the protagonist notices that she has a sad expression and asks if something happened. The priestess explains that the temple in East Spirit City only allows advancements up to the 3rd transformation, which means that from now on, he will have to go to Heavenly Spirit City. Just thinking that they will have to separate, she feels an emptiness she has never felt before. Suddenly, the statue begins to glow and the priestess is startled, asking what is happening and whether this could be the statue's blessing. The energy emanating from the statue starts moving toward her, striking the crucifix on her chest, and soon all that energy begins wrapping around the priestess's entire body. Yang thinks the scene is very similar to the blood blessing ceremony, the only difference being that his was dark and evil, while hers is pure and luminous. Ling emerges from the cocoon like an angel, and the blessing ceremony is completed, making her a 5th-class priestess, which means she will also need to go to the Temple of Heavenly Spirit City. Yang asks if she managed to reach the 5th advancement, and Ling explains that the advancement process for temple priests is different from that of hunters, but that this means she will continue by her hero's side, which makes her very happy. She leans against his chest, saying she's very tired from the advancement, and asks if she can rest for a while. The protagonist smiles, tells her to make herself comfortable, and comments that he feels much calmer with her nearby, saying that now they can go together to Heavenly Spirit City. Meanwhile, outside, the temple doors remain closed, and some people complain, until suddenly the door opens and the protagonist walks out carrying the priestess. People start questioning what he is doing and why he is carrying the priestess, and Yang becomes irritated by the comments, keeps walking, and announces that whoever is there for a class change can enter now. As always, an idiot who thinks he is strong grabs Yang by the shoulders, shouting for him to stop and demanding an explanation about what he did to the priestess, saying that until he explains, he's not going anywhere. Yang simply looks at him and tells him to get out of the way, and the man is startled by the terrifying aura, falls to the ground trembling, and says he almost pissed himself in fear from that look alone, asking who that guy is. The junior priestess calls the protagonist Lord and announces that she has just been promoted as the new priestess of the East Spirit City Temple. She asks if this means Ling will go to Heavenly Spirit City, and Yang confirms it, congratulating her on the promotion and raise. The priestess thanks him, but says she will feel a little sad not seeing either of them for a while. Yang tells her not to worry and promises he will visit her often, saying they can have tea or eat something together. With tears in her eyes, she smiles, says goodbye by saying it is a promise, and wishes them a good trip, while thinking that this means she still has a chance. Sometime later, already in Heavenly Spirit City, inside the Advancement Temple, someone thanks the protagonist for helping the new priestess arrive safely. She emphasizes that they will take good care of her, and that when she wakes up, she will assume her role as the priestess of Heavenly Spirit City, so his benefits and promotions will continue to be handled by her. Yang thanks her and realizes that now he will need to set up a base in that city, buy a property, and take care of his grandparents. He goes to the post office and writes a letter to his grandparents, explaining that he had to go to Heavenly Spirit City for work, but that things are going very well. Along with the letter, he sends some money, saying that he wants them and his siblings to have a better life, and that he will return to visit them whenever possible. With everything settled, he starts visiting some houses, and the salesman shows him a mansion with an ocean view, fully equipped with every facility for only 9.98 million, where he can move in the very same day. Yang looks over the house and comments that it is very beautiful, but too big for him. The salesman tells him not to worry and explains that for 1 million more, he will have a dedicated team to take care of everything, so he will not need to worry about anything else. All the women on the team welcome their new master, and the protagonist gets excited, smiling and saying it is time to sign the papers. A short while later, he's already living like a king, lying on the bed, feeling fulfilled and thinking about how great it is to have money, remembering that not long ago he could barely imagine a life like this. Relaxed, he realizes it is already time to sleep, because the next morning he needs to go check on Ling. Meanwhile, in a room inside the temple, Ling starts waking up and asks where she is, The senior priestess is happy to see her awake and says she prepared an herbal soup to help with her recovery. Ling starts eating, thanks her, and says she is already feeling a little better. The senior priestess comments that the statue had not reacted in a very long time and that now it is time to reveal the new hero, showing curiosity and asking what he is like. Ling replies that this new hero is capable of performing miracles, besides being incredibly brave, very strong, and the owner of a kind and resilient heart, saying that she believes he can bring hope to the whole world. The senior priestess says Ling has always had good judgment, so she feels at ease leaving Heavenly Spirit City in her hands. Then she looks out the window and comments that the blood moon has already lasted for many days, which means that event is approaching and that they need to be careful. Ling is surprised, wonders how she managed to forget about that, and starts running. The senior priestess asks where she is going, and Ling shouts that the protagonist still does not know about the blood moon invasion and that, because of that, she needs to warn him immediately. Meanwhile, as this happens, she says her prayers asking for him to be safe. The senior priestess observes the scene, notices how worried Ling is, and wonders if she has really fallen in love with that boy. At the same time, in his new house, Young sleeps peacefully like an angel until he suddenly hears a scream. He runs outside asking what is happening, and sees one of his maids collapsed on the floor, trembling in fear and screaming that there is a monster there. The system indicates that a rare event has been activated called the Blood Moon Invasion, and that he needs to defeat an invading monster. The monster is called the Giant Executioner. Its level is unknown, it belongs to the demon clan, and it is a boss. The creature stares at the protagonist and says he is the chosen one and must be eliminated. Yang begins releasing his power with a serious expression, and comments that being woken up in the middle of the night is a very bad thing, since he has a serious problem with being in a bad mood when he wakes up. So he intends to finish this quickly and go back to sleep. Suddenly, he senses someone else's presence, and Linger appears, saying that it seems the protagonist is the target of that night's blood moon invasion. Yang asks why she is there again, but Linger, with a look of contempt, tells him to step aside, saying he has no chance against that monster, and that she will handle the blood moon invasion. Yang, still stressed, asks what the hell this blood moon invasion is and what it means, but Linger ignores him, saying she has no obligation to answer anything, and that if he wants to know, he should ask someone else. Then she summons her spirits and orders them to attack. The monster starts defending itself, and the area around them begins to be destroyed. Yang shouts that he just renovated his new house and that they cannot make such a mess there. In the middle of the chaos, Ling comes running over, calling for the protagonist and asking if he is okay. Yang is surprised to see her and asks what she is doing there. The priestess clings to his body, asking him to be careful, explaining that she woke up, saw that the blood moon was still in the sky, and realized that she had not explained the blood moon invasion. So she became so worried that she ran straight to him. Yang sits her down in a chair and asks her to explain more clearly what is happening. Ling begins explaining that whenever the blood moon appears, monsters from an unknown dimension suddenly emerge. They're called the Scarlet Decay and attack any hunter who has already gone through 3 transformations, with the sole purpose of killing them. This event is known as the Blood Moon Invasion, and a hunter killed by these monsters cannot be resurrected. According to the temple records, all invasions only occur after a hunter reaches the 3rd advancement, which is why she should have explained everything after he evolved. The protagonist says he understands, but he is still confused because if it is a specific event that happens after the 3rd advancement, then why is that monster so strong? Ling agrees, saying the creature's strength goes beyond imagination, and that Linger's goal is probably the Blood Moon Crystal Core to match her own strength. Apparently, the monsters of the Scarlet Decay this time have a specific characteristic. Yang starts thinking that normally a monster of the 3rd transformation could not suddenly evolve into the 5th, unless its level and strength were not fixed but changed dynamically. The fight escalates to an even greater level, destroying even more of the area. Linger begins feeling pressured because she did not imagine that a monster at the 3rd transformation could have so much power, and concludes that she may need to use everything she has, otherwise she will not win. Yang steps in front of them and interrupts the fight, saying it is better for them to stop because if they keep going like this, they will destroy the house he just bought, and besides, the monster is after him, so he should handle the situation himself. Linger, irritated, asks how he intends to do that, saying that if he wants to die, she will not stop him, but that he should not cry and beg for help afterward. Yang releases the darkness and tells her to just stand still and watch, while the pressure around them begins to increase. The darkness advances toward the monster, and taking on a shadowy form, he approaches with ease. Using the spectral mark, he unleashes a powerful attack that reduces the monster's life to 40%. Linger cannot believe that a single blow took away 60% of the creature's life. Yang realizes he was right, because the monster's strength changes according to the target, and now it is only at the 3rd transformation. With his increased speed, he easily dodges every attack and holds the monster's weapon as if it were nothing, thinking that, thanks to the blessing of dual cultivation, he can defeat it with brute force alone. With a simple attack, he throws the monster backward, making it crash into the middle of this garden and increasing the repair costs even more. The monster gets up, consumed by rage, shouting that the hunter must die immediately. Yang continues increasing his strength and comments that the creature is hunting hunters, but clearly is not even remotely qualified. With a final blow, he completely destroys the monster's arm and defeats it once and for all. The system identifies the creature's level as 75 and reports that the protagonist gained 114,514 points, as well as obtaining the Blood Moon Crystal Core. Yang observes the defeated monster and comments that he did not have any difficulty. Ling is enchanted to see the hero resolve everything in an instant, realizing just how incredible he is. On the other hand, Linger becomes irritated and indignant, remembering that she has gone through several Blood Moon invasions and seen many people deal with similar situations, but she has never witnessed such a brutal slaughter. So shocked by his overwhelming power, she even wonders if there is some wild beast behind that human appearance and leaves, saying that he cannot count this as a victory because next time she will make him pay. Yang watches without understanding why that girl is always talking to herself. Then he takes the core to the priestess and asks if that is what Linger was looking for and why that item is so special. Ling says that it is the Blood Moon Crystal Core, but while explaining, she realizes something is wrong. The protagonist looks in the direction of what made her uneasy and feels his body become strange, as if something were observing his very essence. Ling runs to try to help him, but Yang loses consciousness before she can do anything. Sometime later, he begins to wake up and realizes there is something touching his face, then asks where he is, but becomes startled when he notices what is right in front of him. Ling is relieved to see that the hero has finally woken up. Yang remains confused and startled, asking what is going on and why the two of them are lying in the same bed. She tells him not to panic and starts explaining that the night before, he was cursed by the Scarlet Decay, but she performed a purification ritual. Still not understanding, the protagonist asks what this ritual is, and Ling explains that, according to Article 921 of the Temple Regulations, when a hero fights against those infected by the Scarlet Decay, he may end up absorbing that energy. If the scarlet energy accumulates too much, the hero may end up turning into a monster, and that is why it is the duty of the dedicated priestess to purify him after battle. She explains that the ritual requires close contact between the two of them, and that, since he had passed out, it was necessary to take him to the room and remove his clothes, making the situation a little embarrassing. Ling starts coughing, and something appears on her neck, catching Yang's attention, and he asks what happened and why she has that mark. Ling tells him not to worry and says everything is fine, explaining that temple priestesses have a special constitution that allows them to purify scarlet contamination on their own. With the help of the divine statue, that level of contamination will disappear in 1 or 2 days at most. Even after hearing the explanation, Yang feels guilty, holds her hands and asks her not to push herself too hard, saying that if she gets hurt because of him, he will feel even worse. Ling is both surprised and enchanted, and embarrassed, tries to change the subject, saying that she still has not explained the benefits of the 5-star third transformation. She begins by saying that starting from the third transformation, as a temple VIP, the hero begins receiving several benefits. His previous monthly salary of 50 million now rises to 1 billion, and the discount on purchases with the Alliance's Black Gold card increases from 30 to 50%. In addition, he gains the right to join an S-rank guild. Yang is surprised to realize that his salary increased 20-fold, and comments that the temple is far too generous. As for joining an S-rank guild, he thinks that perhaps it is still not the ideal time because advancing too quickly may attract unnecessary attention. Ling continues explaining and says that the most important thing is that the exchange shop for Blood Moon Crystal Cores has been opened. Yang asks what that shop is about, and Ling explains that it was created by the temple to allow Blood Moon Crystal Cores to be exchanged for extremely rare items, such as equipment, divine artifacts, and even forbidden spells. All he needs to do is place his hand on the divine statue to view the available items, which is probably why Linger wanted a core from that invasion so badly. Thinking about this, Yang decides to check what can be exchanged. In the shop, he finds several items, such as a first-class forbidden spell for 300 cores, a second-class forbidden spell for 900 cores, the semi-divine artifact Song of Day and Water, a long sword for 4,000 cores, the semi-divine artifact Heart of the Ocean for 4,000 cores, and even a divine artifact, the long spear Eternal Golden Spear, for 10,000 cores. He is impressed by the quality of the items and starts wondering if he will really be able to exchange for any of them in the future. However, the starting price is already 300 cores, and he currently has only 3, realizing that the road ahead will be long. Even so, he concludes that he needs to grow stronger and stronger, because the faster he eliminates the monsters of the Scarlet Decay, the faster he will be able to accumulate cores. Ling says goodbye, saying she needs to return to the temple to fulfill her duties, while Yang comments that he also needs to take care of rebuilding the destroyed areas of his house. Before leaving, Ling remembers to warn him that she heard a foreign envoy will soon visit Heavenly Spirit City. Somewhere else in the city, in the country of Longxia, a small portal opens and several people cross through. A young woman observes the city with curiosity and admiration. Her name is Asuri Makiko, a level 125 beast tamer from the country of Sakura and the daughter of the Asuri family. The people accompanying her comment that, this time, the master spared no effort so she would have the chance to tame a dragon. Since there are no dragon dungeons in the country of Sakura, and the capitalists of the Eagle Federation are far too greedy, they had no choice but to come to Heavenly Spirit City. An elderly man called Mr. Lee welcomes the group, introducing himself as the city's diplomatic consul. The visitors thank him for the reception, and Lee comments that he heard Miss Makiko intends to challenge the fiercest and most brutal of the Black Dragons, asking if they are confident. The woman accompanying Makiko smiles and tells him not to worry, saying they are very confident in their abilities, because not even the prodigy tamer Linger would be a match for her. The old man laughs, saying they are young and very energetic, while the woman replies that there is no need for flattery. Makiko interrupts the two, saying it seems Mr. Lee and Woozy got along far too quickly, since they are already talking like old acquaintances on their first meeting. She adds that they have just arrived and do not know the place yet, asking him to show them around the city a little. Lee wonders how the Asuri family managed to raise such an innocent girl, so different from that grumpy old man accompanying her. He then explains that the black dragon they are looking for is located outside Heavenly Spirit City, in Yangfeng, and that the teleportation point is just ahead. They only need to follow it on their own to reach their destination, because he still has official matters to handle and cannot accompany them. Makiko thanks him for the information, but her companions are not happy, saying that the old man is not being very kind, because they have just arrived in that city and are already being sent straight to another city without even receiving a proper welcome. They comment that this happens because Longxia is far too powerful and does not care about small countries like Sakura. Makiko scolds the two, asking what they are complaining about, and emphasizes that this is those people's territory and that they are only visitors. Besides, there is an ancient tradition in Longxia that only respectful guests follow the rules of the house, and if that gentleman gave them authorization, then it is better not to cause trouble. While they are discussing, Linger asks Zultai if that is the prodigy tamer from the country of Sakura named Asuri Makiko. He confirms it, explaining that she entered the Global Tamers Association at the same time as Linger and also has impressive talent, making it very likely that her target is the Black Dragon. Linger asks what threat a little girl from a small country could possibly pose, saying that her biggest problem right now is Yang, and asks if they managed to find anything about him. Zultai replies that they investigated a little more deeply, and that the protagonist recently acquired the initial warrior profession, but in a short time quickly leveled up and strengthened his abilities, with the most unbelievable part being the fact that he did all of it alone. Linger becomes irritated because she is growing increasingly surprised by this mysterious man, who always manages to do the unexpected, even at a lower level, and perhaps he really might be able to tame the Black Dragon. This is so intriguing that she starts wondering if she is truly afraid of someone who has only just reached the third transformation. Makiko starts leaving, and Linger comments that they also need to go prepare because they will depart the next morning. Makiko stops in front of the portal, turns around, and with a smile on her face, greets Linger, who is very surprised to realize she was discovered even while using a stealth artifact, understanding that she underestimated Makiko and that she may also be a major threat. Irritated by the situation, Linger changes her mind and asks Zultai to gather everyone at the entrance of the Black Dragon's lair in a half an hour, because they need to prepare to enter the dungeon. Meanwhile, inside his house, Yang is coordinating the cleaning and reconstruction when the system announces that invaders have been detected challenging the dungeon and asks if he wishes to connect. He confirms the connection while his subordinates ask where he is going, since the renovation is not finished yet, and he apologizes, saying that an urgent matter has come up and asking them to take care of the house. As soon as the connection is made, the system informs him that the challenging guild is S rank, with an exploration group of 24 people. Yang uses the mirror to see who the leader is and realizes it is Linger, who shouts that if they manage to tame the Black Dragon, everyone will be very well rewarded. Yang starts laughing, thinking that now she will pay all the repair costs and previous troubles with interest. He realizes that the exploration group this time is better prepared, with more members and top-tier equipment, which will not be easy to deal with. The Black Dragon's servants tell him not to worry and to leave the intruders to them. Yang finds it strange, since he has never seen them before, until Lilith asks if he remembers the day he lost control and injured himself, explaining that afterward those two licked the spilled blood and ended up transforming. Yang is impressed to discover that directly consuming dragon blood also has an effect, but the princess emphasizes that only those two managed to transform, although there are still others behind them. He realizes that two monsters underwent different mutations, and concludes that an improvised army made with dragon blood will not work very well. Even if those two are not as strong as he is now, they may be on the same level as the wings of black flames before evolution, so they should not be underestimated, and he orders them to intercept the enemies. He notices that the elf seems a little bothered and asks if something happened, but she only turns her face away, saying it is nothing, while thinking with a sad expression that this time, the hero team is incredibly strong and might really be able to defeat the black dragon. Meanwhile, the heroes advance cautiously. Zultai asks everyone to stay fully alert, but Linger says they are too tense, because even if the black dragon has evolved to the stellar stage, the monsters around it are still the same. Zultai remains cautious, believing that it is better to be safe than sorry. The protagonist's two envoys finally appear, and the group warns that elite bosses have been spotted. Zultai comments that this is exactly why he was staying alert, but Linger remains arrogant, saying they are only two elite monsters and that they need to defeat them quickly. The exploration group organizes itself to attack and with good coordination, manages to control the situation. One of the wounded dragons stands up, shouting that for the glory of his lord he must kill the intruders, becoming even stronger. The adventurers are impressed to see that the power increase is even greater than Berserk mode, and they realize that both of them are summoning reinforcements. Linger calls her fleet, asks them not to panic, and says they only need to follow the plan by draining the enemy's life, because no matter how many minions appear, they are still weak. She orders the tanker to draw the minions' attention while the rest focus on the boss, allowing her spirit beast to enter the fight. The group becomes motivated again, saying that with her help, there is no way they can lose. They attack once more, and with the support of the beast, the situation changes. Before the final blow, Linger asks them to leave one of them with low health, because she intends to try taming it, since even in humanoid form, it is still a dragon. Upon realizing he was being controlled, the dragon shouts that those humans are trying to control him and that he will never allow it. Linger keeps trying, telling him to become part of her power. Quickly, the dragon begins losing part of his consciousness and asks who he is, and she replies that now he is his mistress's loyal servant. Still confused, the dragon asks if that is true, while his brother tries to wake him up, telling him not to be deceived by that woman. The protagonist, watching everything through the mirror, thinks this is absurd, because that woman invaded his territory and is even trying to take his subordinates. Even though, from a player's perspective, capturing pets is normal, as the boss, he cannot let her do whatever she wants inside the dungeon. He looks at the rotten meat in his inventory and thinks that the formation of that group is very strong and that he will not be able to win, even at the stellar level, perhaps having to eat it to advance. Lilith looks at the rotten meat, says it is disgusting, and asks if he is really going to eat that. Yang realizes he has no choice and that if he wants to win, this is the only way. So without hesitation, he throws the piece of meat into his mouth and swallows it. Lilith, unable to believe it, asks what it tastes like, and the protagonist, trembling, replies that it is disgusting, sticky, and smells like sewage. Soon the effect appears, and a glow begins to emanate from inside his heart, creating a pillar of energy that stretches from the ground to the sky. Even from a distance, the adventurers can see it. The dragon that had not yet been enchanted realizes that golden light belongs to his lord, while the other, who had almost been dominated, understands that his true king is not that woman. Linger feels the pressure and realizes that a powerful force is coming from the fortress, but she does not know what is happening, becoming shocked when she sees the black dragon. The dungeon informs the adventurers that an unknown factor has been detected, causing the dungeon boss, Wings of Black Flames, the Dragon Athos, to undergo a mutation. According to the evaluation, the boss Wings of Black Flames, the Black Dragon Athos, has had his power raised to the Radiant Moon level, reaching level 150, and the dungeon has been updated to the Radiant Moon level. Yang thinks the evolution was successful and that the next step is to crush the invaders. The entire group is in shock, shouting whether this is some kind of joke because the dragon evolved as if no rules existed. Zultai tries to calm his companions, saying he understands the shock, but they need to stay calm. The group asks Linger what they should do because a Radiant Moon level boss is far beyond what they can face. Even apprehensive, she asks everyone to stop shouting, saying that perhaps this is a dungeon system error because it is impossible for a boss of that level to exist there. The protagonist cannot believe that, even after seeing it with her own eyes, she still thinks it is a system error, which shows how naive that girl is and how badly she needs a lesson. Zultai notices that the dragon is about to attack and shouts for everyone to use their damage reduction skills to the maximum, because they need to survive. The adventurers try to protect themselves, but with just one attack from the protagonist, everything around them is completely destroyed, and Zultai goes into shock when he realizes that 10 members of the team have been eliminated. He understands that this is the true power of a Radiant Moon-level boss. Even so, they were prepared, and Zultai activates the Emerald Ring of Life, which revives the players and restores their health to maximum, but can only be used once. Those who had been defeated begin to stand up again to fight. Yang realizes they even used a resurrection item, making it clear that they invested heavily this time. Linger summons all her beasts, shouting that the boss has just used a massive skill and will be vulnerable for a while, saying that now is the time to attack with everything they have. Everyone begins attacking with everything they have, even throwing stones from the ground. Yang remains still, receiving all the attacks. Linger realizes that they are not causing any damage at all, and Zultai explains that the boss already possesses the dragon heart, and that the initial plan was to weaken him little by little. Liu Ti warns that this strategy only works against normal bosses, because this is a radiant moon-level boss, and his aura alone already weakens everyone around him. The protagonist prepares to attack again, thinking that before absolute power, cheap tricks do not work. The adventurers start to panic because their damage reduction has not regenerated yet and they will not be able to defend themselves. Yang uses Dragon Impact, destroying the ground and leaving most of the adventurers gravely injured, while some still try to help their companions. Liu Ti asks them to give up, saying there is no way for them to save themselves and that it is better to accept death. Linger finally realizes the mistake she made because they were almost annihilated with just one blow, something she cannot comprehend. Zultai gathers the survivors and shouts for the young lady to flee while they try to hold him back as long as possible. She refuses at first, asking if he's really telling her to run after everything they prepared. Zultai replies that ever since the Black Dragon evolved, they lost any chance of victory, and that the best thing now is to minimize their losses, begging her to survive and report everything to the master. Even reluctant, Linger realizes there is no chance of winning and accepts the idea, saying she will withdraw for now. However, the protagonist thinks she cannot escape because she is the main course of the banquet. The adventurers who stay behind try to draw the boss's attention, saying he cannot go after the young lady because his opponents are there. Yang realizes they are sacrificing themselves to ensure her escape, recognizing that it is a heroic act, but they cannot resist for even a minute. Meanwhile, Linger runs as fast as she can, thinking she has lost miserably and wondering how she can consider herself a genius after this. She tries to comfort herself, saying that no one would be capable of defeating a radiant moon-level black dragon, and if even she could not do it, then neither could that girl from Sakura nor that idiot Yang. As she runs, she has an idea, thinking that maybe she has not lost because if she manages to return alive and find another dragon, she can still recover. Suddenly, she crashes into something, and when she looks ahead, she cannot believe what she sees, because all the adventurers who stayed behind could not hold the dragon back for even a minute. She calls another of her beasts, shouting for them to try to hold back the dragon, but she ends up being captured, and her beasts are easily defeated. She starts shouting for the boss to let her go, but the protagonist asks why mere humans like them think they can kill him, saying that it is pathetic, and that now they must pay for their own stupidity with their lives. He prepares to devour her, and in a moment of despair, she starts crying very loudly, which surprises Yang. Linger begins venting, saying she did not want to lose to the protagonist, much less to that girl from another country, and that she did not want to disappoint her father either, because she only wanted to prove that she is the best tamer and not be left behind or devoured. The protagonist stares at her, unable to believe that deep down she is so simple and fragile. Even though he understands that she is only competitive, he decides not to let her go for free, but also chooses not to devour her. He says he will give her a quick and painless death, launching fire at her face, because in the end, humans and monsters are natural enemies, and she can consider herself unlucky for having crossed his path. After defeating all the invaders, a glow begins to emerge from inside his body and once again surrounds his entire being. He thinks this was the largest amount of experience he has gained so far, several times greater than when he defeated the elf mage. He lets out a terrifying roar because, with the bonus from the dragon blood essence, it feels as if an immense power is about to explode inside him. Even so, almost 32 million experience points only gave him 7 levels, showing that the further one advances, the more exponential the amount needed to evolve becomes. He realizes that to keep leveling up, he will need to face even stronger monsters and hunters. Looking at the items left behind, he notices several pieces of platinum and diamond level equipment, but they no longer make much of a difference to him. However, there is still something valuable left behind by Linger. A ring forms, and the system informs him that it is a radiant moon-level equipment called the Ring of Spiritual Rescue. The ring has unlimited space for gems and can be used at any level, as long as the user has 1,000 points in base attributes. It is a relic left behind by a great spiritual master after death, who became so immersed in spiritual resonance that he still whispers during meditation. The ring grants 600 spirit points and 40% spiritual resistance. The first trait is passive, Eternal Meditation, which permanently increases the user's spirit by 1% per day up to a maximum of 10%. The second trait is active, Spiritual Master's Blessing, which consumes mana to make the user immune to mental interference for 1 hour, failing only if the enemy's spirit is 50% higher than the user's. Yang is surprised to realize that it really is Radiant Moon level equipment. Even though it is only an accessory, the bonuses are not as exaggerated as those from weapons, but they are still absurdly good, especially the spirit and spiritual resistance. In addition, the ring has unlimited space for gems, completely removing the level requirement, which makes him think that he really needs to thank Linger when he meets her again. While analyzing the items, he notices something strange in the space around him and wonders if another expert is involved. Suddenly, a first-level forbidden scroll appears, and the system identifies it as the scroll of the Wind God's Wrath, capable of destroying anyone who dares to provoke him. Yang becomes even more satisfied after acquiring another forbidden spell, now possessing 2 important trump cards to use when necessary. He concludes that it is no wonder she is the young lady of the Heavenly Pavilion, since she carries so many powerful items. Then he starts returning to the fortress because once the news of the exploration group's defeat spreads, no one will dare attack him anytime soon. And now it is time to end the Wings of Black Flames mission. Watching the sunset, Lilith feels satisfied to see that the obvious has happened again. The dragon has won once more. Besides, he is the being who, in the future, will give her true freedom, although she still does not know how that will happen. After ending the connection, Yang returns home, goes to the wall and notices that everything has already been repaired. One of his subordinates comments that since he paid double, the craftsmen gave it their absolute best. He throws himself onto the sofa, saying he is exhausted, and asks all of them to give him a full massage so he can relax. Meanwhile, outside the Black Dragon's dungeon, the exploration group is completely devastated, questioning what kind of absurdity this is, because every time they try to face that demon, he seems to become even stronger. Zultai shouts for them to stop complaining and asks if anyone saw the young lady, but no one has seen her since the retreat, raising the fear that the same thing may have happened as the other time with the necromancer. Zultai then hears quiet crying and follows the sound to a rock, where he finds Linger completely devastated. With tearful eyes, she says she lost, that she was prepared to tame the Black Dragon, but was defeated shamefully, and that she no longer has the right to call herself a great beast tamer. He coughs to get her attention, startling her, and says he came to report the losses. Linger asks him to tell Jia Yue all of that when they return, because she does not want to hear it. Zultai changes the subject after noticing her bad mood and emphasizes that no one could have predicted the dragon would evolve, and that losing to a Radiant Moon-level boss is not shameful. He says she can still tame another dragon. Hearing this, Linger has a great idea, realizing that everything he said is true, because neither Makiko nor Yang would be capable of defeating a Radiant Moon-level Black Dragon. So, if she manages to tame another dragon before them, she will still be the #1 beast tamer. And besides the Black Dragon and Longxia, there is also a Red Dragon and a Silver Dragon. The Red Dragon is a little weaker, and the Silver Dragon is stronger, but both are stellar level, and if she manages to tame the Silver Dragon, then perhaps it will become the most powerful dragon ever tamed by a beast tamer in the world. She agrees with him, saying that this time he was very wise, because she always thought he was just a brute, but it seems he has good insight. Excited, she shouts for the entire group to report all losses to Zultai because the Heavenly Pavilion will cover all the damages. But Makiko appears there, asking who they are and whether she is Linger. Linger says that she is and asks if they are also there to tame the Black Dragon. Makiko, all excited, says yes and introduces herself, but Linger simply ignores her, wishes her good luck, and walks away. Woozy starts getting irritated, saying that woman is very rude and that, as the young lady of the Heavenly Pavilion, she should be a little more polite, while mockingly saying that girl must have failed to tame the Black Dragon and is now just taking her frustration out on others, and that it serves her right. Makiko hits her, saying that girl is already irritated so she needs to stop talking nonsense and go straight to the dungeon. Woozy gets a little upset and goes to the entrance to start the dungeon, but she is surprised to see that the dungeon's level is Radiant Moon. The subordinates become irritated, asking if it was not supposed to be stellar level, because if it really is Radiant Moon, there is no way they can fight that thing, and perhaps Longxia is making fools of them. Woozy, also not understanding what was happening, asks them to contact Mr. Lee immediately. Lee answers the phone, says he is already aware of the situation, and sincerely apologizes for the sudden change, asking them to rest in Heavenly Spirit City, and saying that, as a courtesy, he will send someone to take them to an inn so they can settle in. After they have a little more information, they will discuss the details again. Woozy thanks him for his kindness and hangs up. But Mr. Lee still finds the whole thing very strange, since the Black Dragon evolved from Diamond level to Radiant Moon all at once, and that has never happened before, so perhaps something is manipulating that dungeon. The next day, at the dungeon entrance, the protagonist begins approaching, and compared to the day before, it is now much calmer, but that was already expected after even the strongest group in Heavenly Spirit City was wiped out. Releasing his power, he starts smiling, thinking that now it is time for 40 minutes of fighting without hard feelings. Already inside the Black Dragon's lair, he starts looking toward the horizon because, in the past, he was the one who connected to the Black Dragon and watched the challengers enter the dungeon. But now, it is finally his turn to enter as a challenger, and this feeling is simply extraordinary. The first monsters begin to approach, and he realizes that the grand reception has arrived because this scene feels very familiar. He starts laughing and tells the beast to open their eyes and see who is really standing before them. His aura begins to spread, creating terrifying pressure, and the monsters start asking if that is Lord Athos's aura. Like a true demon, he begins to smile while looking at his opponents, and the monsters wonder how a mere human can have Lord Athos's aura, but the flames around him leave no doubt those are the flames of the king. Speaking in the language of dragons, he orders all of them to disappear immediately, because the battle against the Black Dragon is about to begin, and he has no time to deal with insignificant creatures. The smaller monsters become frightened and immediately retreat. He calls the lunar wolves and asks them to stand guard, releasing radiant moon-level pressure to drive the creatures away, and with his confidence at its peak, he begins the mission. Meanwhile, in the fortress, the dragon stands up, and the elf princess asks if he has already woken up, saying that this time, the challenger came very early. The Black Dragon flies at high speed after the invader, and she watches to see who the unlucky ones are who are about to become sacrifices for the Black Dragon this time, because it is always an overwhelming victory, and that is why she has already given up on freedom, since no one should trust the word of a monster. At the dungeon entrance, the two wolves were standing guard when suddenly the dragon lands in front of them. One looks at the other, asking how they are supposed to fight because there is no way to defeat that dragon. But then they realize that the huge black creature has their master's scent and wonder if it is possible that the dragon devoured him. But they quickly discard the idea since it makes no sense, because if that were the case, they would have turned to dust. Suddenly, the black dragon attacks himself, and the wolves think the dragon has gone insane. The protagonist, who was behind all of this, remembers that last time he managed to injure himself while he was the Black Dragon because the damage reduction skill did not work. However, if he injures himself down to half health, that should be enough, since if he goes beyond that, it could greatly affect the item drop rate. He lowers the dragon's health to 50% and, still controlling the dragon, orders him to follow his commands, telling him to stand still without moving. In addition, he needs to suppress his regeneration as much as possible and order all the monsters in the dungeon to stop moving. After giving the orders, he disconnects and appears in front of the dragon. The wolves are happy to see that their master is still alive, and he walks toward the dragon, thanking him. It was thanks to the Black Dragon that he was able to turn things around after starting from a weak class, so it is impossible not to feel emotional in this situation, but now a new path has opened, and he needs to move forward. He releases all of his power, shouting for the dragon to die and then be reborn as a servant, because together they will conquer even greater towers, and the name of Lord Athos will echo throughout the world. 2 hours later, one of the wolves says he is about to faint. Yang is completely exhausted and can barely feel his hands anymore from attacking so much. And even so, it still is not over, because the Lord's health is still at 19%. After taking a potion, he says that now he can understand what challengers feel, because if it were not for his absurd attributes, combined with the 900% damage increase from the spectral mark and dual cultivation, he would not even be able to break through Athos's defense. He prepares for the second round, saying he just needs to hold on a little longer to end this. In the fortress, the elf princess was sleeping, but a deafening noise echoes and she wakes up startled, asking if that is the roar of the Black Dragon. The clouds begin to scatter, the mist rises, and all the servants begin to disappear, calling out to their king. The princess starts running, worried, and realizes that the Black Dragon's aura has disappeared. Yang looks at his longtime companion and says that this is the end, as the feared Black Dragon begins to die. The system announces that he defeated the radiant moon-level boss, Wings of Black Flames Athos, and gained 103.21 million experience. The dungeon boss was eliminated, and all monsters died automatically, granting another 8.02 million experience. His level rises from 79 to 80, with 40% of the experience converted, leaving 53.96 million remaining. He realizes that this is an absurd amount of experience, 3 times greater than what he gained from killing dozens of 5th transformation hunters from Linger's group, and this was only expected from a radiant moon-level boss. A giant golden sword appears before him, shrinks in size, and Yang holds it, feeling something strange, as if a wild power is exploding inside him. The system informs him that it is a unique item, the Dragonbone Greatsword Athos, the Devourer, which bears the name of Athos, the offspring of the ancient Devourer who fell into the Tomb of Death. Its bones became the sword, and its blood became the soul. Its remains are immortal, and its hunger is eternal. The equipment requires no level or special attributes, grants 500 points of strength, spirit, and speed, as well as a 10% reduction in physical and magical damage, and 10% spiritual resistance. The Devourer trait allows the sword to absorb 10% of a dragon's attributes when killing it, and the unique trait, Soul Mark, prevents the item from dropping even after death. He decides to test the sword's power and, with a single movement, destroys everything in front of him, even mountains. He shouts in shock, saying that it is unbelievably strong, and that even if the bonuses are not the best, the true secret lies in its growth potential, because the sword can devour dragons and add 10% of their attributes. That ability alone is terrifying, but that is to be expected from a weapon dropped by a black dragon, with no level restrictions, and unique, noble, and luxurious properties. According to the system's description, Wings of Black Flames is a descendant of the ancient Devourer, which explains his strength being comparable to that of adult dragons even though he is young. And now he understands why the system chose him. In addition, he completes the dragon hunting mission and receives the Heart of the Dragon Slayer with the item information updated. The hero, blessed by the goddess, decapitated the dragon. The heart was torn out and forged in the proof of the fall while the nameless hero rested there, leaving only this proof of the slaughter. The item grants 50% more spirit and 100% more strength, ignores the talents of the dragon race, increases damage against dragons by 500%, and has a single charge that summons the souls of heroes from the past. The protagonist realizes that he is becoming so strong that the status bonuses seem unreal, and calling him a walking humanoid boss would not be an exaggeration. However, the final reward arrives, as the system detects the boss's death and generates a boss minion. Wings of Black Flames. Athos will serve as a minion and fight alongside his master. Yang approaches the dragon, caresses him, and says they have met again like old friends, knowing that erasing his memories was cruel, but perhaps this is either a blessing or a curse. With no time for sentimentality, he climbs onto the dragon and orders him to go straight to the fortress, and the dragon begins to fly. Meanwhile, the elf princess wanders alone, notices that the dragons have disappeared, and realizes that the black dragon has been defeated without knowing who is capable of doing it. When she looks up at the sky, she sees the dragon approaching and screams in shock because his aura had disappeared, until she is stunned to see the protagonist extend his hand and call her princess, saying that he has come to rescue her. Lilith still cannot understand why there is a human riding the black dragon. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.